I called my boyfriend crying because my mom passed away and needed him home, but he chose drinks with the boys over consoling me, then told his friends I was using her death to control him, so now he gets to see how controlling single life can be. Posted by you/Thorough Dearest. I have tried posting this too many times. I've never used Reddit before, only seen videos, but I'm hoping to get some much needed insight. I have been in a relationship with my boyfriend for 4 years. Our relationship has been very good for the most part, some fights here and there but nothing worth noting, until a week ago. I got a call from my brother telling me my mom had passed away last Friday. Growing up, I was never super close with her, we were usually fighting, but over the last 5 years our relationship improved tremendously. We text throughout the week, and every Sunday I would go on 4 to 5 hour drives with her on speaker to keep me company, talking about anything and everything under the sun. She became my best friend. For context, my boyfriend knows how close we had gotten and had even joined me for some of those drives. Now is the problem. My boyfriend has a fairly close group of friends that he keeps up with, usually gaming with them throughout the week. Then, once a month, him and his friends will hang out and drink. He let me know a few days prior that he would be hanging out with them that Friday. When I got the news, I immediately called him, breaking down and telling him I didn't know what to do and that I knew I needed to be with him tonight. He went from consoling me to saying, "I let you know a few days ago I have plans with my friends, I only get to see them once a month." I told him I understood, but I really needed him and I'm sure they would reschedule, to which he said they definitely wouldn't be able to as they all have their own responsibilities. After some more time going back and forth, I gave in and said I would be okay with him going as long as he left early. Since he leaves at 7 p.m., I said I would like for him to come back by 11. He agreed. I spent the night going through texts with her, photos, everything I could. I tried to distract myself with other things but nothing worked. Eventually, 10 p.m. rolls around and I text my boyfriend, "Will you be leaving in an hour?" To which he responds, "You told me 12, so I'll be leaving then." I told him I said 11 and I was standing by that. He didn't respond after, and came home at 12. I asked him why he didn't reply and why he didn't just come back an hour earlier. He immediately got upset with me, telling me I was being selfish for ruining his night with his friends. Him spending an extra hour there means nothing since he still left early, and I would be fine since I didn't spend my childhood with her anyways. I told him I didn't even want him to go out with them that day to begin with since I had just gotten the news, but I agreed to it under that specific condition, and so had he. He could also just catch up with his friends when they gamed during the week. The fight ended with him telling me I was again being selfish as he doesn't get to see them in person often, and that I shouldn't expect him to drop everything for me. We've been fairly cold to each other since, which has left me overthinking and reevaluating our relationship. On one hand, I'm extremely heartbroken he wasn't there for me and know that's not something I want for my future, but on the other hand, his words have definitely gotten to me and I feel bad for separating him from his friends. I also know it would break me more to lose someone else so close to me. Where do I go from here? Top comments. Commenter 1, if my mother passed away and my partner didn't come home from being with his friends, that would be it for me. He's trying to tell you what he didn't do was bad because he told you it was happening, you weren't close with her in childhood, and is genuinely trying to make it your problem. You're grieving, and your boyfriend of 4 years doesn't think it's a big deal. Create a plan and end this relationship. Commenter 2, he is totally Darvoing her. Darvo is shorthand for classic abuser responses, it stands for deny, act, reverse victim, and offender. Your boyfriend did all of them. He denied that he agreed to come home at 11, he attacked you for asking him for emotional support, and then made himself the victim of your demands, instead of letting you be the child who just lost her mother and needs emotional support. Get out now. This is a man who will always choose his needs over yours. Commenter 3, sounds like the boys are more important to him than his girlfriend and her intense grief. My wife would have filed for divorce the next day if I went out with friends after her mother passed last year. Commenter 4, I've treated complete strangers as more of a priority than your boyfriend treats you. If I had met someone that day and they found out their mom just passed, I wouldn't leave them to go drinking, let alone if they were someone I care about. End it. This guy doesn't care about you at all. Update, 2 days later. I want to start off by saying thank you so much to everyone that commented. I spent a good while reading every single comment, so for everyone that gave me advice and shared their stories, please know I am extremely grateful for you. I also really appreciate everyone that gave me their condolences. Now for the update. A little while after posting, one of my boyfriend's friends reached out to me. He asked me if I had posted it, because if I did, he had something to tell me. I said yes, and he told me before my boyfriend left their boys' night, he had started complaining about me to everyone there, telling them I was being a psycho and forcing him to leave. He completely lied about my relationship with my mom and told them I wasn't close with her at all, rarely talked to her, anytime I mentioned her I did nothing but badmouth her, and that I was using her passing as a way to control him. I also learned throughout our entire relationship he'd tell his friends about every fight of ours and again would completely lie about everything that happened in them. For context, I'm not close with any of his friends and he had apparently told them I was faking my personality whenever I interacted with them and badmouthed them when they weren't around as well. Ironic, so I don't necessarily blame them for believing it. The only reason why his friend reached out was because my boyfriend had done the same thing in past relationships, and he was starting to get suspicious and tired of it. I confronted my boyfriend about it afterwards, and he denied everything for a while before ultimately admitting to it all. He started crying, saying he doesn't know why he's like this but that he loves me, can't live without me, anything and everything you can think of. I packed whatever I could and told him I needed time to think. I'd be staying with my brother in the meantime as I had to drive out to go to my mom's funeral and go through her things, so, for the few that asked if I had another support system, my family lives a few states away as my boyfriend, and I started out long distance, and I moved away from them a couple years ago for him. The few new friends I made are away traveling for the summer, which I couldn't join in on for numerous reasons. I also couldn't get out of bed for the majority of the week, so I didn't leave sooner. What he didn't know at the time was that I didn't need time to think, and I had already decided I would not be coming back. As I said in my original post, there was nothing awful worth noting about him during our relationship. He didn't treat me exceptionally well, but not terrible either. So, prior to his friend reaching out, I genuinely didn't know what to think of the situation. To me, it was out of character for him. My main thought was the news of her passing might have hurt him a lot as well, and he didn't know how to handle it. But, I now know that he was an entirely different person with his friends, and what was out of character for me, was completely in character for them. It definitely scares me to think of what would have happened if I didn't post and never learned the things he was saying when I wasn't around. I also have no clue what I'd do if another life-changing event happened and put something else above being there for me. So, to everyone that wanted an update, just know I have completely removed him from my life. No amount of tears and fake apologies will convince me otherwise. He wasn't there when I needed him and that's enough, but the lying and fake stories he'd share on top of that is terrifying. I know my mom would rip me a new one if she heard all of this, and I did anything other than leave him. I will always be grateful for this little corner of the internet and the awful future it saved me from.
My dad's affair partner messaged me on Facebook thinking I knew about their relationship, so I convinced her she was just one of many side pieces, but now I'm wondering if destroying their love was too savage even for a cheater. Posted by you/nuclear throwaway 1234. Hi Reddit, I have a juicy one for you. I say that because the actual drama has largely played itself out, but I'm feeling some guilt over what I've done, and could use advice on how to move forward. Using a throwaway and changing some details just to be safe. Background on my family is that it's been pretty idyllic. My folks have always gotten on well, are strong communicators, parented myself and my younger siblings as a team, and were very good parents. My teenage years were a rough patch in my relationship with my father, but since I left for college at 18, we really began getting along. When I pictured a strong marriage, I pictured my parents, bar none. The other day, it all came crashing down. This entire story takes place over roughly an hour. I received a Facebook message request from a stranger. I've been trying to fill an empty spot in my apartment, so I was in the habit of accepting these requests, and figured it was someone interested in the room. The initial messages were odd, however. Broken English, small talk, no mention of an apartment. I then figured it was a scam of some sort, so I of course kept messaging the woman to see where it went and waste their time. Then, she made a comment about my sister, and said that her boyfriend talks about me and my sister all the time. I asked who her boyfriend was. She replied, "Your dad, he doesn't talk about me?" At this point, I assumed I was being blackmailed or scammed. My father's career led him to a very high-profile corporate job with a massive international company, so it was definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Certainly my father wasn't cheating on my mother. Then she sent photos, one of those tri-frame Instagram photos. Her on the beach with a man who was no doubt my father. Selfies with arms around each other, one with her kissing him on the cheek. I thought, okay, this could be real. Or, that could be some younger female coworker who's just overly affectionate, and dad indulged her in a selfie. This scammer found it and is using it. Around this time, I started getting unprompted, unrelated texts from my father. How are you, how are things going, etc. Odd timing, right? Thinking on my feet, I took a new approach. When she asked again if my father had mentioned his girlfriend to me, I quickly responded, yes, of course, sorry, I just wasn't sure which one you were. My thinking was that if this was a scam, saying my father was routinely unfaithful to my mother and dated multiple women at once removed their leverage. If this was real, then I'd throw a wrench in my dad's affair and force the truth out. Oh boy, did I get what I bargained for. The woman freaked out, frantic questions about who this made-up other woman was. I answered them all, and concocted a story about a woman I'd met just a few months prior, who was from the country my father works in regularly. I made up a name, said my father had been dating women on the side for years, etc. She bought it entirely. The woman asked to speak on the phone, so I obliged. At this point, I realized this was real. The woman was in hysterics, sobbing about how she thought my father loved her, how could he do this, so on and so forth. I kept playing it cool and acted sympathetic, spinning fiction that my father had been a player for years and that he was usually upfront with his girlfriends about seeing other women, and that I was so sorry she had to hear from me. This let me learn who she was and how long the affair had been going on. Then, she asks if I'd be willing to be on a three-way call with her and my father, without his knowledge. I immediately said yes. Within 60 seconds, I was muted on a three-way call listening to my father console this strange woman, who I had fully convinced that she was one of many side chicks, and explained to her that I was attempting to sabotage their relationship because of what I'd just learned. He didn't know that his father was cheating on his mother. He didn't know that his parents are getting a divorce, and now he's just learned that from a stranger. He explained. At this point, I hopped on the call and let him know that, actually, I had learned about the divorce from him, since his insecure girlfriend of a mistress hadn't said anything about the divorce yet. He said, "Oh, Christ," and I left the call. I called my mother immediately afterwards to figure out what was going on. She let me know that the two of them had been going through the early stages of a divorce for several months, that it was amicable and they both thought it best, and had plans to tell all three of us once things were more finalized. She said that she had only learned of the affair, however, a few days prior to this incident. The following morning, after a lengthy and heated discussion with my parents, I sent an email to both of them outlining why I was so hurt by this. I don't care about them getting divorced. I trust them to do it kindly and amicably, and they both seem intent on doing it that way as well. I did care about this insane woman thinking it was okay to contact me, my father probing me once he realized that I had been contacted by his girlfriend, my father consoling his girlfriend of more than 3 months instead of contacting me once he realized that I knew about the affair, and my father carrying on an affair and endangering his wife and children, rather than just waiting until after the separation. Ultimately, I told my father not to contact me until I had reconciled what kind of relationship I want to have with him at this point. Here's where I need advice. I feel guilty about what I did. I immediately, ruthlessly, and effectively destroyed the relationship that my father had with this woman, who for her part at least seemed to really love him and feel loved by him. She is now convinced that he was cheating on her too. While it's obviously my dad's own fault for starting this relationship in secret while he was still with my mother, I still wonder if I've destroyed something that could have been really good for my dad. I'm also kind of shocked at myself for being able and willing to manipulate people like that. I also don't know where to go from here. I'm absolutely disgusted by my father and have lost a lot of respect for him. I'm not the one being cheated on, but I definitely feel like I've been put second fiddle to his girlfriend of more than 3 months. The damage control should have been with his son, not his mistress, right? Even so, I love my father, and have been building a wonderful relationship with him over the last 4 to 6 years especially. I don't want to throw that all away. I can't figure out in my head what it is I want him to say or do that will allow me to forgive him. I would love any thoughts on my behavior in this situation, or how I can reconcile my love for my dad with this absolute loss of respect I have for him. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'm a little confused by these timelines. You said your father was with this new woman for a few months. You said your mother said they had been planning the divorce for a few months. It sounds like their relationship is already done. Do you know whether your father's new relationship started after they had agreed to a divorce? Or after they had already ended it? The reason I'm asking is because a divorce is just a legal proceeding to dissolve the marriage. Once they've agreed to the divorce, the relationship is done. Calling it an affair if it started after the previous relationship ended seems like a stretch. The timeline of a marriage and a relationship are usually not the same. A relationship usually begins well before a marriage and ends well before a divorce. It would be like saying an affair isn't an affair if the couple is only engaged and not yet married. While it's not very classy to start a new relationship that quickly, if he did, I could see why he wouldn't tell your mom, knowing it would probably hurt her to move on so quickly. Though in the case of a divorce after a long marriage, at least one of the two parties, many times both in an amicable divorce, usually has been done in their mind long before it got to the point of starting divorce proceedings. Ops response. You said your mother said they had been planning the divorce for a few months. It sounds like their relationship is already done. Do you know whether your father's new relationship started after they had agreed to a divorce? After speaking with my parents, individually and together, I've learned that the affair was happening before divorce talks or separation had started. My folks have also, still, not yet engaged in any legal proceedings, just discussions with each other and their pastor. My mom also did not learn of the affair until nearly 3 months after it had started. The reason I'm asking is because a divorce is just a legal proceeding to dissolve the marriage. Once they've agreed to the divorce, the relationship is done. Calling it an affair if it started after the previous relationship ended seems like a stretch. Now, I did not know this at the time I made my decisions, but in the aftermath I've confirmed that it did indeed begin before the marriage had ended by any definition. The timing was indeed close. Commenter 2. I can see both sides, honestly. He did something that completely broke your trust, kept it secret, and consoled someone who's a complete stranger to you as you learned of divorce from his own mouth. Meanwhile, you kinda walked right into that last one by accepting a 3-way call. Then went nuclear. I understand that emotion can completely sweep people away, especially something big like affairs and divorce, but you are 25 years old. Silent three-way calls are high school tier. If you want to fix this, reach out to your mom and talk it out with her first. Then reach out to your dad when you've got a better idea about what's going on. Explain to both of them that they should not have lied and hid this from you, and that this random woman contacting you hit you like a damned wrecking ball. They shouldn't be surprised about how it played out. Your dad could have handled this whole thing way better, but then again you could have as well. Ops response. I understand that emotion can completely sweep people away, especially something big like affairs and divorce, but you are 25 years old. Silent three-way calls are high school tier. Well sure, but again I took this approach to confirm what was happening. At this point I was not fully sure it wasn't a scam. Revealing myself on the call was absolutely an emotionally driven decision, though, definitely not my most mature moment. My other point is that my dad clearly knew that I knew what was up before he accepted the call from his girlfriend, since he was sending me roundabout probing messages. I think that his response should have been to ignore his affair partner and contact me immediately and directly to explain the situation, especially since my mom was already aware of the whole thing, I learned later. If you want to fix this, reach out to your mom and talk it out with her first. Then reach out to your dad when you've got a better idea about what's going on. Explain to both of them that they should not have lied and hid this from you, and that this random woman contacting you hit you like a damned wrecking ball. They shouldn't be surprised about how it played out. Already taken these steps. I'm trying to figure out how to move forward from here. I don't want to lose my relationship with my father, but I'm struggling to see how I can forgive him for the deception and disrespect. Update, 11 days later. Wanted to post an update since the op got a decent amount of attention and the advice was really helpful. Firstly, thanks to everyone who commented. I got some really reassuring advice, some challenging points of view that helped me be more introspective, and some rather flattering remarks about my quick thinking. Y'all really helped me feel in control and added some context to my perspective, so thank you. Since my post, a few things have happened. My parents spoke as a pair to each of our family members individually, my siblings, but also my aunts and uncles, grandparents, etc., to let them know about the divorce, the affair, and about what went down between me, my father, and this other woman. My family is pretty universally upset with my father. Not that I want everyone hating on him, but he did, at best, screw up royally, and it's good to know that no one is choosing teams instead of acknowledging who did wrong. My parents have both blocked this other woman from all phone lines, social media, etc. This is in part why the rest of the family was notified, so that they'd be aware if this woman tried to make contact. After the above, we learned that this woman had attempted to contact my 17-year-old sister 24 hours before the events of my op. My sister missed the messages and didn't see them until after everything happened and was out in the open. Still not speaking with my father, but have talked with other family about what's going on. As for how I'm feeling about the situation, any guilt that I had for what I did vanished the second I learned that this woman tried to contact my sister first. While my response was to tear this whole thing apart as quickly and effectively as I could, I cannot imagine what my poor little sister would have gone through if she'd had contact with this woman. I'm livid that she thought this was even remotely appropriate, and I'm livid that my father at any point thought this was a safe or stable person to involve himself with. Therefore, I don't feel even a bit guilty about what I did any longer. I'm staying no contact with my father until I sort through what I want to hear from him, and seeking counseling to talk through how my anger in this moment, at this situation, is undoubtedly linked in all sorts of messy ways to my upbringing, etc. Crazy how hard it is to find a LPC with a more than 3-month waiting list. But I'll get there. Thanks again for the great comments on my op. It really helped me judge which of my feelings were valid, and where I needed to cut myself a break. I think I'm in a better place now, but of course would love to hear any further advice or similar stories that y'all think might be helpful, or answer questions. Cheers. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Interesting to hear about how things shook out with your sister. All that anger and protectiveness that you instantly felt when you found out that she tried to get to her? You deserve that as well, man. The fact that she tried to reach out to any of his children, regardless of their age, is disgusting. Ops response. Yeah, it really changed my perspective on things. Another reason I'm glad I've taken some time to myself rather than hashing things out with my father right away, because this will definitely be a part of that conversation.
My boss tried to force me to travel while pregnant, then demanded I give my colleague half my commission because I couldn't fly, but now she's the one who's forced to deal with upper management breathing down her neck. Posted by you/longjumping, Lab 3092. I have been with my current employer for 5 years. I am in England. I am currently 21 weeks pregnant. I informed my manager at 6 weeks due to medical history and health issues. So I travel for work, mostly to Europe and the US, and work in events. I don't know if it's worth mentioning, only a tiny portion of my job is the event itself, most of it is research and sales marketing. I have nothing to do with venues, logistics, food, or any of the stereotypical things you think of when you think of a job in events. I'm paid commission based on sales revenue for events I have done all the research, agenda writing, etc. for. Separate to this, I also sometimes have to support as an extra pair of hands, which I have never been paid extra for. So my manager has been fairly awful to me about not being able to travel. Due to pregnancy-related medical issues, I have a note from my doctor saying I'm not allowed to fly, and this voids my company travel insurance, which would make me feel very unsafe even trying to fly. Not only this, but I've been on bed rest for most of my pregnancy. She forced me to go to one event at 7 weeks pregnant, a week after I told her, telling me I'd lose my £3,000 commission if I didn't go. At the event itself, I ended up bedridden, unable to do anything, and we were short-staffed. A number of people asked her why I still went, including her manager, and she pretended she didn't know I was pregnant or ill. Because I'd physically gone, though, I still got my commission. After that, I explicitly told HR and my manager's manager about my pregnancy and medical issues, and they have been very supportive, offering me fully flexible working, completely work from home, no pressure to travel abroad, time off for appointments, etc. My manager, however, has continued to be awful, giving me grief for midwife appointments, being very inflexible over deadlines, expecting me to work when hospitalized on an IV drip, continuously asking me when I'm coming back to the office, etc. This is all directly against what she has been told by HR and by her manager. I have pretty much just rolled my eyes and left her to it, but then this week there was another event which I'd done all the work for, but it was pre-agreed that my colleague would cover for me on the day and I would get the commission. I did everything I could for this, staying online until midnight every day so I could make sure to help my colleague, sending detailed notes in advance, all of the preparation work, research, etc. This was all agreed months ago. I don't know if it's worth mentioning this event was in the US. I feel extremely unsafe going to the US as a pregnant woman with the current political climate, especially with a high-risk pregnancy. My manager then called me on Friday saying she thinks it's unfair my colleague didn't get paid and asked me to give her £1,600 of my commission because it's unfair she had to cover for me when I refused to travel. I said no. She asked again whether I would consider it. I said no. I then sent her a detailed email with all the work I had done, what we had agreed in advance, and saying I felt it was pregnancy discrimination to penalize me. She responded via a Teams message saying, "Why did you send me such a long email?" And I said because some things need to be formal and in writing. She's now saying she wants to blanket change the policy so that if people can't travel for any reason, their commission is docked. Our contracts say we have to travel, so in the 5 years I've been here, people have only ever not traveled for extremely serious reasons, usually for severe health conditions. There is zero precedent for anyone losing commission, and this seems to be a policy she is purely pushing to introduce on the back of my pregnancy. Nobody gave any grief to my colleague who had cancer last year. I guess, do I let this go? Should I complain? I've said nothing to HR about her so far, although they have told her off of their own accord for things they picked up on without me saying anything. Do I wait and see if she actually introduces this new policy and argue about it retrospectively? Do I get formal legal advice? Am I actually in the wrong here, or do I need to drop it? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Hello. I am not a lawyer, but I am an events producer in London and recently had a baby. I traveled at 13 weeks to EU, 26 weeks to USA, and 31 weeks to EU. It was tough and I declined to travel to one of my events in C at 32 weeks and received my full commission. Not traveling due to pregnancy should be a reasonable accommodation, and you need to go to HR ASAP and tell them what your manager has done. Your commission is based on the sale of your product, not just your attendance at the event. If that were the case, then our new BDM would be getting full commission on a 2M+ show despite joining 2 weeks ago, which is silly. Ops response. Yeah, I do production. Was trying and failing to be vague, haha. Glad your company was nice about it, maybe should move there once mat leave is over. Right, this is my issue. My colleague covered for me, but I don't think she should get commission on a £1.1 million event that she wasn't involved in until literally the day of, and I don't think it should come out of mine when I've been working on it since last September and have hit every single KPI and done everything asked of me, except physically getting on a plane. Giving her something as a gesture would be nice, but frankly has nothing to do with me. That's a conversation between her and finance, HR, literally anyone else. Commenter 1. I feel like events is notorious for awful MAP policies since we have these in-person products. A parallel you could make to HR would be, do staff who come to run theaters or liaise with speakers etc. on the day also get production commission? Since they're doing production work on site? Silly, and I really hope this gets sorted in your favor. It's pretty clear your boss has likely promised your colleague some commission and is trying to cover her butt. But her proposed policy is discriminatory since any reason is super vague and clearly aimed at you, the pregnant employee. Ops response. Yeah, I feel like the fact it's a policy clearly aimed at me and that had never even been talked about prior to my pregnancy makes a fairly strong case for discrimination. Commenter 2. Please make a log of every interaction you have had with your manager and file a formal complaint against her, and also include the amount of extra hours you have been working, which is usually also have to be signed off. Please don't put yourself at risk due to one manager causing an issue, especially when HR have been so accommodating. They cannot fire you or let you go when you have all the evidence surrounding your manager, as that would be a very easy discrimination and unfair dismissal case. TBH, very high grounds for discrimination case anyway, so go straight to HR and raise a formal complaint and log any other bad interactions moving forward. Update, 3 months later. A minor update, as a few people asked for one and I'd forgotten. I am now 8 months pregnant and mat leave will be starting next month, so almost done with all the work drama. So I took everyone's advice and spoke to HR and upper management, which I was super worried about doing. They were actually extremely supportive. I told them I wanted to create as little friction as possible, so I framed it as wanting a resolution before the issues escalated further, rather than it being a formal complaint. I think HR and upper management were worried about me turning it into a formal complaint, as they pretty much agreed to everything I asked, including giving me confirmation in writing that none of my commission would be withheld as a result of me being unable to travel while pregnant. They said it would be halved while I am actually on maternity leave, which is fair enough as I won't be working. They also put together a helpful document for my manager on how to speak to and support pregnant employees, but framed it as something coming from them to support her rather than as me making a formal complaint and her being told off. Things like if your employee is hospitalized and on a drip, maybe just maybe give them the day off work. I had to go to upper management about her again last week, sadly. I'd planned to come in to say goodbye to everyone before my mat leave started, as I'm fully work from home for these last few weeks, as agreed with HR. I've been there almost 6 years, so it would have been sad to leave without saying goodbye. We had a social plan for the afternoon, so I wanted to swing by for a bit. However, I wasn't well enough to make it in for 9 a.m., and she basically told me that if I could only come in for lunchtime, not to bother at all because upper management will not be happy with that. Shocker, I contacted upper management directly and asked whether it would be an issue for me to just come in at lunch. They said it was not an issue at all and that, of course, I should have the opportunity to say goodbye. Manager is now fuming I went over her head and got her told off, but oh well. Anyway. I thought people would appreciate the update that HR and senior management aren't always monsters. They were actually very supportive and have been throughout my pregnancy. I'm sure they had ulterior motives in not wanting a pregnant woman to cause them a lawsuit or bad press, but fine. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I feel your manager needs some soft skill training after this. It can't be a coincidence that she's fumbled twice on this. You may need to highlight to your upper management about this, but then again, I wouldn't care if I were you, as you're off on maternity. Ops response. Haha, it's been significantly more than twice. The commission cut was just the final straw for me in terms of putting up with it. I think the document they sent her was their attempt at soft skill training. And she did get marginally better afterwards. The not wanting to let me say goodbye to my colleagues thing was her first misstep in a couple of months. Commenter 2. I suspect she has an issue with either you specifically or pregnant women. Either way, it's either discrimination or bullying. Both should be raised as a formal complaint if you have multiple examples of it. Ops response. It's pregnant women. She was nice to me pre-pregnancy. Commenter 3. Is your manager childless not by choice? Ops response. Correct, and I genuinely feel awful for her. We talked a lot about it pre me getting pregnant, as I had a rough time too. I know it sucks, and in an ideal world I'd never mention my pregnancy to her, but she's my manager, and she needs to know about it, at least insofar as it impacts my work, e.g. travel and time off. My sister had me babysitting her boys 20 hours a week for free, then guilt-tripped me with voice messages of them crying when I said no, so now she's disappeared completely and the kids are in foster care. Posted by you/pretend_mode_9494. I'm 29F, child-free by choice. My sister Carlene is 27F, has 2 boys ages 3.5 and 2. We live close to each other, and I've been in their lives since the beginning. We are each other's only family. We come from a broken and dysfunctional family. I love the boys, but they are a lot of work, especially on top of my own career in social work and my personal reasons for not wanting kids of my own. I watch them, help out, babysit probably 10 to 20 hours a week currently, and it's getting exhausting. The times I've been needed have slowly increased, and over the last 7-ish months it's been like this. At first it was Carlene looking for a part-time job, going to mandated courses to get unemployment, occasional movie nights with friends, etc., which I was okay with. Now I spend most of my free time at their house. Lately the cause has been that her best friend's mom is passing, and Carlene needs to be there. She's a single mom, and I get that it's hard, but recently I feel like she's using me, and I rarely see my fiancé as we both work shifts that change all the time. Sometimes when she's asked me to watch them and I've had some other plans, Carlene sends me a voice message of the boys crying, missing me, guilt-tripping me, saying it's such a shame I care more about myself than them. Telling me she would ask someone else if she had anyone else to ask. saying really mean things about me being selfish for wanting to enjoy date night when she has to choose between her kids and her best friend's dying mom. I could handle if that's all it was, but now it's also affecting the next time we meet. When I get there, the house is a mess, there's nothing to eat, and they happen to have a day for a shower, bath, or Carlene casually mentions I need to put together a gym bag or something similar for them for the next day. These weird, extra things that are obviously revenge. The first time this happened, I assumed she'd be grateful I helped where I could, but it wouldn't be an issue if I didn't have time to do everything. I was quickly proven wrong. Before she got home, she casually asked if I had done the extra things, and when I hadn't, not all anyway, she suddenly had to stay a little later. This happened a few times, and I'm ashamed to admit it took me too long to understand what was happening. I was just glad she was updating me on her estimated arrival time. She usually never did that. Another thing she does for revenge, I feel like, could be my exhausted interpretation, is not prepare meals for the kids, or even leave money. When I go to the store, she promises to pay me back, but, you guessed it, tries to guilt me into saying she doesn't have to pay. She's also not kept her word about some things she'd promised, saying she doesn't want to do things for me if I can't help her with the boys. The excuses and backtracking on stuff start immediately if I don't do exactly what she wants. The latest example, I asked to borrow a dress for a wedding because I didn't want to buy one, and we had always borrowed each other's clothes, and she agreed. 4 days before the wedding, I couldn't show up as fast as she wanted on a short notice, so she said I could forget about borrowing the dress. She'd forgotten she'd need it herself. I had to panic buy one. Last month she promised to pick me up after leaving my car for some maintenance, and she didn't show up. I was stranded. Took her 2.5 hours to answer her phone and get there. She also had the audacity to huff and puff about how inconvenient it was she had to drive me. Sorry this is so long, but it's been mind-blowing writing this all down and seeing what I'm putting up with. I'm such a doormat. So yesterday I told her I couldn't come today when she called desperately needing me to watch the boys for the evening, and when she started her tirade of me being selfish, I kind of just snapped. I told her to shut up and listen. If she thought I was that horrible of a human and so selfish, she had two options. Either stop relying on me so much and letting her kids be exposed to my selfishness, or I'll really start being selfish and will not watch them free of charge ever again, never do anything extra without being compensated. She hung up without saying anything. After I had stopped shaking, I hate confrontation as you can imagine, I started to really panic as I feel like I just lost my last remaining family member. My fiancé said it was long time coming and I should have stood up for myself ages ago, but he's biased as he loves me. I don't really have time for proper friends outside work colleagues, so I don't know who else to ask if I made the biggest mistake of my life. What if I don't see my nephews again? What if I had just done it a bit longer and she'd eased a bit? Am I the jerk for telling her to choose between my options? Edit to add, my two examples seem like I ask her or need her for stuff often, which I don't. The promises she breaks can be just as simple as having food for the boys for when I'm with them. The dress and leaving me without a ride are just specific events that were easier to explain, but I quickly realized it's not accurate. Additional information from up. Thanks for all the replies, there's been so many helpful ones already. I've tried to at least answer all questions. I just have to plan out the boundaries and then practice how to set them and maybe even write down answers for the rebuttals I know she'll have. For those worried about my fiancé, he's a quiet, steady rock for me. He's been somewhat enjoying his gaming time without me around, so I hope he hasn't suffered too much. I'll focus on communicating with him better too. We're getting married in summer of 26, so we'll have to focus on us. Update 1, 3 days later. A lot has happened. I'm trying to write concisely. During the first 24 hours after me telling her that ultimatum, I decided not to answer her calls or texts to let her cool down. She called 77 times, sent over 100 texts and voice messages. They're mostly just her calling me a horrible person who abandons her family. I outlined a few rules with my fiancé's help for the future if she comes to her senses and agrees to my terms. I wanted them to be ready even though it looked like she will never come around. I had conditions like I could watch them up to 3 times in 2 weeks, not more than 4 hours at a time. Meals needed to be provided. No bath time or bedtime. I'm not spending any money. I got messages from an unknown number, fiancé says it's an app or something, saying how horrible of a sister I am because now they have to watch their mom die alone without Carlene there to comfort them. Based on the suspicions I had earlier and the language similarities, I think this was my sister pretending to be her friend. I talked to my supervisor on Friday afternoon and asked for her opinion. I first asked if it was okay to talk about personal stuff, and she was great about it. I don't work with children, and CPS has never been a part of my work, so I wanted to double-check with someone more senior. We made a report together on Carlene. The supervisor said it's better to do so, especially now that it's escalated, and she might retaliate against me by hurting the boys in some way as she's obviously not above that. I'm probably going to give her next week to cool off before resuming contact, and depending on what the voice messages say then, I might contact her. If they are as abusive as now, I probably won't respond at all. It makes me unbelievably upset, but I hope the boys will also get a more stable environment without me, as she's using them as pawns with me. Fiancé says hello and wants everyone to know he's here for me and wants to assure everyone I'm not really that bad of a doormat, just for Carlene for some reason. I'm looking into counseling through my work, it's too expensive out of pocket. Thanks for the messages and the swift kicks I obviously needed. For some reason I've become blind to my sister's behavior and was only concerned whether I'd lose the boys from my life. Probably will update if I resume contact with my sister if people want to know how it goes. Additional information from Up. It's only Wednesday and I just blocked her. I don't understand when she sleeps. I've been getting messages, calls every 2 to 4 hours since last week. I'm crying because it feels like I'm shutting my nephews out, but this is exhausting. My fiancé has been checking the messages twice a day, making sure there's nothing important in between. I haven't read any of them. It's just her calling me names and cursing at this point, not even coherent sentences. Nothing on the CPS report yet. Update 2, 1 week later. Boring update, but my fiancé unblocked Carlene for a few hours to see if she was still messaging abusive stuff. She was. Nothing new there. CPS called and asked for more info, which I provided. They wanted to know specific dates and whether I had proof, and I sent them a lot of screenshots of messages with Carlene. I chose to make the report with my name on it as I felt like it added credibility. And it also kind of felt like a punishment for me to use my name, especially after waiting so long to make the report, meaning my sister could now also know for sure it was me who made the report and I'd face the consequences for it. I've had one Zoom appointment with a psychologist through my work. It's been great so far, and I already got homework on boundaries. Seems fast, but she said they're trained to move quickly as we are usually provided 5 visits, and there should be progress in that time. I haven't heard from Carlene or the kids other than the abusive messages. I'm ashamed to say I've driven by the house a couple of times just to see if everything looks normal, and it does. I had a talk with my fiancé after a commenter suggested the kids might need to be removed from Carlene and if we were planning on fostering, whatever if it came to that. We aren't. We don't want kids and have known that from the beginning. The day-to-day life as a family with kids sounds absolutely horrible, to be honest. There's nothing that appeals to us. We don't even want pets. We would become resentful and probably would lose ourselves in the process if we went there. I don't know how much there is to update after this, maybe if the contact resumes, but honestly I'm afraid to send her anything as she's just insulting me. I don't think she'd even really read what I wrote if I tried. Update 3, 4 days later. Today was my birthday. I'm 30, yay, and I just had an ordinary work day. When I got home my sister was waiting for me. Fiancé wasn't home yet. Carlene congratulated me and actually seemed normal at first, but when I couldn't behave like I normally would, attentive, asking how I could help her, etc., she got irritated. She said she'd known I never loved the boys and was only jealous I didn't have kids. I tried to make them love me more and then I'd falsify reports to CPS and get custody. I actually kind of laughed, it was so ridiculous. I told her I don't even want kids and wouldn't take hers even if they were offered. Might have been a cruel thing to say, but I'm just so tired. She somehow got angrier and saying how horrible the boys will now feel knowing I'd abandoned them and proving I didn't love them. I knew I couldn't win with her, so I just asked why she was here and where the kids were. Carlene said their whereabouts were none of my business, fair enough, and she was here to tell me I'd never see them again. I'd accepted that as a possibility, or even probable, so I didn't really react, which made her even angrier. She tried to grab me, but I'd stood about 6 feet away so she couldn't reach me, and I just ran inside the building and closed the door behind me. Luckily it locks automatically. She followed, so I shouted through the door that I would call the police if she didn't leave. She kicked the door and left without saying anything. I went to our apartment and sat on the floor. My hands were shaking so I couldn't write, but I made a voice recording on my phone on everything in case I need to contact the police or a lawyer or something. After around 20 minutes just breathing, the door lock rattled, and I got really scared until I understood it was my fiancé getting home from work. I was still on the floor, so he obviously freaked out. I told him everything, and he said we should make a police report and also update the CPS people about Carlene's irregular behavior. I still feel weirded out reporting her because we endured much worse as kids and don't think anyone reported our parents, but my fiancé asked if I would make this report at work if it was someone else's family. I said it's not fair as I don't work with kids for this exact reason, but I guess I'd report it. It's getting late and I can't sleep, worrying about making the police report tomorrow and wondering what to tell the CPS. I guess I'll explain the whole thing and they decide what's relevant. Oh, CPS let us know on Monday, I think, that my sister is under investigation and gave me the contact info for their caseworker, so at least that report will be easy to make. Update 4, 1 month later. Sorry it took a while, but I've been trying to keep busy, taking extra shifts at work, as I miss the boys. I haven't heard from them at all since my sister kicked at our door. CPS has been in contact a few times, but as we let them know we wouldn't be willing to take the boys unless absolutely necessary, not even for a short foster placement, they haven't been telling us as much about their situation. It feels like we don't know much anymore, but I guess we're outsiders now, so I get it. The family court date is set for next month, and we're debating whether to ask if we can go, but I honestly think they wouldn't allow it now as we have nothing to do with the solution. I don't know whether we would have been able to attend even if we agreed to foster them. Usually the family courts here are quite closed. As far as the boys go, I've accepted I'll probably never see them again. I wish that if I can keep tabs on them I can reintroduce myself when they're 10 years or so older and have their own phones, etc. It's far away, but I have to have something to look forward to. CPS is actively still investigating. Until they stopped telling us anything it sounded quite sure that at least a short foster placement was needed. My sister failed to show up to mandatory meetings, wasn't available when they tried to reach out to her, and at least once Carlene arrived at the house without the kids just as the CPS came by, and they realized the kids had been home alone for the time Carlene was gone. They contacted me to ask if I knew where my sister was and for how long, but I had stopped talking to her at that point. Carlene said she'd just dropped off something the street over, so she was gone for less than 3 minutes. I don't know if I believe that, and the CPS didn't think so either. The reason we can't take the boys is mainly our health. I have a chronic illness, and my fiancé is in a wheelchair. We live in a one-bedroom apartment, and having the boys' beds and stuff would make it inaccessible for a wheelchair, and that's just not okay. In addition, we just don't want kids at all. I don't think I'd be a great parent and can't expect my fiancé to parent either as he didn't sign up for it either. I hope the boys are small enough so that they are easy to place, whether temporarily or permanently. It breaks my heart, but at the same time I just can't do it. Update 5 months later. I last updated in late March, not knowing how the custody proceedings would go in family court. They were planned for April. Apparently the first court date came and went without my sister there. She didn't notify them either, she just didn't show up. The next date was set for late July, and they issued fines if she didn't show up again, and sent a certified letter telling her that if she's not present, the case can still move forward. They wanted to make sure she wasn't just trying to delay things by staying away. The boys were placed together with a family, and they resumed contact with us and wanted us to meet them. They are now 4 and almost 3 years old. It had been several weeks, around 10, since we last met, so they were shy at the beginning, but I think at least the older one recognized us. They were timid and quiet, but I guess they haven't settled in yet. This family is planning on having them as long as needed, and I'm glad. They looked healthier, gained some weight and overall just better color of skin, etc. I hadn't even noticed they looked bad before, but now with the improvement the difference is clear. The July court date also came and went with no word from my sister, so then the court had to decide if they make the decisions without her and consider her as a parent who abandoned their kids, arrest and hold her until the next court date, or send another invitation to show up. To my knowledge, we're still waiting on their decision. Apparently it's not common to have family court about custody issues with no legal guardians, parents present. Who knew? I just wish this was all over, obviously, but it's not my call to make, so I'm just focusing on building a relationship with the boys. I see them around once a week, either alone or with my fiancé. We could apply to see them without supervision, but have no need to. We understand the boys need to be protected as they have practically no one. We still think we did the right thing by not taking them in. Fiancé had a scary summer with pneumonia, and we wouldn't have been able to be with the boys. We're not allowed in the court per se, but as the boys' closest relative who keeps in touch, the CPS keeps us informed enough, especially now as the visitation with them resumed. I'm content with how the things are. I wish none of this happened, and I feel really guilty as it seems my sister's mental health was tolerable before I started to push back, and now she's unrecognizable. Not that I've seen her in months, but still. My fiancé said he thinks the breakdown was inevitable and just happened to happen now. Thanks for the well wishes and messages. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, has anyone else in Ops family heard from her sister? Ops response, we have no family, all passed away, the rest assumed passed away or gone some other way. We last saw any of them when I started school. That's why it was on me to handle the situation. They could have easily disappeared as mom and 2 small kids. Commenter 2, good to read the children got out of that situation. That's for the best. You did good. Do you know whether they tested your sister for drug use at all? Does she have a history of substance abuse? Ops response, I don't think they've actually gotten to it as she's avoiding everyone. I believe they at least intended to. CPS last asked about her history with substances in March. I have no idea though, I've never seen her take anything, not even alcohol, but considering her behavior I wouldn't count on her being clean. The erratic, angry, volatile person she's become in the last year is strange, although we were never really close and focused on logistics, the kids and their need of me. Commenter 3, you're doing the best you can in an incredibly hard situation, and it really shows. It's heartbreaking, but it sounds like the boys are in a safer, more stable place now, and that matters most. You're showing up for them consistently, and that means everything. You can't control your sister's choices, but you are helping her kids heal. That's something to be proud of. Ops response, thank you, this felt great to read. I feel like I could technically be doing much more, but I also know my limitations and failing them would just be unfair. Now they get a chance. My boyfriend kept me on the hook for 10 whole years promising marriage was coming, but when I finally decided I didn't want to be a wife anymore, he got so pressed that he tried to rob me blind while sending me fake movie dates, so now I'm single with a court judgment and zero regrets about staying off the hook. Posted by you/device. Known 4500. I, 33F, have been in a 10-year relationship with my boyfriend Carl, 33M. After the first year of our relationship, I made it very clear that I intended to be a wife someday. By the time I was 28, I started to remind him of my goals and expectations, and Carl told me that while he knew he wanted to marry me, he just wasn't ready yet, and didn't like how I was pressuring him and called me controlling. Eventually we broke up, but 6 months later we got back together and even moved in. Looking back on it now, I realize that wasn't the best decision, but I was so emotionally attached to this man and felt so invested that I was willing to go back to him. Carl and I have now been living together for 4 years, and while I stopped being happy about it after the first 6 months, living with him isn't a bad experience. Plus, I always thought that us getting married was just around the corner, because he said he was ready to commit to me, but he wanted to wait for the right time because I deserved a perfect proposal and a more stable husband. I've been going to therapy for the past 2 years and recently had an epiphany. Since childhood, I have always wanted a wedding, but never really gave much thought to being a married woman 24/7 and what that would mean. Given my country's shift in politics and new laws that politicians are trying to pass, I realize that not only am I fine with never getting married, but I'm starting to lean more into no longer possessing the desire to do it. Since then, it feels like I've been set free in a way and started focusing on myself. One of the major things that I've done is tell Carl that I'll no longer assist with babysitting his nephews and niece and instead focus more of my time into getting certified in something to increase my earning potential and just relaxing. Carl seemed nonchalant about it at first, but then said that we needed to have a sit-down when I sent Carl's mom and his brother a text that they had 3 weeks before I stopped helping out completely. Carl said that while he understands my desire for more personal time, it's important to be there and sacrifice for family. I told him that he could switch around his own work schedule and help with the kids since they're technically his family, and he said that the children love me and that one day they'd be my family too once we were man and wife. It was in that moment that I told him that I no longer desired marriage, and while I gave my reasons, Carl still took it as me wanting to break up with him and thinking that he would make a terrible husband. That is not the case at all, but he's starting to lash out and get suspicious, and I just don't know what to do. How can I get my boyfriend to see that it's me, not him? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I am curious what Carl's mom and brother required your help with that you needed to give 3 weeks' notice that you would no longer be helping with? Was it the niece and nephew's childcare or something more? Ops responds, Carl's brother has 50-50 custody of his children, but childcare after school is expensive where we live, so his mom was initially watching the kids but it was getting to be too much, so I offered to help out and it's been that way for about 3 years. I don't feel right just quitting on something like this without notice and wanted to emotionally prepare the kids that they may not see me as often as before. Commenter 2. Given my country's shift in politics and new laws that politicians are trying to pass, I realize that not only am I fine with never getting married, but I'm starting to lean more into no longer possessing the desire to do it. What does this mean? Ops response, I live in America and in one of the southern states. There are some politicians who want to put in laws that I personally don't think would be for my benefit in regards to marriage, and if they're successful then I definitely never want to be married someone. Commenter 3. Does Op live close to her family or Carl's family for any additional support or help? Op's response, we don't live close enough to my family for Carl to consistently offer any help on a regular basis. Downvoted. Commenter 4, Udo flat out. You string him along for 10 years with a goal to get married and now do a 180 without warning. Of course he gets suspicious. Also, you never said why he wasn't ready for marriage. Does he have financial problems? Mental health issues he wanted to work on before? Also, it reads like you don't even see him as a partner anymore but as a roommate. You just pulled the rug under him. Of course it looks like a breakup. And I don't understand how people are defending you. You messed up bad time. I would not be surprised at all if he packs his bags now and leaves. Op's response, how was I string him along when he was the one who kept putting it off? Also, what was there to warn him about? I can't speak for Carl as to why he never felt ready. I can only tell you what he told me. We've lived together for a couple years and he's never talked about having mental health or financial issues. I've noticed no change in his behavior either. I also made it very clear that while I no longer desired marriage, I still wanted to be in the relationship. So I don't know where breakup would come up. Commenter 5, do the two if you want children? If not, there's no reason to get married. Ops response, I don't know what to call it, but I'm between wanting kids and being child-free. I could really go either way. Although given where I live in America right now, I would not give birth in the state that I live in. Update, 7 months later. Sorry for taking so long, but a lot has happened and I ended up forgetting about this and focusing on other things. Then I saw a notification from a recent DM, so I thought I'd give an update. We broke up and live separately. For more details, please continue reading below. Okay, so things were a little tense over the next few days because we were either fighting or just not talking to each other. He even moved into the spare bedroom one day and he stopped giving me money for his share of the streaming services that we both use and I technically pay for. I even had to mute his mama and brother for a little bit. Then once Valentine's Day was right around the corner, he did a complete 180 and started speaking to me again and even apologized for his initial reaction and seemed really receptive to hearing my reasons. He then told me he planned a special day for us the weekend after Valentine's Day, which I was delighted to hear. On the day of, I woke up to him gone, but with breakfast laid out for me and a text message saying that there was work emergency and that he had to go in for a couple hours and told me to go meet him at the movie theater downtown by 3 p.m. I thought cool. I chilled for a bit, then got ready and headed out. By 2:55 p.m. I sent him a text message asking where he was and responded by saying he accidentally typed the wrong time and that the movie wouldn't start until 5 p.m., and he meant was that he wouldn't be able to leave work until 3 p.m. He's had a case of fat fingers and butt dials before, so I initially didn't think much and just decided to go walking around by outlet close by to kill time. Then I got another text saying that he'd change our online ticket reservations because he was still stuck at the office and to just chill until 7 p.m. This time I grew suspicious, but instead of calling or texting back with questions, I just gave him a thumbs up and sent a selfie of me at one of my favorite stores, then started to drive back home. Normally getting back to our apartment from the downtown area where I was at around this time of day on a weekend can be a bit of a challenge, but today traffic was decent. Then when I pull up to Complex I see a moving truck. No big deal. January/February is when a lot of people have moved out or in before, so I understood. Why did I see some of Carl's friends near the truck? Why did I see some of Carl's friend moving the couch that I paid for into the truck? I called the police and told them that I was actively being robbed. I stayed in the car for a while trying to calm myself down until I saw Carl helping a man load my bookshelf into the back of his pickup truck. I got out and confronted him. This man was trying to keep me out of the apartment all day so he could quietly move out and take my furniture. And I say my furniture because I was the one who picked it all out and paid for most of everything, and I readily shared the email confirmation order number receipts that I had archived when the police showed up. The man tried to take my bookshelf because apparently Carl had sold it to him, but that wasn't my problem and that I'd press charges on everyone if my stuff wasn't back in my place. We got into a huge argument and the police tried to brush this off as a civil matter since Carl and I lived together, but I went into the station the next day and spoke to a female officer who was of better help. My dining room set, spices, blender, groceries, lamps, TV, coffee table, and mattress were gone, but Carl's friends did put back the couch, which was a pull-out. The middleman between my landlord and me did speak to Carl about wanting to take his name off the lease but did not follow the proper protocol and confirming with me that I would take on full responsibility of rent, so I did file a complaint. I ended up leaving the complex and moving somewhere else and pressed charges against Carl and his friends if only to create a paper trail and help in my civil case against my ex. In the end I was able to get some financial compensation for what I lost, and he has until November to pay it all. I wasn't even sad that he didn't want to be with me anymore, just angry at how he tried to go about it. It is very clear that he wanted to punish me, and I'm so glad that I never ended up marrying this man. I completed my certification, got a promotion and the pay raise that comes with it, and my dad has agreed to give me the money he was saving for my future wedding as a down payment for a house. After this entire experience I am now 10 toes down and never getting married. Also as a side note, since Carl's brother couldn't provide consistent child care on his days, the mother filed for full custody and now Carl's brother pays child support. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, so I was expecting that Carl found his person and is engaged and getting married soon. At your age is delaying an engagement/marriage when you have been together that long and have your adult jobs is being comfortable in the relationship but not sure the other one is really the one. Becomes a habit? Ops response, I don't know about marriage, but from what I was told by his mom, who I didn't ask, he does have a new girlfriend. So good luck to her. Commenter 2, my only question is, why did it take you so long, 10 years, if I remember correctly, to figure out this guy was a complete loser? Good for you. Better late than never. Ops response: because I always idolized the idea of getting married, and just like I said in my original post, I developed an emotional attachment to my ex. Plus a little bit of the sunk cost mindset, but I know better now. Commenter 3: you dodged a nuke. What a world-class jerk. Robbing you on his way out. And you just know how much he enjoyed picturing you coming home to an empty place. You're getting the best revenge. A court judgment and living your best life. Commenter 4: I don't know, feels kinda suspicious. Who decides to wait 2 whole hours instead of going back home? Like what? Ops response: I was shopping. My friend lost his wife during childbirth, so I introduced him to my bestie thinking they'd be cute together, but she turned into a whole mess and now I'm stuck between 2 liars. Posted by you/Gosh Aaron. I met my friend Chuck, 29M, about 1.5 years ago. We were both part of an online local group for single parents, and eventually met offline with other group parents. I have known Britt, 25F, since high school. Chuck's wife passed due to childbirth complications the day their daughter was born, more than 2 years ago. Britt is a few months out of a 9-year relationship. Both of them have expressed wanting to meet other people, and I thought they'd be good for each other because of common interests, and we all have kids of similar ages. 2 days before Christmas, Chuck and Britt went out on their first date. I kept Chuck's daughter at my house so the two could have some more time together without him having to worry about the baby. The plan was for her to spend the night. She's done it before and gets along great with my 3-year-old girl, but Chuck knocked on my door at 11 p.m. to get his daughter. He barely said a word to me, and I could tell he had been crying, but he wouldn't tell me what was wrong. The next day, I asked Britt what happened. She said that they had dinner and a couple drinks, things were going excellent. She said she felt like they had great chemistry and were even getting physical at his house, but he suddenly told her to stop and to leave immediately. She swears that she has no idea what she did wrong and is really hurt by the whole thing. I believe her because she is really sweet and social. I've never seen her do anything to upset anyone. I tried to talk to Chuck at the same time to get his side of the story and see what went wrong. All he said was that he wasn't feeling it and didn't want to discuss it further. I didn't push it, but when I went to wish him a Merry Christmas a day later, I saw he had deleted me from his social media. I texted it to him instead and asked, "You okay?" But no response. I'm seriously hurt and don't know what to do. Chuck has become one of my closest friends, and our daughters are the best of friends too. I am really worried that this has something to do with his wife, and I want to apologize if he felt like I was pressuring him to date after her passing. At the same time, I don't want to overstep boundaries and bother him when he's having a hard time. It's been over a week, and I'm worried and upset. I set my 2 friends up on a date. Things were apparently going well until my guy friend suddenly called off the date. He has now deleted me from his social media and will not talk to me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Chuck's daughter will be a constant reminder of his late wife. He still hasn't finished grieving, or isn't ready to move on. Guilt about enjoying female company and getting physical contact will be huge. He would feel he has to hide emotions from his daughter about his late wife. He has locked them away and is doing the same thing now. Give him time and let him know you are there when he is ready. Ops response. I completely agree with you, and will be giving him plenty of space for a while before I try to talk to him again. Thank you. We've actually talked about the constant reminder thing. Little Chuck looks exactly like his wife, and apparently it is getting harder instead of better because of that. I kinda feel like a jerk for being offended by him not speaking to me. I can't imagine that pain. Commenter 2. It sounds like he's not ready to be dating, and he's displacing that guilt on you as you were the one who set it up, with completely good intentions, and now he feels you're responsible for how he feels. My suggestion would be to wait it out. It could take some time, weeks or months. If you continue to contact him often, it will only make it worse and push him away. I would let it clear, a couple weeks, and maybe once more reach out with an apology again saying your friendship and each other's daughter's friendship means a lot to you. If he cold shoulders you again, you need to move on. Unfortunately, life is a set of friendships that pass as our lives continue where they need to head. Ops response. That's what my gut was telling me. I just wanted to make sure that I was doing enough. Hopefully he'll come around because I have gotten really attached to him and his kid. It would be so sad to never see them again. Commenter 3. He realized you consider him a friend. He clearly expected more. Someone mentioned that Chuck may be in love with me, but deleted a comment. I still want to address that. He's almost a full decade older than me, and has never expressed those feelings for me at all. In fact, the week before he cut me off, he said that I was a great friend and he was happy that his daughter had some female figures in her life. Commenter 3. I'm the one who mentioned he might be expecting romance with you, and I didn't delete the comment. I got downvoted into oblivion. Someone mentioned that Chuck may be in love with me, but deleted the comment. I still want to address that. He's almost a full decade older than me, and has never expressed those feelings for me at all. In fact, the week before he cut me off, he said that I was a great friend and he was happy that his daughter had some female figures in her life. You mean, like a new mom? A great friend just needs a little intimacy and mutual attraction to become a significant other. Common interest, trust, respect are already there. Read the signs. Being a decade older never prevented men from being romantically interested in younger ladies. The fact you use it as a demonstration might indicate you don't want to see he may be into you while still mourning his wife. That's perfectly legit, but people feeling rejected might try stuff, like dating your friend, or cut relationship. I'd say the biggest problem with the sub is that it's always one-sided and people sometimes can be not fully aware of the other people's signs and communication. It's still a theory. Thanks for all of your advice, everyone. I think I will give it another week before I speak with him again. If he hasn't reached out by then, I will tell him that I am still here if he needs to talk, but I will continue to give him space if he needs that too. I am almost 100% sure that this happened because of his wife's passing. Another one of my friends who was still on his social media saw that he had changed his cover photo several times since Christmas, and all of them were from his wedding. Update, 10 days later. Chuck finally contacted me 2 days ago. He apologized for unfriending me and not talking to me. As many of you said, he was embarrassed by what happened on the date and even angry at me for setting them up. She completely lied to me. He maintains that they went to dinner and had drinks, but then he says Britt got completely drunk and was trying to get him to make love in the parking lot. When he said no, she got very aggressive to the point where he made her get out of the car and got her a cab. Once he knew she was gone, he went to my place to get his daughter and was so upset at me he couldn't talk to me about it. Of course I apologized profusely and told him I didn't know that she was like that at all. He doesn't blame me and said I didn't need to be sorry. So we're cool now. I confronted Britt yesterday. All I said was that Chuck told me a different version of events. She started crying and admitted to everything all on her own. She asked if I could ever forgive her, and I said yes. But I'm not sure if I was telling the truth. I'm not sure if I should keep Britt as a friend. I am really disgusted by her behavior, and I know if the roles were reversed, I would stay the heck away from her. My friend Chuck cut contact with me because I set him up with a bad drunk. We're cool now though, and I'm not sure what to do about Britt. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Wow, I've been waiting patiently for this update, but I definitely did not expect this. Sorry about your friend Britt, Op. I'm glad things between you and Chuck are okay now. Op's response. Me neither. I never would have guessed if he didn't tell me. Commenter 2. You could just distance yourself for a bit. If I were you, it will definitely depend on her actions from here on. Is she really apologetic? Has she sent a sincere apology to Chuck? If yes, I will still maintain a friendship, but maybe not hang out with her too much for a while. It's still pretty annoying that she acted so stupidly and then lied to you afterwards. What for, I don't know. As if you won't find out the truth sooner or later, but if she is a great friend otherwise, this is forgivable given time and good attitude on her part. At least now you know not to set her up anymore with any of your friends. Op's response. Totally with you on the lying. I'm super annoyed that this could have been solved way earlier with honest communication from everyone involved. She apologized for lying but not anything else. Just excuses about how she acts when she drinks too much. Commenter 3. She got really aggressive. Make no mistake, that means she intimately assaulted him, regardless of how successful she was. In that context, his response makes total sense. I'd drop her. She apologized for lying but not anything else. Just excuses about how she acts when she drinks too much. This is a quote from you in another comment. That means it's not the first time she's assaulted someone. Op's response. This is a quote from you in another comment. That means it's not the first time she's assaulted someone. Holy goodness. I don't know how I didn't catch that. Thank you. Commenter 4. I think perhaps before cutting Britt out of your life you should straight out ask Chuck if he felt she was inappropriate or just a pushy drunk. Did he have to physically force her out of the car? Lots of guys call women names and act like jerks when we refuse to have intimacy with them, but there is a huge difference between being a drunken jerk and someone who assaults. Did Chuck feel threatened by Britt or just offended and turned off by her? Chuck obviously doesn't want to go on a second date, but he may not feel you can't be friends with Britt. Op's response. He felt threatened for sure. He said that the other day, and in hindsight I could feel it when he came to my house that night. He had been crying and didn't talk to anyone for weeks.
My dad said my stomach disease was fake because I ate too many lemons, but when I got into my Dream Masters program, he started adding mysterious powder to my milk, so now I realized it was him all along, and now he's begging for forgiveness. Posted by you/Nefs20. I, 25M, was suffering from bloating and puking from December 2024. After 4 months of consulting 5 different physicians, including gastro, 3 endoscopies and multiple tests, they arrived at the diagnosis of Crohn's with stricture at the junction of duodenum and jejunum. After the diagnosis, I found that I had become intolerant to rice and potatoes. My mom and grandmom understood the disease after I explained it to them, but my dad's opinion was that this was not a disease and it's all because you ate a lot of lemons, 3 years ago. After completing the meds and avoiding the specific trigger foods, rice and potatoes, I went into remission. Around 2 weeks back, I had a flare-up which kept on increasing in severity every day. Me and my mom saw my dad was adding something like powder to the milk before I drank it. There was no taste or odor change in the milk though. We had suspicions that he was also adding something to the salt and sugar in kitchen. So I stayed in my granny's place for a few days. During the stay I had no symptoms, not even pain or bloating. Meanwhile my mom threw away everything that was suspicious and bought everything new. I returned back to my home. We are being very careful in locking everything in kitchen and ensuring only we have access to them. After doing all this I feel better and we have seen my dad trying to pry open the things we locked. There are 2 other things that bothered me during this time which may or may not be related. Just 2 days before my flare-up, I informed that I got selected for masters in Europe and my dad and elder brother hated that and were against it. When I said I will be going there, he replied something unexpected may happen and your plan may fail. Before this recent flare-up, there was an incident when like this time my dad was doing something in kitchen. My dad never uses the kitchen. I took a sip of the milk later and there was a strong taste of rust. So I threw it out entirely and didn't think much of it. I asked about this issue in r/Crohn's disease around 10 days prior and intended to publish this story here too but couldn't. Here are the events that happened after that. I forgot to lock a jar of cookies inside the cabinet, ate them the next day and got sick again. My mom's coffee has tasted weird multiple times and she also got sick after drinking it too. My dad broke into the locked kitchen cabinet and the refrigerator. We replaced all the things there and shifted them to my granny's home. Me and my mom are traveling to my granny's home for every meal. We also have suspicions that my brother knows about this and chose to ignore as he visited home and avoids eating anything at home. We are taking careful steps to confirm these. I don't want to get into too much detail, but we are trying to get solid evidence before doing anything further. Let me know if I'm overthinking, or what steps I should take next. I feel very unsafe and emotionally drained, but I just want to make sure I'm not losing perspective. Op makes another post in another subreddit, same day. I, 25M, got into this Dream Masters by my own effort on April, despite my health issues. The tuition for this program is actually very minimal, which is rare for international master's programs. I told everyone close to me, starting with my parents, elder brother, friends, close relatives, aunt and uncle, and some professors from my bachelor's. My dad, 60M, was initially open to me going there but changed his decision soon after talking to my brother. He told he likely won't be able to sponsor my master's. So I applied to a scholarship and was following up on it. I also applied for an education loan. My elder brother, 30M, was totally against it, saying he didn't like it and even said, "Are you going to beg in that country after doing this degree?" My mom and relatives on her side, granny, aunt, uncle, were totally overjoyed and loved that I was able to get in this master's. My professors and other professionals in my field told it was a great opportunity and that it would benefit my career. I was working through all the administrative process and stuff by myself till today. My mom and relatives provided moral support during this time period and also tried to explain to my dad and brother that this is a good opportunity for me. Yesterday my brother showed up unannounced to our home and made my mom stay in my granny's home, stating that he and my dad wanted to talk to me alone. They told me I was in the wrong to inform my close relatives about this master's and demanded me to update on the process till now. I told them everything, including the education loan and scholarship I've applied. They started nitpicking the course details, trying to find any fault in the program, but everything was well detailed and had no issue. Then they told me whatever I did was useless and I did nothing in these 2 months. They told I won't be getting the scholarship or the loan realistically, nor do they have any money to spare for my studies. They made it clear that they won't help in any process further but still want updates daily and need all the email I receive related to loan, scholarship, university forwarded to both of them. They instead want me to do a master's in this state next cycle, year. They told stop living in a dream and accused me of being selfish for not thinking of the family or anyone else. So am I the jerk for not giving updates or not letting them interfere in the process after this incident? For context, I was lucky to have completed my bachelor's with almost full scholarship with a few minor expenses covered by my dad. I had moved back to my parents' place and the money I saved up after that was spent very recently on my medical expenses. I made it very clear that I wanted to do my master's in this field. The master's program I got into is not available anywhere nearby, not even nearby states. Side note, there's also a separate and very serious situation happening at home that made me feel unsafe. I've made a separate post about that, so I won't go into it here. Update, 7 weeks later. Hi everyone, I'm sorry it took me a while to update. These are my previous posts for context: post 1, post 2. I've been reading and replying to some comments, but I wanted to share what's happened since my last posts. What's happened since: my relatives say I should meet him to secure my inheritance, legally mine, because it could help me in the future. My brother is pestering my mom to get me to talk to him. My mom and I relocated without telling my dad or brother. I cut off all calls and messages from them. We couldn't gather much evidence except for a white powder in our plates, a microphone hidden under my mom's bedroom dresser. On the day we moved, I drank water from our house. 2 days later, I had bleeding from my nose and mouth. Blood tests showed that both my mom and I had elevated, almost identical levels of strontium and vanadium. Our family doctor said the bleeding wasn't from those metals, but likely from an anticoagulant toxin, possibly a rat poison. I moved between friends' places to recover and took the antidote for the anticoagulant poison. Since I moved, my scholarship and education loan were both cancelled, and I'm almost certain through his influence. My mom gave me her savings, which will nearly cover my degree. My dad has been telling relatives he's sad I'm not talking to him. My aunt and uncle, mom's side, who know the truth, confronted him. He admitted the poisoning but claimed it wasn't meant for me. They also asked why he wasn't financing my master's. He said he felt guilty and would fund it if I talked to him. My dad is calling and texting me now. I want to see you or talk finally last. Understand my position. If not, you cannot see any more later. I will never forgive my dad. But the inheritance is significant and could make a huge difference in my life. I've spoken to lawyers and the police. My dad has ways of wriggling out of legal trouble. Do I just talk to him, get my part of the inheritance, and then cut contact? Or is even that too dangerous to risk? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, call the university about the scholarship. Ops response, the scholarship is not on the uni side but is by a government-funded agency. They gave me a reason that they made a mistake and just told me why don't you wait for a year and try again. The words used by the person in charge was definitely fishy. My girlfriend pushed for an open relationship and dated tons of people while I stayed loyal and patient, but the moment I found someone who actually wanted to be monogamous with me, she got possessive, and now I'm realizing I was never meant to be anyone's backup plan. Posted by you/perfectpatient121. Hello, long-time lurker, first-time poster. I need your help figuring out the ethical way to end a long-term E&M relationship. For some background, my girlfriend, 28F, and I, 28M, have been together for about 6 years. We talked about opening during lockdown, but only started acting on it when it was safe again. The first 2 years were basically one-sided, with me not having any success while she kept meeting new people. I had a lot of emotional work to do, but eventually I worked on myself and managed a few flings of my own. Dating became her main social outlet, and she pushed for poly, which created a lot of resentment on my side. To her credit, I kept it to myself, so that's on me. A year ago, I met an amazing woman, 25F, through a shared hobby and had an immediate connection. She was just out of a serious relationship, so being a secondary, hate that term, worked for her until she was ready to start looking for a new mono relationship. What I did not expect was the jealousy from my girlfriend at that new connection. I feel like I've put up with a lot from her constant dating, and the first time I have something more serious, she melts down. About a month ago, my new partner admitted that she'd be interested in going mono with me, which I did not give a solid answer to or disclose to my girlfriend. Friday evening, my girlfriend left for a week away with one of her main partners, 33M. It was planned and happened before, but seeing her leave really broke the emotional dam for me. I don't think I'm made for poly or E&M. I've started moving my things to my parents' home over the weekend, and agreed to be mono with my new partner. I am spiraling a bit. Both my parents and my new partner think I should tell my girlfriend and not have to find out when she comes back. I think it's better not to ruin her vacation and to have a clean break afterward. My reasoning is that she won't be alone, she has all her partners to help her out. Also, I'll pay my share of the rent while she looks for a new apartment if she'd rather not keep our current place. What would you rather have me do if you were in my girlfriend's shoes? I'm sorry if the post is a bit all over the place. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, my ex-spouse told my meta before me that they didn't love me anymore. Honestly, it felt worse than the breakup. Please tell her soon, you've already told everyone else close to you, your soon-to-be ex should not have been the last to know. Ops response, I only told my parents, because I'll be crashing with them, and my new partner, none of our mutuals know. Commenter 2, not sure if it's right or wrong but like you, I'd probably wait until she's back from her vacation. Either way you're going to give her the bad news. Might as well let her enjoy her vacation or at very least prevent her from using that as a justification for further blame. How often do they call or update each other? Commenter 3, I mean, beyond the fact that some vacations may include unreliable cell signal or jam-packed days or time zone differences that may make communication difficult to plan for, every relationship is different. I don't talk to one of my partners unless we are together in person or if there are logistics needing sorted. We have our weekly date night, and hang out from time to time outside of that night, but we don't text or call just to talk. If I go on vacation, he doesn't expect me to check in with him. We've been together more than a decade and this works for us. Op has not been voicing his needs to his soon-to-be ex. She should not be expected to read his mind. If he was acting like he was fine, seemed like he was totally accepting of Polly and her other relationships, how the heck is she supposed to coddle his emotions? I expect my partners to loop me into their emotional needs. I'm autistic. I refuse to let people guilt me for taking them at their word and not reading their mind. If you need something in a relationship, it is your job to make that need known to your partner. Ops response: yeah, we're both pretty independent people. She sent a text to let me know that they arrived safely, and I'm not expecting us to get in touch much more than a good morning love you text here and there. I agree with your second point. I think I was too defensive in my post, and now people are saying she's abusive or narcissist, which couldn't be further from the truth. It's just tricky to voice your insecurities about imbalance as the man in a hetero-open relationship without feeling like you're coming off as whiny. Especially since I wasn't really jealous about her having intimate relations at all, but rather the mismatch in opportunities which she can't do much about. And these feelings basically disappeared when I managed my own flings. Until we moved to poly, of course, but I should have really ended things at that point. Edit: thanks for the feedback. I'll be home to have the talk with her when she comes back, no point ruining her vacation. I'm also slowing down on the moving stuff out part. I was being dramatic and we can sort how we split some things out. Update: 2 weeks later. I received a few requests for an update, so here's a follow-up to my post. As I said, I slowed down moving my things out to my parents, and waited for her to get home to avoid ruining her vacation. She came back Thursday night the week of the previous post, and I went to meet her at the train station. She had her partner still with her, but I managed to get her home. We had the talk. This was my biggest breakup to date, so it got a bit emotional on both ends. She basically offered to slow down with her other partners, then monogamy. I declined and went to sleep at my parents'. There's not much else to say, it wasn't super dramatic in the end. We've spent the past 10 days figuring out the logistics. But as someone who lurked on this sub for a long time, this was my first time confronting the advice given here to a real-life situation. If you're thinking of posting here too, keep in mind that there's a lot of noise, people projecting, people who have it out against ENM, and also ENM people that are a bit disconnected from the broader mono world. Not to say that there wasn't any useful comments, especially the people who talked about being ghosted by their live-in partner. I had never planned to not have a talk in person, but these comments really helped empathize with her perspective the most, I think. Anyways, thank you. Final comments. Commenter 1, she basically offered to slow down with her other partners, then monogamy. I declined and went to sleep at my parents'. She was offering that to appease you, not necessarily because she actually wanted to. Good move on letting it go. After reading your initial post, the thing that I saw that was concerning was her jealousy when you finally started to see someone even though she had been seeing several people. I don't think this is how it all works, and that wouldn't have meshed well. You would not have been comfortable. I hope your new relationship is a great one. Commenter 2, I don't think this is fair at all. Op didn't want polyamory, but made little efforts to directly communicate. He's avoidant, refused to communicate, and built resentment. He should have sat his partner down way earlier than this point and been clear that polyamory was the boundary. To me, her saying she's willing to be mono just shows the stupidity of avoidant communication. She clearly is in some way willing to renegotiate the terms of the relationship. Op just didn't try? I don't get it. He built up resentment until he basically couldn't stand her. Grow up. Also, yes, you dating someone hits you very differently than your partner dating someone. He had time to work through his big emotions surrounding new partners. This was her first instance. She too needs practice, building coping skills, etc. This is a brand new position for her to be in. Of course there will be insecurities. Op gave her no time to work those out. Op's response: I agree that I'm not the best at communicating, but always being the one that has to ask for things to slow down is not fun either. It makes you come off as whiny. And it was the same during that conversation. She didn't say she wanted monogamy, she offered to go monogamous if I wanted. Like I'm always the one that has to ruin the fun in the end. Also, she's not abusive or narcissist like some people were claiming in my first post, but she had 1 year since I met my new partner to learn how to deal with jealousy. She was okay-ish when I was just hooking up with random people, but I truly don't think she can handle her primary seriously dating someone else. In the end though, I think you're right, I should have pumped the brakes on poly a long time ago and just dealt with being the boring, insecure one. Commenter 3, Op, when you were talking before you finally left, did you mention her apparent jealousy about your mention of your newfound relationship? If so, did she say anything about it? Op's response: I didn't tell her we were going mono, we're keeping that to ourselves until I'm fully moved out. No point creating more drama over something that is just none of her business. My son left me a letter saying he was depressed and tired of feeling sad all the time, but now I'm hard pressed to figure out how to help without breaking his trust completely, and here I am being dramatic by crying over it. Posted by you/Davewook94. I have a 14-year-old son. I work from home some days, and this morning there was a letter on my desk from my son. It said, I just wanted to let you know that I've been feeling really sad and lonely lately, and I'm just tired of feeling this way all the time. I don't know why I feel this way. My life is perfect. I just wish I could be happy sometimes like everyone else. I know you think I'm lazy sometimes, but I'm trying my best. Life is just so hard. Please don't make a big deal out of this or ask me about it. I don't want to see a therapist. Please don't treat me any differently, I just really wanted to tell someone. I'm sorry. Don't worry about me. I will be okay, I promise. Please don't tell Mom. Ugh, that hurt my heart so much. I feel terrible he thinks I'm hard on him. These feelings kinda scare me. I really want to talk to him about it. But I'm trying not to make it a big deal like he says. I want to tell my wife, but I want him to trust me too. Maybe I should write a letter back? I'm not sure, or what I'd even say. I don't mean to share my personal problems online, I just want to do the right thing here. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Open the letter with "Hi depressed, I'm dad." Jokes aside, I went through a similar phase in my youth, and the thing that helped most was compassionate and caring parents that I could trust and speak openly to. It sounds like you have fostered a similar environment with your son, and you both sound like a couple of great guys. I definitely agree with the idea of writing a letter back. Commenter 2. Yeah, I think I would start with a letter back. Just make sure you say you hear him and thanks for the letter. Can also tell him those feelings are totally normal at 14, and there are chemicals that change our minds and feelings that are starting in his body now. I like to pep talk on the core stuff. You have family and friends who love you, you are learning and growing every day. The world is kinda crazy sometimes, but I got your back, and we are going to have fun and learn and grow together. Maybe even offer a weekend trip or something cool he would like if you can swing it. Best of luck, Dad. My kid is only 4, so these are just thoughts, not experienced recommendations, FYI. But I'd feel proud that he loves and respects you to tell you in such a formal, direct way. Update, 10 days later. I debated whether to provide an update, didn't want to share too much online, but I appreciated the advice and decided to post in case it helps anyone else. I decided to write him back. I took forever writing and rewriting my letter, trying to get it perfect and say the right thing. Not sure if I ever completely got there, but this is what I wrote him. I used some ideas y'all gave me as well. Dear son. Thank you for telling me how you are feeling. That was very brave of you. I'm so proud of you, bud. I'm so sorry you are feeling this way. That's so tough, dude. Being a teen is really hard these days. I bet even the ones that look happy feel sad and lonely sometimes too. You're definitely not alone. I'm sorry if I have been hard on you. I don't think you are lazy. I know you are capable of so much, and I'm sorry if I push a little too hard. I know you don't want me to treat you different, but I'm your dad, and I don't want you to feel this way. What you said was very heavy, and I don't want you to have to carry that burden alone. I'd really like to talk to you about it sometime if you'd let me. But if you'd rather write me another letter, that's okay too. I plan to give you a big hug the next chance I get and leave the rest to you. I haven't told Mom yet, but she really cares about you and would want to be there for you, and I don't want to have to keep this secret from her. Could I just tell her you've been feeling a little down lately but you don't want to talk about it? Please let me know soon. I love you so much, bud. You got this, we will get through this together. Dad. He came to me not too much later and gave me a hug. We hugged for a really long time. While we were hugging he said, "You can tell Mom. Just tell her not to ask me about it." I said okay. He went to leave, but I said, "Hey bud, could we maybe sit and talk a bit? I know it's awkward, but I'll try not to make a big deal about it, okay?" He said okay. We talk a bit. Not going to get into too much personal details, but he shares some about how he's been feeling. He starts crying a little as we talk. Then he says, "This is why I didn't want to talk about it. I knew I would start crying. I'm sorry, I don't even know why I'm crying right now." I tell him it's okay to cry. Later I bring up therapy again. I say, "I know you said you didn't want therapy, but I don't think it would hurt to talk to someone every now and then." He said, "I don't want to sit around talking to a random person about my feelings. That doesn't sound fun." I said, "You can talk about anything. Not just feelings. Just about life and stuff. Could you give it a try, and then we can quit if you don't like it?" He said, "If I do it, can you go with me? I don't want to go by myself." "Sure bud, whatever you need." "Okay. I guess you can look into it and stuff. No promises though." I say okay. Eventually he goes to leave, but then he stops and asks, "Could I get another hug?" So I do. I say, "I'm so proud of you, dude." He says, "Why do you keep saying that?" I say, "'Cause I am. You're such a smart, kind kid, and the fact that you are brave enough to share all this with me is so cool. I'm so glad I get to be your dad." He says, "I'm glad you're my dad too. It's been a few days now. We haven't talked about it since. I've been trying to treat him normally like he asked. Can't help but give him a few more hugs than normal, but he's been okay with that. Been trying to sneak in a few compliments here and there to maybe help him feel better. I've gotten a few eye rolls, but I think he secretly likes it. Still working on the therapy details. I know it's not an easy fix, and I still don't know what I'm doing half the time, but I'm feeling a little more hopeful. Thanks again." Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I would have unalive to have an experience like this with my dad when I was 14 and feeling like that. You did real good, but don't give up on therapy. One thing I would say if he brings up it being a random person is that the idea is that you see them regularly so they stop being a random person and start being a trusted partner in your well-being. Commenter 2. Tell you what, I wish my dad wrote back. Thanks for inspiring the next generation. Commenter 3. Read this as my 14-year-old self. I may have more trauma than I thought. Phew. What a wild and short ride. Commenter 4. This is why I didn't want to read this post. I knew I would start crying. Commenter 5, responding to 4. It's okay to cry. Commenter 4. Can I tell you something? I'm proud of you.
My ex's mom shared a Facebook memory with me in it from our vacation, then his new girlfriend sent me the most unhinged message telling me to back off, but turns out she was projecting way harder than I thought and now he's single again because she's absolutely bonkers. Posted by you/throwseyes22. I'll keep this short. My ex, Ross, and I broke up over a year ago now. We started growing apart and wanted different things out of life. We have kept things civil, kept each other on social media, but we don't talk unless we see each other in public. I have decided to stay single until I finish my master's, but he now has a new girlfriend, Crystal. I was very close with Ross's family. I still have them all on Facebook, but we don't talk unless it's to wish each other a Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, etc. only a handful of times a year out of respect for Ross. They do like my posts, especially his mother. I asked Ross if he would rather I unfriend them, but he says he's cool with it and not to worry. The other day, I received a notification from Ross's mom. She shared a memory with me in it. It was of myself, Ross, and his younger brother when we were on vacation 3 years ago. His mom wrote, "Missed the beach. Can't wait for summer." I thought it was a little weird and awkward to say the least, but I didn't say anything. A few hours later, I received a Facebook message from Crystal, saying, You/throwseyes22, I don't know why you feel the need to still keep tabs on Ross's family, but you need to back off. Accept the fact that he is my boyfriend and please remove yourself as his friend as well as the rest of the families. I have replaced you and you serve no purpose to be in their lives anymore. Grow up and get over yourself. I haven't even responded, but I am so confused. I have met Crystal once when I bumped into them grocery shopping. Ross introduced us and we exchanged pleasantries. She seemed really kind. What do I say? Do I say anything to Ross or his mother? Talk to Crystal herself? I didn't even share the post. I'm so confused. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I just click it so it gets marked as read, and not reply. I bet my house, dog, and close family that she's watching the message to make sure Op reads it. Op's response. I read it over a day ago so I'm sure she's checked it by now. Also had a post that showed up on my newsfeed. She tagged Ross in a picture with the caption, "Don't know what I would do without this amazing man in my life. Love you to the moon and back, babe us against the world. XO." For lack of a better term, I can't even deal. Commenter 2. Screenshot and send to your ex and let him handle it. Op's response. I will probably do this tonight. I won't add anything malicious or accusatory, but I don't think I owe her anything. If Ross agrees, I'll oblige, but I'm not giving in to her temper tantrum. Commenter 3. Message the ex. Hi, I received this pretty aggressive message from your girlfriend, attached. I've mentioned before I don't mind removing your family if it was uncomfortable for you. Let me know if you need me to do anything, but either way I don't want her to contact me again. Thanks. Op's response. I sent him something along these lines with a screenshot. Waiting for a response. Update, 2 days later. I posted on Reddit a couple of days after I received the message from Crystal. After reading your comments, I agreed that I did not owe Crystal any response or action, but I did think that sending a screenshot to Ross would be the best idea. If he had a problem with me being friends with him, keeping in touch with his family on social media, I would have no problem deleting them. To me, that should come from him, not her. So later that night, I sent Ross a screenshot of the message Crystal sent me and I added, "Hey Ross. I received this message from Crystal a few days ago. Not sure what this is about, but if you have any issues with me being friends with you and or your family on Facebook, just let me know and I will respect that. Thanks." I saw that he read the message a couple of hours later. He didn't respond that night, but I got a message from him late the next morning. He said, "Throwseyes22, thanks for sending me that screenshot. I had no idea that Crystal messaged you and I want to apologize for her behavior. She was completely out of line in sending you that. I spoke with her yesterday after I saw your message and she got pretty defensive. She told me that she saw that my mom still has pictures of you in one of our photo albums and when she saw that my mom shared that memory of us on vacation, she got really insecure and took it out on you. She has never come to me and talked about it, but I told her that there is nothing to worry about and both you and I have moved on. This upset her even more and she accused me of cheating and said she found an intimate tape of us on my laptop and threatened to show it to my mom. At this point I just told her we're over. I think that you should just block her on Facebook because she will probably try to take it out on you. You didn't do anything wrong. Sorry for bringing you into this mess lol, but thank you for giving me the heads up. I dodged a bullet there. So, that escalated quickly. For the record, Ross and I never made an intimate tape. Any NSFW ones that we did make were deleted immediately after watching. I called him to firm that up and he assured me she didn't find anything, she was just using it as ammunition to try to get him to admit that he either one had a NSFW video with me or two was cheating on her with me. Not really much to say other than that. I've blocked her on all social media and haven't heard anything since. I hope she doesn't have my phone number, haha. Situations like these make me happy that I have chosen to stay single for a little while. Thanks for all of your advice, Reddit. It really helped. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Good gravy, starts with insecurity over a FB post and ends with lying about an intimate tape and threatening to send it to someone's mother. Even if Ross was cheating, why the hell would you do that to someone's mom? Ops response. That's what I asked him when I called him yesterday. What would she gain from doing that, even if it did exist? Plus, Ross's mother walked in on us once. I'm sure she doesn't need another reminder of that unfortunate event. Commenter 2. Yay. I'm very glad that Ross seems like a very good ex-boyfriend. You don't see that as often as you should, so major props there. The only advice I have for you is to be very careful with your social media accounts right now. Hopefully Crystal doesn't know your phone number, but someone who's unfortunately this insecure won't be above making fake profiles follow you or friend you or having friends do it. Ops response. I did a privacy check of my Facebook account yesterday. Crystal and I were not friends on Facebook, so I ended up changing my settings to make it a lot more difficult for people who are not Facebook friends with me to search me/view my profile. Probably the safer bet. Commenter 3. Am I the only one hoping these two awesome mature people will get back together? Ops response. That could never happen. He wants to get married and have children, I do not. That's a deal breaker in a lot of relationships, including ours, and no matter how much we get along, we can't make that aspect work for us. Better off as friends now. My parents said my white husband couldn't sleep in our room because my dad feels uncomfortable, but my sister's husband gets to stay with her, and now my dad's calling my husband weak and pathetic while mom says dad's jealous. Posted by you/throwawaymom11_. My 24F husband 24M and I are visiting my family. My husband, kids, and I were getting ready to go to our room for bed when my parents started acting really awkward. Like something was off. I asked them what was wrong, and my mom quietly told me that my husband should sleep on the couch in the living room. I was a bit shocked because, why? Apparently my dad doesn't feel comfortable. I called her and my dad weird and told my husband to ignore them. We finally put our kids to sleep and are getting ready to sleep when my mom barges into the room while we're changing and says that she doesn't want us in the same room alone in her house. My husband is freaking terrified at this point because he was in the middle of changing, so he leaves for the couch, and my mom says she's sorry but she's not in the mood to deal with my dad's complaining all night. I pointed out that my younger sister, 21F, and her husband have slept in the same room at their house multiple times and she's never said anything, and she goes, "Well, your husband is white so your dad feels weird." I was over it, so I said fine. I got up at like 4 a.m. to drink some water and I saw my husband wide awake just lying on the couch. He said the couch is uncomfortable as heck, which yes it is, so I sat down next to him and we both accidentally fell asleep. I woke up later to my mom freaking out. She was whisper yelling, so she doesn't wake up my dad, and asked if we're that codependent on each other that we can't spend one night alone. I tried explaining that it was a mistake, but she kept calling me disrespectful and said that I was selfish, etc. I was upset, but my son called for me, so we ended our conversation. Now I'm wondering if I really am the jerk in this situation? My mom says I am because I was being selfish, disrespectful, and completely disregarded how difficult her life would have become if my dad found us. My whole thing is that it was an accident. I'm 24, my dad is being weird, and my sister's husband doesn't have to do this, so why does mine? Am I the jerk? Edit. My family and I are South Asian. Edit 2. Yes, I know a lot of this has to do with my husband being white and them being racist, prejudiced. I called my parents weird, strange, awkward because of what they were doing, glaring at each other, swearing at each other under their breaths, randomly going quiet out of nowhere, etc. They do this pretty often, and have been doing it for as long as I can remember. So much that my sister and I call it the weird mood. Like, keep an eye out for mom and dad, they're in their weird mood. Sorry for so many edits, but this should be the last one. I'm getting a lot of people asking the same thing, so I'm just going to copy one of my replies. My kids were not in danger. We live over 8 hours away. It was snowing heavily and the roads would have been icy and pitch black. It was after 11 p.m. My sons are 2 and 3 and the nearest hotel is pretty far away. Not to mention my husband and I had been driving for literal hours and were completely exhausted. Trust me, we definitely thought about it, and both my husband and I decided to stay the night. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. WTF. What kind of shenanigans is this? I don't see why your dad has any issues with you sleeping in the same room with your husband. You guys have kids, so clearly intimate relations have happened. And why is it any different that he's white? Why are your parents racist? Do they treat your kids differently because they're half white? If they do, you need to step up and protect your children from your bigoted parents. And step up for your husband, too. Ops response. Right? I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thinks my parents are being very strange. Like Ike, what they're so afraid of considering we have literal kids? They treat my children well. If they even dared to say something to them, I would definitely not be in good terms with them. I'm the first person in my family to marry a white person, so I understood the initial shock when I told them, but that was years ago, and I thought that they had gotten used to it. Because of you know what, this is my husband's first time staying over, so I didn't know this was going to be an issue at all. I'm still pissed, but my husband keeps telling me it's fine and that we're leaving anyways. However, now that I've gotten a few comments, I'm thinking of talking to my parents about how weird they were being. Commenter 2. NTA. South Asian parents are weird and have a weird perception of white people. I'm white and my husband is South Asian, and before his family even knew about me, he told me their perception of white women were that they will marry a South Asian man only to divorce him and steal all his money. I know in South Asian culture you're not supposed to disrespect you elders, especially your parents, but this is completely unacceptable of them to pull this kind of crap on you. Did they want you to have an arranged marriage and you were like, nah, I'ma marry a white man? I saw that you're Muslim also, so I'm surprised they even let you marry your husband without him converting. My in-laws wouldn't allow us to get married unless I converted, but my husband is a non-practicing Muslim, and I was agnostic prior to us being married, so I'm more of a favorite. Ops response. My dad never mentioned marriage, but my mom used to say things like she didn't care who, but I was only allowed to marry a Muslim man. And yeah, let is the key word here. I told my mom that I'm going to get married regardless of whether they approve or not, and we got pretty personal, and she eventually accepted. Like how she convinced my dad to not make a fuss during my wedding, etc., but she did somehow. I do believe in God, I guess, and the prophets and all that. It's been drilled into me since I was a kid, so it's hard to not believe, if that makes sense, but I'm technically non-practicing as well, so hey. Update, 2 days later. So a lot of people ask me for an update, and since I don't really want to think about this whole situation for some time, I decided to quickly make a post before I put this entire thing behind me. A lot of you were understandably harsh, which I appreciate, and I admit that I should have been more firm and shouldn't have let my husband sleep on the couch at all. Yes, I didn't handle the situation too well, but I honestly did the best that I could given the fact that my mom was yelling and my children were starting to get irritated and were very close to waking up and crying. We needed my mom to leave so that our kids wouldn't wake up, cry, and so my husband decided to just go to the couch. I also am quite aware that my parents were being prejudiced, racist towards my husband. I never excused it. The only reason I was calling my parents weird, awkward is because they were acting like that. As in, they were fighting each other quietly, in their heads. This is what I meant every time I said they were acting weird. Now for the update. I told my husband that I was really sorry for how my parents treated him. He told me he genuinely didn't care and that he's sorry that he's causing so much trouble. Yeah, no. I made sure he realized that this situation is not his fault. We had a heart-to-heart talk and eventually decided that we talked to my parents together when my dad finally came home. So basically I told them that they disrespected my husband last night. That we both are married and have kids and are planning on having more kids. We were going to sleep in the same room in the same bed just like other married couples, and if they had a problem with that then they needed to figure it out, because while I made a mistake by not standing my ground the first time, I wasn't going to let it happen again. I told them I was 100% willing to go no contact again and that I wasn't afraid to do so. My dad immediately started yelling at my husband. He called my husband weak, pathetic, and said he wasn't good enough for me. He also said that my husband ruined me and my future and that I'm now dirty and sinful and all that. I shut that down right away. I told my dad that he was weak and pathetic, not my husband, who has been there for me and done things for me that my dad would never in his life do for anyone. That's when my mom finally decides to jump in. She told my dad to stop acting creepily obsessive over me, that I'm not his doll and I'm not his property. She mentioned a few disturbing things I'd rather not repeat as I'm still having trouble processing them myself, but she also called him out for being jealous of my husband. My dad left the house and according to my mom he probably went to a hotel or something. My mom apologized for everything. She even apologized to my husband for when she barged into the room while we were changing. She said that my dad and her had been fighting all day and that she wrongly took her anger out on us. She said she understood if we didn't want to stay any longer, and for the sake of, well, everything, we decided to leave. And that's that. I don't really have much to say because my mind's been kind of empty. I'm just numb and sad but also relieved. My dad and I have had a shitty relationship since I was 18, but knowing what he really thinks of me and my family hurts a lot. And it isn't even because of our culture or religion. It's just him being a shitty person, and because of this I'm going to go NC with my parents. Again. I didn't expect so much attention and I'm admittedly really overwhelmed. I don't use Reddit at all and wrote my post out of frustration. Thank you all for your comments, DMs. I know that there are things that a lot of you just won't get due to cultural differences, and I didn't include a few details for privacy reasons, but those things don't really matter. We're finally home after the most exhausting days of our lives, and again, I feel so incredibly numb. My husband keeps checking up on me in fear that I'm going to have a breakdown, but I just don't feel anything. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are coming over to babysit the kids while we go out for dinner since restrictions have been lifted, so I guess I'm happy for that. I don't know, but this state of numbness happens to me sometimes, and it usually passes in a day or two, so I'll be fine. This is getting very long, so I'm going to end it here. I'm sorry if I skipped a few things, but I hope you guys understand that I'm not in the right state of mind. Stay safe, everyone. Edit. I'm still in contact with my mom. I can't force her to leave my dad, but I am helping her, and will be there for her if she ever needs me. I appreciate everyone's comments, advice, and kind words. Thank you so very much. Unfortunately, I'm going to be logging out as I'm getting a few messages that are actually really hurtful. Turns out my husband was right, Lamau. I suppose I am about to have breakdown as the things that my mom told me are beginning to freak me out and overwhelm me. Like a few of you said, perhaps it's time for therapy. Thanks once again for all the advice and kindness. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Good for you for standing up for your husband, especially since he was ready to let it go, which would have made it tempting and easy to not do the right thing. I'm so sorry for both of you that you had to go through that. Your father has some serious issues. It scares me a little that you can say that your mom thinks he's jealous of your husband, in ways that reads very, very creepy from the context. It makes me wonder what the worst things are that you can't say. Please take compassion and support from this internet stranger. Your numbness sounds like shock, trauma response. If you're not already in therapy, I suggest you start. It sounds like you already had a lot to process and just got a whole bunch more dropped in your lap. Best of luck, Op. Commenter 2. Have to downvote since Op skipped a lot of things which were part of the story and called us ignorant and incapable of understanding her culture. What does she think? That everyone here is white or American? No Asians here? Or people with similar conservative, racist cultural background? Or that white or Americans cannot understand other cultures? Staying with her parents, Op has turned pretty discriminatory towards others. And what privacy? This is Reddit? Is her social security or passport tagged to her Reddit account or what? I think Op just doesn't like being honest or face the truth and likes wasting other people's time. When everyone spent time to give her wonderful advice the first time by telling her to stand up for her husband more, she doesn't like giving updates, and when she does, it's half-baked truth. Op's response. I didn't call anyone ignorant. I just said that if you aren't South Asian or Muslim, a lot of things may not make sense, which is perfectly okay. I also said that it doesn't matter in the end either, as culture and religion doesn't excuse anything. By privacy, I mean that I don't feel comfortable sharing everything in too much detail. I don't know why this is an issue. I know I didn't defend my husband properly over the couch situation. I'm well aware and I feel guilty over it, which I know is my fault. I tried making things right, and I know a lot of you think I don't deserve my husband, which yes, I honestly think no one deserves him. There is nobody as kind and wonderful as him. And what do you mean by half-truth? Did you want me to tell everyone that my dad thinks I'm a disgusting whore that's only successful because I sell my body to white men? That my own father objectifies me and has said horrific things about my body? That he has tried doing things to me and I never noticed? That my mom knew and never said anything because she was scared? I'm sorry that I didn't tell everyone the full truth, but I'm still trying to process this FFS. I'm trying so hard to not shut down because I have my kids and my husband, and they shouldn't have to deal with this. I appreciated everyone's advice, and so many of you were extremely kind and understanding. I even appreciate the harsh ones because, like I said, I needed to hear it. I read everyone's comments and DMs and really try to take everything into consideration, be a better person, and I'm still trying to be better despite everything. I'm sorry if that isn't enough for you and everyone else that's sending me similar messages. My future mother-in-law asked me to add her son's girlfriend's baby as a flower girl, but we'd never met them and they'd only dated 4 months, so now she's calling me racist, and my brother-in-law won't be best man anymore because apparently saying no makes me the villain. Posted by you/final_estimate 7166. I need some advice on this situation from an unbiased source. Me, 23F, and my fiancé, 27M, are getting married in December. We got engaged in April, and I pretty much did all the planning myself, with the help of my mom, in the first few weeks. From the very beginning, my fiancé and I had a plan laid out for the bridal party. That was one of the first things decided, since before I had the ring on my finger, including flower girls and ring bearers. We decided that the flower girl would be my sister's baby, who's also my matron of honor's baby, who will be pushed in a stroller down the aisle by my 10F cousin, who would be considered a junior bridesmaid. For the ring bearers, my fiancé really wanted to include his best friend's son. For context, his friend has not had custody of his child for most of his life, long story, and it could be a little difficult to arrange his attendance. He will be around 1.5 years at the time of the wedding. As a result, we decided that we would also have my 2 cousins, 5M and 7M, the brothers of the junior bridesmaid, be ring bearers as well. This way it's no pressure on the friend, and everything will go smoothly whether his child can come or not. The older boys will help the younger boy walk down the aisle holding his hands. We decided on these specific children because they are closely related, close to us, and are the right age. Shortly after the engagement, I asked my sister and my cousin, the moms of the children, if their kids could be in the wedding and gave details of what they should wear, etc. The kids and parents both were so excited. This was great, and everything was going according to plan until a few weeks ago when my mother-in-law asked us if we would consider adding another flower girl. For context, my fiancé's brother, best man, 24M, lives across the country from us and has recently told us, around 4 months ago, that he has a new girlfriend, 21F. This girlfriend has a child from a previous relationship, 10 months F. They have now known each other about 7 or 8 months. He is very serious about her, and we are very happy for them. He has taken a sort of father role in her daughter's life, which is adorable. He is expressing interest in marrying her in the future, but they are taking it slow. My fiancé and I have never met this girlfriend or her child, but we are thrilled for his brother, so we of course invited them both to the wedding. Now this is where things get a little messy. I have always gotten along great with my fiancé's family. They have always been so sweet, kind, accepting, and well-meaning. They welcome newcomers with open arms, including me, and have really become my family. I especially had a great relationship with my mother-in-law. She is the sweetest lady and would do anything for me and any one of her children. She lives very close to us, and my family lives far. She was always the first to say that it's our wedding, meaning mine and my fiancé's, to encourage me to make my own decisions in wedding planning and not let my mother sway them. She has become like a mother to me in so many ways. With that being said, they are also very loving and accepting of my fiancé's brother's girlfriend, and her baby, from afar. Which is great. I'm so glad that they are so supportive. They even started calling her baby their first grandchild and flew across the country to meet them. With this context in mind, a couple weeks ago when my mother-in-law and I were hanging out, just the two of us, she asked me if I would consider adding the girlfriend's baby as a flower girl. She said fiancé's brother keeps bringing it up and that it would be really cute. I politely told her that we already had a flower girl, my niece, and a junior bridesmaid assigned to push her in a carriage. She responded by saying essentially, "What's one more?" She will probably be able to walk by herself down the aisle by then, 14 to 15 months. I kind of just said I would think about it with my fiancé and changed the subject. Later on, I told my fiancé about it, and we both agreed that it wasn't a good idea because, 1. We already had the role filled, and it would be sort of awkward to have a baby randomly walking next to the stroller with the other baby. 2. If she needed help walking, it wouldn't be easy for the 10-year-old to juggle 2 kids down an aisle. 3. We have never met her, and she might not be comfortable walking down the aisle of a wedding where she knows nobody. And 4. They aren't married, and worst case scenario, if they break up, she's in all the pictures. I know that sounds harsh, but I come from a family where traditionally, if you're not engaged, you don't get A+1 no matter who you are. I am not following this rule, and everyone's significant other is invited, but that doesn't mean they get to be in the wedding. My fiancé and I were on the same page about this. We agreed to keep the bridal party the way it was. He talked to his brother and essentially told him it was a no, and everything was fine, and everyone was on the same page until the other night. We were at mother-in-law's house again, but this time my fiancé was there too. Once again, mother-in-law brings up the flower girl thing, and my fiancé tells her that we already have the position filled and that's that. But then my mother-in-law tells my fiancé how much it must mean to his brother since he keeps bringing it up. This brings out the empath in my fiancé, and he starts to have an open mind about it. Meanwhile, I'm still against it, and I start to say so with some of the reasons I listed above. My mother-in-law points out that all of the children in the wedding are from my side except one and that their side doesn't have any representation. Meanwhile, this is because there are no children on his side. She also points out that there are 3 little boys in the wedding and why can't there be 3 little girls? At this point, she's convinced my fiancé, and I'm an island. I'm still defending my position alone. She wasn't being rude or anything, but every reason I have, she seemed to have a rebuttal. She's saying things like, they will get married one day anyways, and, she's already part of the family. Then I start saying, we will think about it. And she is like, so that sounds like a no, and I was like, we will consider it. It was awkward, and I was about to cry, so I changed the subject. The whole time I felt like I looked like a major jerk. It was really bad. My fiancé since apologized to me for being open to the idea in front of his mother when we had decided against it. From what he believed about his mother, he figured that she would just have an open conversation with us and not try to push her way. I figured it would not go that way. Later that night, he called his brother and told him it was for sure no, and we had already asked other people. His brother was sad but understood. I felt really bad and guilty for making my fiancé feel bad. In hindsight, I really should not have because of what followed afterwards. This is where my previous post left off. A lot has happened in the last few days. I was worried immediately after that conversation that his mother would tell his brother that my fiancé was for it and I was against it while we were at her place. My fiancé said that he knows his mother well and that she wouldn't do that. That next morning, his brother calls him wanting to talk. The first words out of his mouth are, "After our conversation last night, I talked to Mom, and she said that you were wanting to have her as the flower girl and your fiancé, me, wasn't, just as I thought would happen." And he goes on to say, "As your brother, I want to make sure that you get what you want since it's your wedding." I was pissed. My fiancé told him that we would still talk about it but that we had already agreed not to have her as the flower girl, and that he should not have seemed so open to it last night. That whole day we discussed it. I felt like a jerk and was tempted to cave to keep the peace, but the only reason my fiancé was wanting it was because it meant a lot to his brother. But the conclusion we came to was that it's not his brother's wedding. So we called him up a few hours later and told him no for the third time. He was upset, but at least it was over, or so we thought. He texted him the next morning again expressing how hurt he was by it, but at that point we were like, the decision is made. It's our wedding. Please get over it. And then my fiancé's brother enlisted their mother. She calls my fiancé and basically attacks him for almost an hour on the phone. My fiancé did a great job of sticking up for us and sticking to his guns. His mom went as far as to say that my relationships with his whole family will forever be affected by this decision. That one hurt. And that my fiancé's relationship with his brother will forever be altered. At this point, this is all going way too far. We ended up talking to my fiancé's sister and found out that his brother no longer wants to be best man anymore and that neither of them want to speak to us for a while. They said that this won't be resolved until we give in. I'm at a loss for words. This doesn't even feel like a real situation, to be honest. I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. We are definitely not going to give in. At this point, all that it would tell them is that if they push hard enough, they can manipulate us. It just really hurts because we had such a great relationship before this. My fiancé's brother and mother are trying to manipulate and force us to have brother-in-law's girlfriend's daughter as a flower girl. Brother-in-law is not the biological father of this child, and we have never met this child or her mother. They have also only been together for 8 months. We have said no repeatedly, and they are personally offended and now won't talk to us. Update 1, 3 days later. Wow. As a new Reddit poster, I'm absolutely shocked by how many views and comments this post got. Was not expecting for people to actually reply. Thank you for those of you that gave great advice and were trying to help the situation. Your insight really opened our eyes, mine and my fiancé's. A lot of you hit the nail on the head. Brother-in-law is the golden child and has always been favored greatly over my fiancé by their mother. Bill is the youngest, and his mother has been coddling him his whole life. My fiancé is the oldest and tends to be the peacemaker, sacrificed. A lot of you also called out the triangulation manipulation. I told my fiancé this, and he said that his younger brother often would rope his mom into their arguments, get her to take his side, and get my fiancé in trouble no matter how ridiculous or wrong brother was being. He mastered the art of triangulation manipulation from a young age. My fiancé would just take it and apologize to keep the peace. For those of you who said it's ridiculous to have a child we have never met and are not related to, and have not even met her mother, as such an important part of our wedding party, thank you. I was feeling like the crazy one for thinking this. Also info, I was being gracious when I said they have been together 8 months. They have known each other 8 months and only been dating officially for 4 months. The wedding is further away than the length of their whole relationship. It's bizarre that they are pushing so hard for this. For those who said we should have granted their request and just kept the peace, my fiancé has been doing this his entire life with this family. That is probably why they resorted to their usual manipulation tactics. He never actually wanted to have this baby in our wedding. He, in fact, thought it was pretty ridiculous of them to ask. He was just ready to cave because he always does to keep the family peace. At the expense of himself and his needs, wants, every time. Except the difference is, this time the wedding is about him. It's his day and not his brother's. Well, both of us. And that's the other thing. He has me this time to stand up for him and what he actually wanted. I also wanted it too, which helps. On to the update, a lot has happened. Today my fiancé went to see his dad, and then his mom. They are separated. His dad is neutral but has been sticking up for me in this whole thing. I have a great relationship with him. He filled us in on a lot. Here is essentially what has been happening. Turns out brother-in-law's girlfriend has more to do with this than we thought, as some of you suggested in the comments. She's the one who has been encouraging him to push for this because it means a lot to him. And been super offended and making a big deal about us saying no. Personally, if it was me, I would never ask someone if my kid could be in their wedding, even if it's family. But forcing it on strangers is wild. My fiancé found out from talking to his dad that my mother-in-law and brother-in-law are spreading a whole bunch of lies. Here is what has all unfolded. Mother-in-law is telling people I'm racist, and that's why I didn't want the baby in it. Apparently the baby and mother are Filipino, which I honestly didn't even know because, once again, I've never met them, they live across the country. I don't even know their last name, but still, I don't care what race they are in the slightest. The girlfriend now believes this and doesn't even want to come to the wedding anymore. That's her choice. Also, the wedding party is diverse ethnicities, so how is it that I'm racist? Brother-in-law is telling people that we are judging the girlfriend and don't want her child in the wedding because she was born out of wedlock, which is ridiculous. 2 of the children who are already in the wedding were born out of wedlock, 1 from each side. They have been talking behind our backs, gossiping, making up lies about me, and assuming things about me that are not true. Brother-in-law is twisting and changing my fiancé's words into complete lies that make him seem like the victim. He is feeding these lies of things my fiancé did not say to not only his mother, but his sister and his dad. My sister-in-law and father-in-law are both neutral and won't take sides but think that this whole thing is insane and want it to end. We do too. They both see that they are doing this whole thing and hate me for no reason. So today my fiancé went to see his mother to essentially call her out for her behavior. She was absolutely hysterical and was not ready to listen to reason or logic. She deflected and denied, and lied about things we knew were in fact true. She refused to take accountability or any sort of blame for the situation getting out of hand. She just referred back to blaming me for everything and making me the villain and herself and her precious baby son, Bill, the victim. Meanwhile, the last time I spoke to either of them was when we had that conversation with mother-in-law at her house where my fiancé slipped and this whole thing started. My fiancé has been handling this whole thing and even trying to shield me from the blame and take it all for himself. It's not working. Mother-in-law and brother-in-law have made this whole thing up in their heads and driven themselves and everyone else crazy over it. Meanwhile, all I've done is express my concerns for having a child in the wedding that we don't know, in that initial conversation, when they aren't engaged or married, and the fact that we already filled the roles. She denies favoring brother-in-law and claims that she is hurt by the accusation, and then in the same breath favors him and defends him. I feel the worst for my fiancé because he doesn't even want anything to do with them anymore and does not feel the need to keep up with these relationships. He said that his mother expected him to fall on his face today and apologize for everything because that is what he was forced to do growing up, and that's what they are used to. But now that I'm an extension of him, he is not letting us, get treated this way. He is angry that they are selfishly trying to use our day to make some grand gesture to his brother's girlfriend he's been dating for 4 months and that they refuse to respect our wishes. He is shocked and disappointed that they are lying about us and creating drama around our wedding. He is saying goodbye to this toxic cycle and going to go no contact until they come to their senses and fix this mess. For those of you who asked, we are in premarital counseling with our pastor who is also our officiant. He was bewildered that they even requested this in the first place and shocked and dismayed that they have turned it into such an ordeal. Anyways, this wasn't the update we hoped for, but it's the one we have. Hopefully one day things will turn around. We are hoping mother-in-law at least comes to her senses considering we are the only family that lives near her. Maybe she will learn to support the son and daughter-in-law who will one day birth the grandkids she actually has a shot of seeing regularly, rather than blatantly favoring the son and girlfriend who live across the country. But for the time being, this is it. Update 2, 3 days later. Hi guys, I have a small update. I decided to just be the bigger person and try to dissolve some of the tension myself. I was tired of my fiancé talking to his brother and his brother twisting it, so I tracked down Bill's girlfriend on Instagram and sent her a DM, like some of our comments suggested. Thank you. I cut out the middlemen, literally. I sent her a very nice message telling her how excited we are to meet her and her daughter, explained from my point of view in detail everything that went into the original decision of the flower girl and cleared up all of the miscommunications, her boyfriend's assumptions and twists of my fiancé's words, but I didn't say that. Surprisingly, she was very kind and appreciative. Her message back was very mature, gracious, and understanding. Me and her are 100% good, and she and her baby are very excited to come to the wedding. Honestly, it could not have gone better. Now for what everyone is wondering about, we are still low contact with mother-in-law and brother-in-law. My fiancé is not ready to talk to either of them. Brother-in-law has not tried to reach out. That night, after mother-in-law had that horrible conversation with my fiancé, she found out that sister-in-law was coming to my first dress fitting the next day and she wasn't invited. She asked sister-in-law to call us and ask if she could come to it. We told her there would be others, I wouldn't really be able to enjoy the day with all the tension. The next day I had a great time with sister-in-law and did not mention the topic, situation, even once because I knew she was forced to hear about it from both her mom and my fiancé. Mother-in-law reached out to both me and my fiancé and asked to talk to both of us in person and proposed a few dates. My fiancé told her that he was not ready to talk to her yet after how their conversation went the day before. The timing of it tells me that she definitely sees that if she doesn't make this right, she will be left out of all the wedding stuff. Not only that, but all of the life stuff that we're doing. For example, we just put an offer in on a house. I'm holding out hope that our relationship with her will be mended one day soon. I'm hoping that his brother also comes around now that we have explained everything to his girlfriend. My fiancé has expressed that they need to apologize before we can move forward. Not too much of an update, but just wanted to keep you guys in the loop. Thanks for reading and following along with this madness. Update 3, 4 days later. Brother-in-law's girlfriend broke up with him. I don't know all the details, but Bill told my sister-in-law, who told my fiancé this morning. Apparently she said she couldn't deal with the toxicity and drama of his family. Trust me girl, I get that, but my fiancé is super upset because he thinks that she means us, as in me and him. I said after our messages the other day, she probably means mother-in-law, but my fiancé is convinced that from her perspective, he and I are the toxic ones creating drama. I don't know, that's debatable I guess. Either way, he feels super guilty and now just wants to fix everything with his family. I'm convinced that if anything, my text to her showed her how crazy he made this whole situation, and it probably illuminated some of his issues. I think he probably tries to manipulate her too. But it's hard to say, I don't know her or their relationship. At this point I'm speculating, but I'm sure that there were other issues with them. Nobody breaks up with someone they truly are in love with just because of their family. There has to be something else. Let me update you on mother-in-law. Mother-in-law called my fiancé the other day, before the breakup and stuff which we all just found out about this morning, and told him, maybe it's good this all happened, now you're going to therapy to work on yourself and her. My mother is being super supportive. We did not appreciate that. Felt super condescending, to be honest. But anyways, he called her this morning after all of this, and she said she was trying to see us so that she could apologize to us. I will definitely hear her out and accept her apology. I will move on from this but always watch my back. Things can be cordial again though. I'll keep you guys updated as things progress.
My fiancé and her bestie moved into my parents' rental house. Bestie kept breaking my stuff and yelling at me. Then my fiancé started taking her side every single fight, so now I'm wondering if I was just funding their little love nest this whole time. Posted by you/Infinite Series 9493. Hi, I am currently going through a breakup with my fiancé, and I need input from strangers. My friends have been validating a lot of my feelings, but I feel like that could be bias. Some context: I, 26M, am engaged to Kate, 23F. We've been together just under 5 years, engaged for almost 2. I proposed on our anniversary. Anyway, this time last year we moved into a rental property my parents own with her best friend, we'll call her May, 27F. For the 18 months leading up to this, I had worked law enforcement. That job 100% made me realize that you can't change the system from within, and made me fully a cop. I was injured a few times and also dealt with some close calls and some really heavy things. Even though I knew I should have been talking to a psychologist about these things during my time, I kept neglecting my mental health until I broke down. I got injured again, couldn't stop smoking, and quit the job. I was in denial about my PTSD and kept trying to push past it and get a different job in security. I couldn't do this, and the feeling of failure combined with being terrified of everyone around me outside, I struggled to find the motivation to find another job or do anything. I struggled going to the shops for some time. During this time, me and May were always around each other and butting heads. Shortly after we moved in, we were setting up rooms. I asked her to not touch some 3D printed D&D models that I had made and painted, due to some breaking in transport and me not wanting to risk more damage. She ended up moving all of them whilst setting up shelves and even unboxed ones I didn't want unboxed. I told her I had specifically asked her not to touch them, and it upset me she did. Her response was I needed to unbox stuff and put it on shelves before the party. We had a housewarming coming up. I told her she could have done that without touching them. She yelled they wouldn't have been touched if you had done it yourself. When I talked to my fiancé about this, she took May's side. This established a pattern. May would do something that crossed a boundary, and she would yell at that. I did also do things which crossed her boundaries, and I did try to apologize and explain that I didn't understand that had been an issue, and clear communication would help me understand in the future. Few months go by, I am terrified of May. Every time I'm around her, my heart is pounding, I'm looking for weapons, my body is reacting to her as a threat. And I unfortunately responded by being angry. I felt like my fiancé wasn't doing anything to make the house feel welcome to me. I begged her to talk to May, and she said she did, but that I needed to apologize first and show that I can change. Eventually in January, it reached a point where May would clean a small section of our patio and sit and smoke. We would all sit and smoke together. She would only clean the section she sat. That area was where I sat most of the time when she wasn't around. One week she got angry because I left my stuff in her spot, and a different day I didn't immediately stop smoking and move over for her. I told her it was a communal area, and she didn't own that spot. The next day I came home, and she was building a couch in that area. I told my fiancé that it seemed like a petty attempt to take ownership of the space. My fiancé dismissed that, but also said I wouldn't be able to sit on it due to the weight rating of it. I tried to overlook it, but I asked my fiancé to bring up moving it, because at this point I was too scared to talk to May and was avoiding her. My fiancé refused for a while, then did and said the couch stayed, and started telling me to suck it up, her actual words. This led to us arguing, and me picking the couch up over our heads and moving it to the other side of the table. At this point May said they were moving out. I said it wasn't going to work with us together in the house. My fiancé and May spent the next 6 months just telling me to stop being angry and apologize, and that everything was my fault. I had felt so ashamed for this entire year I didn't tell my friends any of this until this past week. I was constantly sent to the bedroom when May was around, though she wasn't there every day. It felt like I wasn't welcome in the house. When I asked when May was moving out, I was told she wasn't, then she was. And this kept happening. I stayed scared of May. And then my fiancé began screaming at and berating me for not having empathy, for not loving her or caring about her. I yelled too, but I also slowly began to feel hated by her, and as it went on, I just wanted to do anything to keep her happy. I apologized and was yelled at by May. This happened 3 times in a row, so I gave up. I didn't care about May anymore. She destroyed the friendship we had. I felt so unsafe I wanted her out of my life. But I could never ask my fiancé to give up her friendship. I just didn't want her in the house. I accused my fiancé of having an emotional affair. She denied anything, but also told me May thought she has been in love with Kate, but talked it through with a psychologist, and she just loves her like a sister. This struck me as weird, and a lot of my friends are calling it manipulative. But last week we hit a point. Kate had gone off and spent the night where May has been staying and told me she was staying at 10:30 p.m. She gave May $1,000 recently to fix their car. I finally talked to some friends about everything. They made me feel validated in my fear, my suspicions, and just didn't make me feel crazy anymore. I had been conflicted with how I felt. I knew I was wrong to be angry, and I was sorry for my actions. And I tried to make up from them, but when I asked for the same, I got yelled at for asking. It felt like I was being told May can act however she wants and Kate will defend her, but if I step a toe out of line I will be told off. I felt like a third in my own engagement. Please let me know if you think I'm the jerk or not the jerk. I will try and provide any additional information if possible. Edit, I just found out that Kate has been lying to me for a few weeks about a mutual friend of ours, one of my best friends. Kate told me this friend thought I had changed and was no longer the person I was and didn't want me in their life. Due to this, I didn't reach out to them after the break until this morning. I asked how I had changed and why they didn't want me as a friend. She then denied not wanting me as a friend, told me she still loves me and wants me in her life. We've begun making plans to catch up and talk this weekend. This has made me realize that I well and truly have been manipulated and lied to, and that I'm not going crazy and losing everyone and everything. I don't know how long this has been happening, whether it's the full 5 years, or just since May has been this entwined with our relationship. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I felt like a third in my own engagement. Yep. NTA time to move on and stop supplementing fiancé and May's lifestyles. Ops response, honestly, thank you so much for saying this. I started to cry because I felt like I was going mad trying to say everything. This went from me trying to get perspective to letting my feelings out, and I thought it might be incoherent rambling. Commenter 2, NTA. I strongly suggest that you have a witness with you every time you interact with either of them from now on. I guarantee they know exactly how they're triggering your anxiety, and likely PTSD, and are doing so intentionally because they know that they can easily manipulate you in situations once you're triggered. It genuinely isn't safe for you emotionally to be around them alone. Ops response, thank you for the advice. I was planning on trying to have a friend around for dividing assets. Commenter 3, did you ever get treatment for PTSD? Did Kate keep May around because she felt unsafe because of your untreated mental health issues? Ops response, I did get treatment. And in the past 6 months, she did start feeling unsafe. I do need to keep going with therapy to deal with my issues. We had lived together most of our relationship without any major issues. Also at one point I was very suicidal. My psychologist told my fiancé I should be placed under a 72-hour hold. She didn't want me to go, so I didn't. Commenter 4, how were the bills split between Op and Kate? Op's response, bills are currently mostly 50-50 between me and Kate. May has always paid a lower rent. We agreed $150 before we moved in. And then almost immediately said she could only pay $100 a week until she got a job. She would then get a job, keep paying $100, and when I said I wasn't going to keep paying a third of her rent, Kate started paying instead. May also never paid more than a quarter of any bill. Whilst in law enforcement, I was covering about 60 to 70% of bills when it was just me and Kate. I was okay with that because I was making close to double what she did. Commenter 5, Op should get the ring back. Op's response, I took the ring a few days ago and have it with me at my parents'. I'm only staying this week. Commenter 6, Op needs to get clean now after it seems like weed is creating the harm. Op's response, I'm getting sober after this week. I realized that myself, and I had quit and was good, but my fiancé always had it in the house, and the temptation of it was too strong. I know I can be sober and healthy mentally. I just wasn't strong enough then to resist the temptation. Commenter 7, Op needs to find his spine and get this sorted out. Ops response: I'm 6 feet 8 inches and have been training to fight for 8 years. I have always been such an intimidating figure that I always try to be calm and go with the flow to avoid being scary. But I do think this lead to me having issues trying to express my own needs in a relationship, because I'm desperate to not be alone. Update, 1 month later. So some people asked for an update. And I have a few good and a few bad things to share. Brief recap: my fiancée, Kate, and I of almost 5 years broke up a month ago after moving into a house with her best friend, May. I was suffering from PTSD and left my job in law enforcement. I had set some boundaries with May, and she kept crossing them. She would also get angry, yell at me, and get in my face, and Kate would always dismiss these outbursts. So to the update, I stayed at my parents' house for a week. After returning, I didn't know if Kate would be there or not. She wasn't. She took the cat and a few items of clothing, and all our sheets and pillows. I reached out asking if she wanted to talk about things and if she was working that Wednesday because we could sit down and discuss who gets what and her moving out. She had threatened to take all the furniture during the breakup, so I wanted to sit down and actually divide the things we'd bought together between us. She said she didn't want to meet, and that she asked for my roster to collect her stuff when I'm not there. Because of her threatening to take the bed and everything else, I said I didn't want her in the house without me and would change the locks. She eventually said she wanted to do it via text, but I told her it should be in person. There are a lot of things in a lot of random places which actually needed to be sorted through. She refused. I then found out a few days later from my brother she had messaged my parents, telling them I had turned off all her fish tanks and wasn't letting her in to do anything to them. I was more than happy for her to come over whilst I was here. I just didn't trust her after finding out about a lot of her lies about my friends hating me. My parents called, and the 4 of us spoke. My brother confirmed the tanks were all on and were clean. My parents told me she had hired a moving crew for Tuesday to get all her stuff. My parents own the house we live in. I put a lock on the bedroom door and changed all the locks in the house. I told her Tuesday didn't work for me, but Wednesday would work. She refused and said she was coming, so I sent the list of things she wasn't to take. And she insisted on taking the entire bedroom set. I told my manager about what was happening. She knew about the breakup. I broke down at work the next day and told her. She was so understanding and actually helped a lot, and I'm so thankful for her. On Tuesday they came just before I left for work. I called my brother, and he started coming towards the house. I had moved all Kate and May's belongings outside that I could find and move. Had a friend help me with May's bed. My brother arrived after I left and told me they were inside the house. I told my manager, who agreed to let me leave early when the second staff started, which was in 5 hours. My brother planted himself on the sofa, kept an eye on the bedroom, and kept me updated. When I arrived they gutted most of the house of all of their stuff, but also a few of my items. I found more out after it was over. But she took one of my consoles and the cables to my other, so I couldn't use it. They didn't get in the bedroom or get the couch at least. I later found out they stole my cookbooks, the rice and flour, and a few other weird things. However, not long after I decided to try and put myself back out there and just try and have some fun casual dates until I'm ready for something long term. However, I quickly realized it wasn't for me anymore, and I wanted something seriously. But I met someone, and we immediately clicked. We were sending these huge paragraphs, info dumping to each other, and we shared a lot of the same interests and passions. We've gone out a few times now, and I really like them, and I really hope this works out well, taking it slowly though. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, it doesn't sound like you're taking anything slowly. It sounds like you're trauma bonding or whatever the kids call it. In any case, best of luck with everything and hope you're feeling okay and getting the help you need. Ops response, I've trauma bonded with someone before. This isn't it. I've also been seeing a psychologist who is aware of everything. We're working on helping me recognize red flags in relationships, and it is helping. Commenter 2, I have PTSD, military, and the mind slams are really hard to manage. I understand why you spiraled, as you couldn't properly rationalize the abuse Kate and May were throwing at you. Nor could you process it. It became part and parcel of your trauma, just another layer being added. It does get better, as I hope your psychologist is helping you see, and when others begin to cause problems that start to trigger you, you'll have new tools to stop them short. Take care and best wishes to you. Ops response, you actually summed it up perfectly there. I hadn't even thought of it that way. My psychologist has been helping. After the breakup I did feel a lot of anxiety leave, but I know I've developed new ones. Thank you so much. Commenter 3, can Op report Kate and May to the police for stealing/theft? Ops response, I talked to a friend who is a cop, and he said that it shouldn't have been a civil matter since they had no legal way to get inside. But he said since they made the call I have to go to court to try and get stuff back. And I can't afford to deal with legal fees at this point. I was in a more specific aspect of law enforcement. We only dealt with things within a specific region and didn't cover residential situations. So I never handled domestic violence cases or anything to do with breaking and entering. I know the general idea, but I wanted to confirm since he has experience in those areas. Commenter 4, Ops shouldn't have let Kate into the house. Ops response, I didn't. The doors were locked. She came in through a window and unlocked everything from the inside. My brother arrived and texted me they were inside. I couldn't stop her retrieving her property. It would be theft, so it was placed in the garage with the exception of boxes I had yet to sort through to gather my belongings from. I told them to not enter the house in person and via message. Commenter 5, you broke up your engagement a month ago. Perhaps lay off the dating and stay single and focus on your mental health and well-being? Ops response, my biggest issue was a lack of safety in my home. In the past month I have regained that safety. We've been on 3 dates in the past week and a half for a few hours each time. We're both pretty busy and won't see each other for a bit. But we text and call, not ready for a serious relationship because I need to work on myself, and they are understanding of that. I'm also talking with a psychologist who is giving me some good tools and mechanisms to recognize any abuse signs. Commenter 6, let the things go. They're things and can be replaced. May and Kate are absolutely together. They've been a couple this entire time, and you've been a cash cow. You survived on the job trauma and an abusive relationship. Do yourself a favor, get yourself a pet. I like cats but dogs are good, too, from the shelter. No, don't go to a breeder. Specifically get a rescue. Why? It's hard to explain, but there's healing to be had there. Then go and get therapy. Just work on you and get healed. Keep us updated. Ops response, that's actually my entire plan. I replaced the console. I plan on going to a shelter soon. I have been rearranging the house. Had too many echoes of them. I would love a dog, but I wouldn't have the time with my schedule, so I'm getting a cat because I miss the one we shared, and it'll be easier and cheaper. I don't think there will be any more updates unless she takes me to court. Commenter 7, please consider getting some professional counseling, or you may end up in the same situation as before. If money is an issue, then consider free support groups such as ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. If you haven't been in a war, I suspect your PTSD has come from your childhood. In that case, it's worse than someone who has been in a war, because it was abusive for a very long time and inescapable, causing complex PTSD, or CPTSD. And, males from this situation often go into law enforcement, which makes it even worse. It will take 2 years of serious emotional work to find your true self and live it. So, for your sake, no serious relationships until you've done the work. Ops response, you're actually the first person to make this type of assertion and be right. I have a lot of childhood trauma that I am currently working on with my psychologist. I have had previous PTSD diagnoses, but working with my current one to figure out if CPTSD is more fitting. My psych's main goal is recognition of red flags and how to healthily set and then reinforce my boundaries. I still use a lot of the methods from my previous times in therapy which do help. But I can recognize that I've developed new anxieties, and I probably have some triggers I'm not aware of yet. Commenter 8, good luck in your new relationship. Don't let people treat you the way May and Kate did. Most importantly, rely on your support system when you second guess yourself. Don't let people gaslight you into apologizing. Stay happy out there. Ops response, honestly they've already shown me a lot more care and attention. I told them about a book I had been looking for 5 years on our first date. On our second they told me they found and ordered it for me, which is something Kate would never have done. My psych is helping me recognize toxic patterns to avoid, and my friends are helping a lot. My daughter's school has a zero-tolerance policy for violence, but apparently touching girls without permission gets a free pass if you're disabled, and now my family is fighting a legal battle because one mom refuses to teach her son about consent. Posted by you/throwaway_gaytismdad. Hey everyone. First time actually posting. My family consists of me, 32M, my husband, 35M, and our adopted daughter Kayla, 14F. Kayla has autism. She's partially nonverbal, and has extreme sensory issues. She goes to a public school with a decent special education program. She's in a class separate from all the other students with multiple teachers. Kayla is really happy and gets along with most of the kids. The class is allowed to join one of the general population gym classes. I was really worried about this at first, but this class is actually really nice to the special ed kids. All the kids in special ed are really nice and sweet, except for this one boy. Josh, 16M, has Down syndrome. Josh's mom is the kind of mom that I can't stand. She doesn't enforce any rules on her son. She never corrects his behavior or tells him no. Josh isn't a mean or violent kid. The problem is that this boy has no concept of boundaries or consent. He's very physically affectionate. My daughter does not like being touched at all unless she specifically asks for it. He's always grabbing her, tickling, hugging, pinning her down to cuddle. She tells him no politely, but that just makes him upset and he tries harder to touch her. The teachers have to constantly stop him. Last Friday, I got a call that the principal wanted to have a meeting after school. Kayla was in trouble for hitting a boy in her class. Kayla was waiting in the office. The principal gave a whole speech about how violence is absolutely unacceptable, etc. I asked her what happened. They were in gym class for free day and Kayla was jogging laps around the gym. Josh was off to the side with a group of girls playing tickle tag. As Kayla was passing by, she felt hands on her behind. She spun around and slapped him across the face. Josh fell to the floor and started loudly crying. He wanted Kayla to join them playing, but instead of asking her, he just ran up behind her and tickled her behind. I felt so bad for my little girl. She was so upset. I assumed the punishment would be dropped, but the principal wanted a week of detention. I was floored. She thought she was being groped, it was self-defense. The principal said Josh wasn't harassing her, he was just playing. Even if he was, violence of any kind is not tolerated. I asked if Josh would be punished for touching my daughter's behind, and he said no. He has Downs, he doesn't know any better. I unloaded on the principal. Are you going to let him graduate and send him out into the world as an adult thinking it's okay to sneak up behind girls and touch their behinds? He needs to learn that behavior isn't okay. The principal kept to that same stupid excuse. I stormed out and took Kayla out for pizza. Josh's mom was blowing up my phone the whole time, but I ignored her. My husband agreed that Josh's behavior was inappropriate, and her reaction was reasonable, but that maybe Kayla should apologize to Josh for hitting him. Since he doesn't know why he got hit. Am I the jerk? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Absolutely NTB. The school administration seriously needs to check themselves and look at security footage or something if this has been a pattern of Joshua. The double standards are crazy here, that the fact that he has Down syndrome excuses him but Kayla's autism and sensory issues mean nothing? Ridiculous. Ops response. They think that because he didn't have any intimate intentions that it's all a misunderstanding and he should be let off the hook. Honestly, I can't stand people that don't hold disabled kids accountable when they act inappropriately. Kayla is a lot more mentally developed than the other kids, she's the only one that does work at her grade level and has the mental capacity of a teenager. So she's expected to be a lot more patient and understanding, even when the other kids make her uncomfortable. Commenter 2. Do they think that people with that condition are incapable of intimate feelings? Because once his hormones kick in and he actually starts wanting that kind of thing, he'll have no actual idea of how to behave, and he'll actually start harassing people. He needs to be taught about consent ASAP. Ops response. I couldn't include that in the post because of the character limit, but I did bring that up to the principal. He seemed shocked and disgusted that I would even suggest that Josh could have intimate intentions. I think he actually does think that Josh has the mental state of a small child and that makes him incapable of being aroused. But he's a 16-year-old boy, it's not out of the question. Unfortunately his mom also seems to think this. Commenter 3. NTB zero tolerance policies are nonsense for this reason. She was only defending herself after she was touched without her consent. And I'm assuming she's given Josh warnings before this incident and tried to enforce her boundaries. I'd honestly push the issue of teaching boundaries to Josh and escalate it if teachers and admin try to justify the behavior again. I'm sorry your daughter went through that. I hope she's alright and her being punished is completely unfair. Ops response. She has enforced her boundaries multiple times. She always politely tells him no when he tries to touch her, but he just pouts and tries even harder until a teacher comes over to stop him. My husband and the group chat of other parents from the special ed class don't think the detention is necessary, but about half the group chat thinks she should apologize and we should tell her not to hit people. I don't think it's a big deal. She's never hit another kid before, and if she was actually being groped with intimate intent, I would expect her to hit the creep touching her. Update, 5 days later. Hi everyone. I really did not expect my first post to get nearly as much attention as it got. I had to turn off notifications for the Reddit app because it was constantly blowing up my phone. In my first post, I talked about a repeated issue my autistic daughter, Kayla, 14F, has had with a boy in her class that has Down syndrome, Josh, 16M. He has no concept of boundaries and keeps trying to be physically affectionate with people that don't want to be touched, including my daughter. Last week there was an incident where he touched her behind, and she slapped him. The principal wanted to punish her for hitting him, but not Josh because it was just a misunderstanding. The comments under that post were flooded with dozens of stories about people with developmental disabilities that aren't taught boundaries or consent, and go on to commit inappropriate behavior. This honestly has me terrified for the safety of my daughter, and the other kids in her class. What if he's touched other kids inappropriately before? What if he's done even worse? Kayla has a level of mental development to recognize what Josh did was wrong, but I don't know if the other kids in her class would. I showed my husband the Reddit post. He read the comments, and I could see the color drain from his face. He felt awful for suggesting she should apologize to him. We talked for a long time, and decided what to do. First, we sat down with Kayla. We had a long talk about boundaries, bodily autonomy, and consent. We reassured her that protecting herself like that was absolutely the right thing to do. No one should ever touch her like that without her permission. She cried and hugged us a lot. We gave her full permission to stop being polite to Joshua. He's had enough polite refusals. If he keeps this up, raise her voice, get aggressive, yell at him, shove him away. It doesn't matter if he cries, she needs to protect herself. And if he gets aggressive, or touches her somewhere inappropriate again, she has our full permission to hit him. Sometimes it's better to be safe than polite. We're going to take the advice many people in the comments gave us. We're filing a police report for harassment against Josh, and going above the principal to the superintendent and the school board. Depending on how those meetings go, we might consult a lawyer. Thank you all so much for opening my eyes. I am going to do everything to protect my daughter. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. My brother has Downs. He is very loving and friendly and loves to make people laugh. He also understands he can't just go up and hug or touch people. We taught him very young and reinforced that. Josh is touching people inappropriately and that can set him up for others doing the same to him. His mother and that school is failing him. I hope by you taking things further up the chain of command things get settled. Ops response. I feel I should acknowledge this. There are other kids in my daughter's class with Downs, and they're all wonderful kids. Very nice and sweet. A few of them have problems with emotional regulation or following rules, but they're not bad kids at all. Josh and Josh's mother are the problem. Update 2, 1 week later. I know a lot of people have been waiting for an update on the situation with my daughter. Quite a few things happened. I can't give too many details, because there are active investigations and legal cases going on, but I figured I'd give all the lovely people that helped me on the right path a good update. There was another incident in school with my daughter Kayla and Joshua. He tried to hug her when she didn't want to be, and instead of being polite, she was assertive like I told her to be. She sternly told him no, and when he kept trying, she pushed him away. Josh actually picked her up by her waist to try to force her to hug him. She bit him hard enough to draw blood. I am so proud of my little girl. The principal suspended her after that. While she was out of school for the rest of the week, the police and CPS got involved because of my police report. And the school board took action about my complaints. The principal has been suspended pending investigation, and an interim principal is in place. I already like him. The first thing he did was have a meeting with me and Kayla. He was calm, reassuring, and agrees that the behavior of Josh and the previous principal were absolutely unacceptable. Josh is suspended indefinitely while the police and CPS investigation is going on, and Kayla is back in school. She's been so much happier at school without having to deal with Joshua. She's been eager and excited to go to school. I've contacted a lawyer, and we're talking about if we have a case to sue the old principal. We're just in the beginning stages, but things seem to be going good. She's a cousin of a friend, so she's taking our case pro bono. Thank you so much for helping me find the correct path forward. Fingers crossed everything goes well.
My dad ignored me for months after I was born, then did the bare minimum for 25 years, but somehow expected to walk me down the aisle like he actually raised me, so now I'm walking myself instead. Posted by you/odysseys_kitten. So about 25 years ago, two dumb 20-year-olds got drunk and made me. They had, and still have, nothing in common, and they don't particularly like one another, but for some reason they decided to keep me. I always lived with my mom full-time. I love her, don't get me wrong, but she's pretty messy. I have 6 other half-siblings, 2 of them with the same dad. We always had a clean place to live and never went hungry or anything, but I know there were times she did without so we wouldn't. Mom very clearly loves all of us, individually and as her family, she's just pretty irresponsible. My dad, I'd say, has his act together more, but we're not close. He married Hildy, also mid-40s now, when I was about 6, and they had my half-brothers Jesse, 16M, and Kyle, 14M, a few years later. They both have really good jobs, a nice house, and nice cars. I know my dad paid child support, but their lives were simply very different than mine. I'd come over every other weekend, but after a while they were too busy with the other 2, so I just wait for Dad to text me when he was available. He did, don't get me wrong, but he works a lot, so I probably saw him once a month before I went to college. After that, we'd talk every now and then, but mainly just see one another on holidays. One of these holidays, Hildy got kind of drunk and told me that after my mom had me, my dad basically blocked her and just paid child support until his parents, my grandma and grandpa, basically shamed him for being a deadbeat, and he got some visitation. That hurt a lot to hear, but it made a lot of my childhood make sense. It all came up because she was resentful that he had to pay my mom child support until I was 21, and she was saying she wished I'd skip college. It's also sad because I know she was busy with her kids, but I always thought she at least liked me. I know she hates my mom, and it was maybe petty, but when they had Jessie, they replaced my room at their house with a nursery and put my stuff in another one. So my mom filed and was awarded much more child support than she had been getting, and that affected them. It's fine, there was free therapy at college, and I'm actually doing great career and mental health-wise now. In fact, my fiancé and I make about as much as they do, granted less property and all that. So I'm in a good place. Literally freshman week, I met my now fiancé John, 25M, but we didn't start dating for 2 years, and we've been inseparable ever since. His family is amazing, super loving, involved but not pushy, and kind. They do have a lot of money, and I don't care if you don't believe me, but even if they were broke I'd be so lucky to be marrying into their family. Just an example of how amazing they are, his mom gave him her grandmother's ring to propose, and she's offered me any and all of her or her sister's jewelry to borrow for the wedding. His dad helped my brother get a job in his industry, he deserved it but it's a hard one to crack into, and even his sister is going to be my maid of honor. Maybe these are stupid examples, but they've told me before I don't need to apologize for my crazy and kind of trashy mom, and they've even thanked her for raising the love of their son's life. They're just so happy and positive and full of love. I'm so lucky. I've been good about setting up boundaries. Like with my mom, I laid it out that I'm not her best friend, she's not Lorelai Gilmore and I'm not Rory, I'm her daughter and always have been. We've had some come to Jesus moments, but we're in a much better place and I am sad, but also very happy to say that she's been a much more responsible mother to my 4 youngest siblings than she was to my brother Jake, 23, and me. My dad and I have never been close, but I've tried. When John and I were talking about getting engaged, he asked me if I wanted him to ask my dad's permission. At first, I said no, what's the point? Then I thought, okay, I'm his only daughter, he's kind of traditional, and he was more or less there for me growing up. So he did, and Dad was tickled pink just as I expected. They never said they had any money for the wedding or offered any, which wasn't shocking or anything, and I didn't ask. So after all that background, we're getting married soon. It will be in John's hometown, which is a pretty nice place people go for vacations, and they know basically the whole town, so it will be a huge event. His family, and to be honest, we want a big wedding, but since we're just starting our careers, his parents are paying for the whole thing. I am paying for my dress, and my mom and younger siblings travel. I kind of just assumed my dad would walk me down the aisle, but a few weeks ago at one of my showers, Hildy was talking with John's mom, who was saying how proud they must have been that I paid my own way through college. Hildy was like, "Oh yeah, it looked really hard, we're glad we started saving towards our son's college funds a long time ago, they have more than enough for undergrad and probably grad school." I overheard this and confirmed with John's mom what she said. It hurt so bad. College was a struggle, there were times all I had were multivitamins and PB&Js, and only because my mom would send me $20 here and there. Don't get me wrong, I'm also proud of myself, and I know the boys are both their kids while I'm just my dad's, so of course they'll give them more, but it really solidified to me who and what I was to them. So I asked my brother Jake to walk me down the aisle. John and his family know about this and 100% support me. Hildy called me yesterday asking about the rehearsal dinner, where they'd need to be and when, and I told her they wouldn't need to be at the church or anything and could just go to the restaurant after. She was like, "Oh well, how will your dad practice walking you down the aisle?" It was super awkward, and I let her know Jake would be, but I was excited to see them. A few hours later, my dad came to our condo and told me how disappointed he was. He said he'd been dreaming of giving me away my whole life. I was in a pretty good headspace luckily and was just like, "Oh, I didn't know you'd want to and didn't expect you to care," trying to be nonchalant and avoid drama. He was aggressive, though, and wouldn't let it go, saying I was trying to make him look like an idiot, and if Hildy hadn't asked, he would have shown up thinking he'd walk me down the aisle. I asked him why he would assume that, and he looked at me like I was stupid. But I wanted to hear him say it, and he finally said that any father would expect that. I was just like, sure, but any other father probably didn't ignore their daughter for the first few months of their life, have as minimal custody as possible, or have college funds for some of their kids but not others. They probably did things like take their daughters on vacation, attend a single father-daughter event, and help them out even though they were legally done. He got mad, but honestly couldn't even argue, and just said he wasn't sure if he approved of this marriage anymore. I told him I wasn't worried about that, and the truth was that we just simply weren't very important people to one another. He got really sad after that and left, and even though John agrees with my decisions, he said I should have given my dad the heads up about what I wanted from him at the wedding. As much as I value his opinion, I also feel like he doesn't get it. His family loves him and would do anything for him and has, while my dad has only ever done the bare legal minimum when I needed him. I never assumed he would help me, and he shouldn't assume he can play a role in my wedding. I know I'm not the jerk for having my brother walk me down the aisle, that's no debate. But was I wrong for not directly spelling out for my dad that he would be attending as a guest and only a guest? Am I the jerk has no consensus spot, op was NTA. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, Uda. If you only had multivitamins and PB&J in college even though he was still paying child support, it sounds like your mom was using it to pay for her other kids since you paid your whole college. Plus it's your dad who was there. Get over yourself. Op's response, until I was 21? The hard years were after that, I didn't graduate with my master's until I was 23. When he was paying child support, she sent me money minus the health insurance premium. Commenter 2, not sure how child support works, but if your dad had to pay it till you were 21, wasn't that supposed to include tuition as well? Op's response, no, the amount didn't change, and my mom sent me money for the first few years I was in school from it. It stopped on my 21st birthday, and that's when I really started struggling. Sorry for the confusion. Commenter 3, not even remotely close to being a jerk. Your dad has some nerve having expectations of you after not treating you like an equal child your entire life. I'd have hit him at the dreaming of giving me away his whole life. You don't owe him anything. Did he give you a heads up before becoming a deadbeat? Did he give you a heads up about not paying for your college but paying for your half-sibling? The audacity to say he doesn't approve? Honestly good, because now you can uninvite him without feeling guilty. Who would want to attend a wedding they don't approve of? Op's response, honestly, I doubt he's been dreaming of this for more than a few years. One of my brothers is trans, so I'm sure he thought that was his redo daughter he could do all of the father-daughter stuff with, but that isn't happening anymore. Commenter 4, sorry, legal bare minimum is invite you to the wedding. Father of the bride costs extra. Be sure to add a speech about your amazing mother who didn't always have a lot but gave you her last dollar when you couldn't afford food in college. How you've learned the value of struggle and who really shows up for you when it matters. Then ask her to join you for a mother-daughter dance. NTA. Ops response, my mom was a billion times better than dad, but honestly they both had their own issues. Commenter 5, I mean, Uda in this circumstance because one of the showers is usually a month before at least? Ops response, yes, his family threw a small one because he had some family in from out of the country, and it worked out, and my friends are throwing another one for more people. I also clarified for the few people that would be at both that they didn't need to get us gifts for both or any. Update, 5 days later. Thanks for all of your comments, I think I read all of them. It was very cathartic, and to be honest, even though it was overwhelmingly NTA, I actually started to agree with the Uda folks, who were mostly still very nice. I should have put on my big girl pants and just told my dad he would be a guest at my wedding and nothing more. I wasn't doing anyone a favor by not being upfront. I apologized, kind of, to my fiancé. He totally understood and admitted he doesn't really understand my family dynamic, which I told him I was glad for. I mentioned in some comments, but one of my dad's sons came out as trans a few years ago. I know they were hoping it was a phase, but to their credit, they did let him take puberty blockers. Well, it's at this point not looking like a phase anymore, and I think that's where the whole my only daughter, only chance came from. In fact, after spending time with Hildy and hearing, with horror, about the things she's done, my sister-in-law confided in me that she's pretty sure if he and Hildy did have a daughter, he would refuse to walk me down the aisle before he was able to do it with her. My dad wrote me an email, I'm not going to post it because it's super lame and was just the same old song of poor him, his life is so hard, he wasn't ready to be a dad, he did the best he could, he's always loved me, blah blah blah. No action items, no probably false promises to change, nothing new. No, he didn't offer any money for the wedding, but reiterated a lot that he's always dreamed of walking me down the aisle. He did the whole oh I know I haven't been perfect, you deserved a better dad, I know I can do better with grandkids. I just replied that we looked forward to him being a guest at the wedding, and to remind me if they had any food allergies. I had already decided who'd be walking me down the aisle by then, so it didn't matter. My sister-in-law is one of my dearest friends, and she and my fiancé John have been very sweet to me about all of this. They are their parents' only 2 kids and very close, she's the one who convinced me to date John in the first place, and I can never stop thanking her. She and my father-in-law always go, don't laugh, to this amateur wrestling thing in our city whenever he's in town. They drink a lot of beer, and either John or myself picks them up. It's a fun thing, and they've always done it just the 2 of them, so I was shocked and thrilled that she invited me to go with them this past weekend. My father-in-law kept bragging about his 2 daughters, and my sister-in-law told me she's so excited to finally have a sister. I told them my new plan for the ceremony and who would be walking me down the aisle. I had already told Jake and he approved, and even though they're pretty traditional, they thought it was a great idea. I'm excited for the future, I've worked really hard for my life, and yes I got super lucky with John and his family. It's going to be a great rest of my life, and the wedding will be a great start to it. I will be walking myself down the aisle. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, curious to know some of the horrific things that Hildy has done that makes you know that if Hildy had a girl your dad would have dumped you like yesterday's trash. Ops response, my brother is trans, a fab, so yeah. Commenter 1, Hildy is also transphobic. Gotcha. Total jerk. You and your brother deserve happiness. Forget her. Ops response, she's not. They've been very supportive of my brother. I'm saying I think a lot of this came out because he realized I'm his only daughter. I'm also almost 100% certain that if he had a daughter with Hildy, he wouldn't be allowed to walk me down the aisle until he walked her down first, just like how he was never able to go to my father-daughter dances, fine in retrospect because those were cringe. Commenter 2, good for you for standing up for what you want. He doesn't deserve to walk you down the aisle. What a jerk with the poor me routine. Just go be happy. NTA. Commenter 3, bio dad doesn't get to skirt the responsibilities of raising you and get to swoop in and play good dad for your accomplishments and celebrations. Good on you, and congrats on getting married.
I thought my best friend coming out on the rainbow meant he wasn't into girls, but apparently he's into my girlfriend and me, so now I'm blocked them both after they suggested we all date together like some weird love triangle. Posted by you/1_engine_3500. So, I, 21M, broke up with my girlfriend, 20F, a week ago. The reason for that is because, apparently, her and my friend, 21M, fell in love and also love me, and wanted the 3 of us to be together. I'm not the only one that thinks that's wild, and thinking about it still makes me laugh. Honestly, that's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to me. I have absolutely nothing against people in poly relationships, but really? To paint a clearer picture, me and my friend, let's call him Seth, have been friends since middle school. I used to spend nearly every day over at his place, so I'm pretty close with his family as well. At least enough for his parents to call me their son too, so yeah. Best friends. Seth came out as gay in high school, yes, gay. Not bi or pan or anything. Gay. As in, convinced he's not into women at all, and I never had a problem with it. Hell, I used to accompany him to every Pride event hosted in town. Yes, I was sometimes teased for being gay too and me and Seth being boyfriends, but I always brushed it off with a laugh. I met Holly 7 months ago at my cousin's birthday. My cousin and her have been friends for a little while back then, so she was invited. We started chatting and have been dating for about 5 months now. Holly and Seth would obviously see each other often due to me and would hang out one-on-one too, which I never had a problem with. They were friends, which I was happy about. And then it happened. Last week, Seth came over to my apartment to play games while Holly was staying over for the weekend. Things were good, though now that I think back on it, the atmosphere seemed a little more awkward than ever. Anyway, Seth and Holly sat me down and begged me to listen to what they had to say. They revealed that they've had feelings for each other for a while now but never acted out on them. However, they ended up talking about it a few days prior when the pressure became too much. And, like the geniuses they were, they decided that the perfect solution for their problem was for all three of us to date. Seth said that he's actually liked me for years and I've been acting like a boyfriend anyway, so might as well make it official. Honestly, all of that came out of nowhere. I was shocked. Admittedly, I laughed because of how much I couldn't believe in what was happening. Yes, this was clearly an emotional affair or something of that kind, but this was the first time I heard people be so extremely delusional. Dating my girlfriend and best friend? No, thank you. So, yeah. I broke things off right then and there with Holly and told Seth to figure himself out before kicking them both out. I blocked them both on everything. Seth's family and my own have been contacting me for the past week to ask about what happened but back off when I tell them the truth. I'm a bit upset, obviously. My best friend turned out to be untrustworthy and my ex-girlfriend cheated on me in a way, even if it wasn't physical. But this is also kinda hilarious? I'm not sure. The reason I'm making this post though is because Holly's mom called me just yesterday. Apparently, her daughter hasn't been taking the breakup well. Said that Holly loves both me and Seth and my reaction really hurt her. The whole thing with Seth started because they would talk about me a lot and Seth is much more attentive than me, so that attracted her to him. Listen, maybe I'm not the best boyfriend in the world, but at least I'm loyal. Until someone betrays me. Holly's mom was looking out for her daughter, so I just thanked her for her time before hanging up. I have been thinking about the entire thing a little more though. So, am I the jerk for not getting into a relationship with my girlfriend and best friend? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. But are you sure you wouldn't give it a chance? If you don't like it, you don't have to stay in it. Ops response, pretty sure I'm not into dudes or having more than one partner. No hate towards people that do. Commenter 2, NTA. I think you got it right when you said they're delusional. It's not really your responsibility anymore, but is it possible he's been aiming at this for a while? Just seems like a startling admission to say he's liked you for years while saying he also loves your girlfriend. Given you say he was gay, do they actually have intimacy etc., or is this some weird ploy he has to sleep with you? I'm maybe paranoid, but that's where my kind would go, although I'm bi, so maybe that's why my mind would go there. Ops response, literally no idea. Seth has always been touchy and friendly with everyone, including me, so nothing to point at the fact that he's liked me this whole time. Commenter 3, NTA. You can break up for any reason, and this is a good one. You're clearly not poly, you should never get into a poly relationship if you aren't, it's doomed from the start. It also doesn't sound like you're gay or bi or anything. The way you brushed off the comments about you and Seth says you're very comfortable with who you are, but that you're straight. So, you should never date someone male, because you're simply not attracted to them. And you're right, they were cheating on you, emotionally at least. That's a betrayal. So, they betrayed you and then tried to get a non-poly, completely straight man to join a poly relationship with another man involved. They even threw in the fact Seth had liked you for a while, so they were clearly expecting you and Seth to be intimately involved. Holly's mom's priority is to be there for Holly. It sounds like she was trying to explain Holly's reasons for her actions. But that doesn't change the fact she betrayed you. Nor will it remove the desire to have a poly relationship between you, her and Seth. You did the right thing by breaking up. She betrayed you and you're clearly not compatible. Holly may be struggling with the breakup, but it's on her to heal from that and move on. You have no responsibility for her anymore. This has likely shattered your friendship with Seth, as well. Honestly, if Holly valued your relationship enough to not want to lose it, and Seth valued your friendship the same, neither would ever have made this suggestion. They may have brought up the topic of poly relationships to see how you felt about it, but they wouldn't have outright suggested it. And they'd have put some distance between each other, or at least only hung out when you were present, the second they realized they were developing feelings beyond friendship for each other. Honestly, it doesn't sound like either Holly or Seth actually knew you all that well, or didn't care enough about you when it came to something they wanted and they knew you wouldn't want. Ops response: yeah, Seth has always been like a brother to me, so the thought of being intimately involved with him makes my skin crawl. No idea why they thought I'd ever want that I'd even date him in the first place. Though, I'd say I'm a pretty open-minded person. I've always been down for trying new things and never got too upset when I didn't really like something. Maybe that's why they thought this would work? Not sure, but maybe. Commenter 4, NTA. Not at all. Seth probably manipulated your ex into a relationship, hoping to get closer to you. Now Holly seems to regret it, but you definitely should not take her back. They both betrayed you. No relationship, friendship, or anything should be allowed with either of them. Congrats on standing your ground, blocking them both, and moving on with your life. Wishing you the best. Commenter 5, what is even more shocking for me is Holly's mom trying to manipulate Op into accepting the relationship. That itself emo very disturbing and disgusting. Op's response: I wouldn't actually say her mom was trying to manipulate me. From what I know, Holly's always been very close to her mom. I met the woman a few times and we got along. I could tell she really loves her daughter. That phone call was less her trying to pressure me into getting with Holly again and more about seeing her and talking about what happened instead of shutting her out. Update, 5 months later. Hello. It's been a while since my first post. My older sister asked me recently if I was planning to update people here and told me to do it when I said no. She told me that the people here might shake some sense into me so that I'm willing to do something and finally calls the cops, but I doubt it. Sorry sis. About a month after my first post, a friend was celebrating his birthday. Obviously I went despite knowing that Seth would be there. I was fine with that. That friend didn't have any drama with Seth and they got along well, so I was just planning on avoiding the guy for the rest of the night. I came there mostly to have fun, but I heard gossip from some of my closest friends. If anyone here is wondering, Holly and Seth aren't together. Apparently, he threw her away quickly after what happened with the whole confession thing. Me and Holly aren't in contact at all anymore and last I heard, she's already found herself a new guy. Fine with me. To get to the point, there was obviously alcohol at the party. We were all being idiots and I always felt safe enough with my group to trust no one would let me get hurt or do something stupid enough to get in trouble. And, yes, we had a few people staying sober either because they were driving or taking meds that made them unable to drink. This is actually a little hard to write. I do have some flashes of what happened but I don't like dwelling on them. One of my friends drove me home. Seth drove with us too and the friend left him with me because she wasn't aware of what exactly happened between us and Holly. I guess I know what happened but even writing it down makes me feel heavy. I've had no contact with Seth or his family. They've been contacting me sporadically, but I shut them all out. My siblings are the only ones that know what happened because I ended up trying to joke about it once and I got grilled until I spilled everything out. My brother wanted to pretty much unalive Seth. My sister told me that Reddit might kick my butt into gear to at least go to therapy. Because it's honestly harder than I expected. Like there's a barrier keeping me from looking into any options I have. Do I hate Seth? Yeah. The thought of him repulses me. Do I still care about him? Also yeah. I've known him forever and have seen him as my family for years. So do your worst Reddit. I also know people don't like it when there are no updates, so this is a gift from me to all of you. Hoping that anyone reading this is having a better time than me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, call the frigging cops you absolute peanut. Therapy and report that abuser. Do you realize that if he had guts to do this to you he will do it to someone else? Don't be like me, I never reported my abuser and he hurt others like he hurt me. It's not a joking matter. You must do it. Op's response, yeah, I know that I joke around but I also know this is a serious situation. It's been almost 4 months since this situation with Seth happened and I only feel sick when I think about reporting this to the police. Unfortunately, where I live, things like that aren't treated as seriously as they would have been if I was a woman. Commenter 2, the barrier you are feeling is usually a mixture of several things that keep men from reporting that they have been graped. Fear of rejection, you tell people you were graped, and they say you are a liar. Fear of retaliation, you say you were graped, and the person you accuse, or his loved ones, will come after you and try to destroy your character. Fear of appearing weak, you are afraid that future partners, and your future children, will hear you were graped and think less of you. Fear of being blamed, you say you were graped while drunk or on drugs, and they blame you for not being responsible. But Op, I will say this, by filing a report, by telling others, you very well might be saving someone, maybe even someone who does not have a loving group of siblings like you do. Someone who is going to trust Seth like you did, be attacked by him, and have no one to turn to for support. Seth is a predator. The brutal truth is that he will only get better at picking his victim, better at hiding his crime. He was careless and preyed in his friend group, but he will learn not to cause trouble where he socializes, so victims have a harder time finding him. People like him do not get better, they get smarter. At least by filing a report, and spreading some awareness, you are doing what you can to warn others around him that he is a predator. That might be all it takes to save someone. That might be all it takes to prevent someone vulnerable from being graped. But please, for your benefit, and for the benefit of those you love, talk to a therapist. Even if it is just a few times, you can learn tools to manage all the effects of what has happened. Lean on your siblings, because they love you and will help you if you need it, but a trained professional will be able to better handle your situation. Ops response: a couple of years ago, there was a scandal in our town because a teenage boy got drunk at a party and also got assaulted by a few of his friends, both girls and boys. The parents tried reporting it, but it didn't go anywhere. He was being mocked about it, saying that A, he must have enjoyed it with the girls, and B, it wasn't assault because it was with other guys. I do mean it when I say that I know that there should be at least a report when it comes to Seth, but the police won't do anything about it, and if it gets out what happened to me, I may literally go through the same thing that the guy did. And, yes, he ended up taking pills and passed away soon after all of that. I wouldn't say I'm in a bad state like that, but still. I don't want it to get worse. Commenter 3, how will you feel when Seth does this again to another guy? Even worse, what if the next guy ends his own life over it? How will you feel then? Ops response: I mean, is this a serious question? I'd feel like garbage. Yeah, I'm not to blame for Seth's actions. But I'm capable of compassion. Doesn't change the fact that there's literally nothing I can do because the police here don't bother with most things and most have the mentality that guys can't get assaulted. My parents let my dead brother's roommate use his computer for a few hours to get some files, but turns out this guy was playing the long game and walked away with enough Bitcoin to buy a whole new life. Posted by you/JusticeGrewCut. My younger brother passed away nearly 5 years ago from an overdose, which devastated my family at the time. I knew he was into substances and continually warned him about it, but he assured me he had it under control. I couldn't really take the high moral ground anyhow, since he knew I had also indulged in it myself in my younger days, though that wasn't exactly a secret in my family. I was posted overseas when it happened and felt some guilt that if I hadn't been away, I would have been able to prevent him being influenced by his circle of friends at the time, but ultimately I realized I was not my brother's keeper. Afterwards, I assisted my parents with putting his belongings into storage to be sorted out at a later date and returned to my job. When my contract ended, I returned home and had the time to sort through some of my brother's things that my parents hadn't looked at yet. Among them was his computer, which I was hoping might have had some photos or other things of interest on it. I managed to salvage a few good pictures and video, though most of it was of him hanging out with his friends at the time. It was still good to have a few extra memories of him from back then. It was while I was going through the installed programs, I noticed he had Bitcoin software installed. I know he used it to buy certain things for himself and his friends online, so it wasn't a surprise to me that he had this. I knew that Bitcoin had gone up in value over the past several years, so part of me hoped he might have had an amount there, but when I ran the Bitcoin program it said zero balance. I wasn't too surprised at that until I looked at the transaction details. There was regular activity there right up until the week before he passed away and then nothing after that, until 2 years ago when the total balance at the time of 147 Bitcoins was transferred out of it. This made no sense to me, unless someone else had a copy of his account or had hacked them from him somehow. But then I checked the history log on the computer, and lo and behold it had been started up several times on the date the transfer happened. Going back to my parents, I asked them if anyone else had used the computer since they got it back from storage. They remembered that yes, 2 years ago my brother's old roommate looked them up and asked if they still had his computer, and could he use it to get a copy of some files to do with their old rental. They had let him use it for a couple of hours, and he left afterwards and hadn't heard from him since. I looked him up on social media, and from his post history it seems like he suddenly came into some serious money, judging from the purchases and activities he was involved with at around the same time. So where do I go from here? The evidence strongly points to his having stolen the Bitcoins, but what are my options? Do I confront him directly, and do I have anything to stand on? My parents went through a lot over the years, and it would be good if I could at least give them back something for all their blood, sweat and tears. And I know it's what my brother would have wanted. Edit, thanks for the advice so far, particularly the suggestion to post about this to /r/Bitcoin for help. I will be driving down to my parents this weekend to check the computer for the Bitcoin information to investigate this further. This community is amazing. I will continue to post updates as they happen. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. 1. Get in contact with a lawyer immediately. 2. Do your parents still have the message where he asked to use the computer? Security footage when he was at your house? Anything is useful here. If you don't have it, see what your lawyer thinks about this idea, something along the lines as, contact him and ask if he used your brother's computer about 2 years ago, when he was deceased, and make sure it's on paper. 3. Was the computer password protected? 4. Post the address that the coins were sent to, maybe some Bitcoiners can help try and find out which exchange he has used to cash out. Then we can try and contact the exchange for extra help. Hopefully this guy has sold his Bitcoins through exchange where he was verified with his passport/address, and then I think you'll have a solid case. Edit, also you need to act fast, the guy might be reading this subreddit and he might come across this post. Good luck. Ops response. Appreciate the quick response, I'll answer in point form. I'd like to avoid legal if possible due to what my brother was using them for and also the cost. Not ruling it out later though. There was no password set. I will post an update with the address information when I have it. Since it looks likely he did cash it out, I really hope you are right about his having done it somewhere he can be tracked. Commenter 2. Good luck with legal pursuit of action in this circumstance. There is a reason why Bitcoin is used on the darknet markets. Ops response. That is my only concern with this if we do pursue this legally. I know my brother was using them for less than legal purchases at the time, which could be linked back to the bitcoins. Commenter 3. What are they going to do? Arrest your brother? The worst case scenario would be to seize the bitcoins, which I doubt would happen. Mini update, same day. Just an update, I was sent a PM from a fairly notable individual in this subreddit with an offer to help, which I have accepted based on his history and reputation here. On his advice, I will be collecting the computer from my parents' place later today instead of the weekend, so we can jump on this ASAP due to this now being out in the open. He is also using his connections to get a free legal opinion from someone qualified in this area. I can't say much else until I hear back from them, but I will be sure to provide further details as soon as I am able. For now, I just want to thank the community and /r/Bitcoin for all the kind words and advice you have given. It's people like you who restore my faith in humanity after experiencing jerks like my brother's ex-roommate. Relevant comment. Trust nobody. Especially people who privately send you mails, regardless of what their reputation is, they might mess you over. It has happened in the past plenty enough times. Makes me wonder if this person has such a great reputation, why aren't they coming out in the open? Update, 4.5 years later. 4 years ago, at the urging of others, I posted to this sub asking for help with the recovery of stolen bitcoins. I promised an update to the story when I could, and now finally I can. 4 years ago I posted about how the ex-roommate of my brother who tragically passed away took advantage of my parents to gain access to his computer after he passed and stole his Bitcoin stash. I originally posted to the relationships sub but was quickly directed to repost to the Bitcoin sub to see if anyone there could offer any advice. Soon after doing that, I was privately approached by a credible individual from this group with an offer of assistance, which myself and my parents accepted. Through their network of contacts we received expert technical advice and forensic analysis at absolutely no cost whatsoever, and legal representation that truly understood the issue at hand and was prepared to work on a no-win, no-fee basis. We owe all these people a massive debt of gratitude for what they have been able to achieve for us here, and has finally come to a conclusion in these last few weeks. The analysis of the computer took several weeks before we heard back, but the results were extremely promising. They had identified that while all the bitcoins had indeed been transferred to another wallet, not all the bitcoins in this wallet had been spent. There were still approximately 36 bitcoins remaining in there that had not been touched. Of what had been spent, there were significant trails of evidence which was used as the starting point of commencing legal action against the individual in question. It has taken time, and much of it is under non-disclosure, but what I can confirm is that an agreement was made to withdraw our case against him in return for transferring this remaining balance back to my brother's estate. Yesterday, our lawyer let us know that this has now been done. They are handling the technical aspects of this for us, but the upshot is that the cash equivalent of nearly 29 bitcoins will shortly be transferred to my parents. This couldn't have come at a better or more needed time. The past 12 months with COVID-19 has taken a significant toll on them. Their business was up against the wall, and they potentially stood to lose everything unless things turned around, so this cash infusion has taken away all that fear and stress they were living under. This whole thing started with the premature passing of my brother. It now concludes with him leaving behind a legacy of hope and optimism for our parents. Somewhere, up there, I know he is smiling and cheering them on. In the end, you did good, Raf.
I supported my brother's relationship for 2 years because his girlfriend seemed so sweet and traumatized. Then my husband asked one simple question about her backstory and I ended up destroying their entire future with a basic internet search gone wrong. Posted by you/recognition. Dry 6695. My younger brother, Adam, had a rough childhood, to say the least. Our father passed away when he was under 10 from cancer. Our mother is likely bipolar but definitely has narcissistic tendencies and is abusive. I'm older by a decade and did what I could when I could for him, but basically I failed to protect him and didn't understand what he needed. All that to say that his descent into alcoholism wasn't a surprise, it was expected. A couple years ago he had an incident that caused him hospitalization and began his recovery in sobriety. He's over 2 years clean now, hugely due to the new relationship he started months after his incident with a kind-hearted lovely woman, I'll call her Eve. He brought Eve over to meet us shortly after they met, and she's been a welcome part of our family. She makes gifts for my kids and treats. She's always fun to speak to, and her quirkiness fits in beautifully. As we got to know her, we've learned about how traumatic her life has been. They're kinda trauma bonded, but she's so understanding and empathetic. She told us about her twin who passed away in high school, how her siblings and parents loved him more and treat her badly as the survivor that was always less than. She also had another brother who passed away in war in Iraq. That was the golden child after her twin passed. She couldn't seem to gain her mother's approval or attention, and we bonded over those feelings of not being wanted or good enough. She told us she was originally from Scotland. Her father was a sheep farmer who moved to America to buy a cattle farm because of the cowboy movies, so she has dual citizenship. She also said because of this she spoke 16 languages. She worked at a college and had multiple degrees too. Overall she was incredibly nice, took good care of Adam, and seemed super well educated and proper. Sometimes she had her Scottish accent too because she'd been around her family. Then she started to tell us about her past relationships, 3 divorces. One was from a person who had gender reassignment surgery, the other passed away by his own hands, and the last had attempted to take her life, shot her and then had ran from the cops to a ditch where he passed away. She showed my kids the scar. I felt like after 2 years of knowing her, she was a great fit, so last week when they had a bad argument I tried to reassure Adam. I had him come over to talk, and he told me that she had lied to him about not speaking to a friend of hers anymore. Some guy who was apparently a popular guy in high school. She lied because she didn't want to believe he wasn't a good guy because she's had so much bad luck with men. Adam was struggling to move past the line but wanted to work it out, and I support him in whatever he does. I talked to my husband about it, and he asked the most basic question: how does she have a high school popular kid here in town if she was raised in Oklahoma on a cattle farm? Honestly, I have PTSD, so my brain sometimes gets mixed up. I assumed I was wrong. It turned over and over in my head though for a couple days. I finally caved while my husband played video games and began a casual search into her. I googled her name and her address came up. Then I realized her history of addresses were all in America, all going back pretty far. So I checked her parents, and their addresses went back in America before she was born. I was so confused I googled them and found recent obituaries of her grandparents on both sides. They're all from America. And they only mention 3 kids by her parents, ever. Obituaries usually list preceded in passing, and these do, but no grandkids in that list. No additional brothers of hers. Not only that, but she lived at the same address her whole life in Kansas. I looked it up on a map and found the high school nearby and searched the yearbook. Found her 12th grade, no twin, okay, but he passed away, so I checked 9th grade, also no twin. The deeper I dug, the more proof of the lies. Only 2 marriages on record, both still alive. One did change names from male in the marriage to female in the divorce, but that seems to be the only true thing she's ever said. It's absolutely shocking. Finally, my husband said I had to tell Adam. I was against it, and then as the pile got larger, I said it was an in-person conversation. He insisted it needed to be done, so I put it all together into a document and messaged Adam. I asked a few clarifying questions about the twin and the ex-husbands. I apologized and provided the information to him and hoped I was wrong. Within 10 minutes of sending it to him, he said that she admitted everything to him. He's absolutely lost now. 2 whole years, so many lies. I'm just baffled. Why? Like if they ever got married it would have unraveled so quickly. As it stands, she's been able to keep him away from her family by allowing them to disrespect their age gap. He's noticeably younger than her. She refused to go to an uncle's funeral earlier this year because she claimed he was a predator. I hate questioning that, but maybe she just didn't want Adam to find out that her uncle was born and raised in Kansas, not Scotland, and so was her dad. She was here with my kids, having them feel the bullet wound scar from an incident that never happened. There's no criminal records for either of the exes. There's none for her either, thankfully, but good lord. I wish I could put the cat back in the bag on this one. Why lie? And why didn't I check her background sooner? I literally checked my kids' date in high school to make sure their parents aren't on a registry or anything. I should have checked her much sooner. Now the life and family they were building is in ruins, and I'm terrified of him losing his sobriety. I'm feeling really guilty for looking it up and telling him too, not sure I did the right thing because he's heartbroken. Am I the jerk? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you didn't get Seuss when she said she spoke 16 languages? Ops response, no, because she actually spoke something when asked to speak each language by my kids. I only know English, enough Spanish to ask where the bathroom and library is, and some sign language from when I was a kid, so super rusty, think alphabet, every cuss word, and thank you basically. There are people who speak lots of languages, and again, she worked at a college where she had claimed to have gotten multiple degrees, so she could have taken language classes there. It didn't come off as lies or exaggeration. I'm generally very skeptical of everyone, but she's older than me and had worked there for many years, so it didn't seem like a stretch if she's got no kids, and has had 25 plus years to do anything she wanted with her life. Commenter 2, she told us she was originally from Scotland. Her father was a sheep farmer who moved to America to buy a cattle farm because of the cowboy movies, so she has dual citizenship. She also said because of this she spoke 16 languages. Not being funny, but how does having dual citizenship with the UK bestow upon her 16 languages? Did they plug her into the Matrix? She worked at a college and had multiple degrees too. Please be less gullible, going forward. Life is full of jerks, but the beauty of them is they're easy to spot because they always go too far. 16 languages, multiple degrees that haven't turned into anything, 3 divorces? Who has the time? Ops response, well, her degrees did turn into something. She worked at a college the time, and when that job ended she's now working as an engineer. If you work at a college they let you take classes free or reduced. She probably has some of the degrees, and she could have taken the language classes. There's people famous here for learning lots of languages, and she called herself a polyglot. I have a friend who is learning Japanese with a tutor, and she talked about different tutors she'd used and programs too. It seemed legit, but obviously everything she said did, and it was all lies. She's old enough to have been divorced 3 times as well, seemed like tragically bad luck or poor judgment, but being raised by a narcissist with traumatic childhood made me give her grace and assume she was targeted for being too nice. I really want to argue that I'm not gullible, but I have to explain this to my oldest kid when they get back from a trip next week, and the only explanation is that I was incredibly gullible. My oldest kid is also super fond of this woman, and I know it's going to hurt. Op's response on how long it took to figure things out with her brother's girlfriend's background. Well, it was about 4 to 5 hours. It takes a lot of connecting family members and addresses to find the right obituaries and such. I did it for both sides of her family, and then the yearbooks are saved with pages you have to individually flip, so I went to the last page and scrolled forward to the index, go the list of places she was pictured, notice she had no sibling, no same last name, then scrolled page by page to the class photo for the link to attach to the list for him. Going through the court records was time-consuming as well because of registering for it and then opening every single file because I don't know what the case numbers mean for each state to know which ones to skip. She's small and has a lot of medical issues, which is I say that maybe so doesn't. Geez. Well, she claims a lot of them. He's about 10 years younger, over 6 feet and over 200 pounds. I call him my little big brother because he's very Viking. He's safe, I think, and she's caught red-handed. He also works nights, so after their talk he left and won't be back until this morning. I warned him the meltdown could be huge, but he said she was just super remorseful. He's debating on if he stays with her because it was just for attention. He loves her, and this is really, really messed up. Thank you. I had some training in my degree path on how to search Google and use these free data aggregation sites with my community college cybersecurity degree. I haven't used it at all except for in hackathons and this weird pastime now of looking into people that join my circle. I had tried to look her up once or twice before, but her social media had a different last name and nothing came of it. Honestly, if she hadn't updated it recently to her actual last name, I don't think I could have figured it out. You're absolutely limited by what information you have to start with. What's even dumber is I actually had a copy of her driver's license last fall when I helped Adam buy a car and get full coverage insurance. I didn't even look at it, just passed it on to my agent and deleted it. Update, 1 month later. To catch up, brother's girlfriend of 2 years was lying about her past, from the traumatic passing of a made-up twin, made-up older brother, 2 ex-husbands, who are still very much alive, a made-up ex-fiancé and a made-up loss of a child, made-up assault during their relationship that she used to control him, to inventing having multiple degrees and speaking 16 languages. When I posted, I had uncovered some of the lies and forwarded him the proof. She had come clean immediately and taken him to visit her parents to explain it. She has untreated borderline personality disorder apparently. My brother, who I called Adam for this, is a recovering alcoholic with a huge heart. He was absolutely determined to stay with her and not toss her aside for being human. He thought this was the righteous and noble thing to do, to not discard someone who is struggling or damaged in their time of need. My husband and I were determined to support him regardless of his choice because we love him. She told him she could never be around us again and she was scared of us. We assured him that we would never be rude to anyone he dated and that we were more than capable of being around her. I genuinely think when she realized that we weren't going to let her isolate him by pretending like she had a reason to fear us, it was over for her. It lasted only a week after our dinner with him where we showed him unconditional support and reminded him that he was the victim, repeatedly. The following week, she went out with friends to a bar. He asked where she went and with who, since this whole thing started because she was lying about not hanging out with some jerk that didn't respect my brother or their relationship. She said that she didn't have to show Adam anything to prove where she had been and that she can't heal like this. She expected to play the victim to him, as if him asking for accountability and transparency was him being controlling. Then he said that he can't be in a relationship where he can't trust someone. She was clearly hiding who she was with and where she was. In response, she gave him 30 days to move out. So, this weekend we are moving him into his own place. He's, of course, still reeling from the whiplash of whatever the heck the last 2 years of lies have been with a woman he thought he would marry. He has a strong support system though, and he's absolutely going to get through this. He's even quitting smoking during this, which I could not imagine trying to do in this level of chaos, but he is determined. Thank you everyone for the advice and support. Please don't be gullible like we were, and if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I'm so curious, what were the 16 languages? Op's response, well, she claimed to be dual citizen with Scotland, so she said all the languages from that area as well as obscure ones. The ones I remember were like Scottish, Gaelic, German. Obviously not Spanish because we would have immediately caught that lie. She must have memorized phrases in each language because when asked, she would recite some things that sounded like they were appropriate. It was just like a random factoid she'd say, and the kids would ask her to say a cuss word or something, and we'd move on in the conversation. I never got a complete list, but I absolutely should have asked for it. Commenter 2, just in case you didn't know, you rock. The way you are your brother's keeper and have his back 100% is great. She knew she wasn't going to be able to keep playing him with you in his corner, and that's why her jerk had to go. Congratulations on getting this dirtbag out of your brother's life. Ops response, thank you for saying this, I felt like such a jerk for snooping and even more so when it started to unravel her lies. He is genuinely heartbroken, and he didn't deserve this, so I am working hard to make sure he has everything he needs for this move and he doesn't have to stress as much. I'm really glad he is taking it as well as he is and that he doesn't seem to hate me for it. Sometimes delivering the bad news makes you part of the problem because people can't separate the hurt. I just want him to be okay. Commenter 3, as someone who has a degree in psychology, that's a lot more than BPD. It is typically intense and unstable moods, impulsive behaviors, fear of abandonment, and inconsistent self-image. They typically also struggle with depression, substance addiction, anxiety, or PTSD. Manipulating behavior also occurs. Which does sound like what she was doing most by lying to him so much. Is it just untreated BPD or undiagnosed? Because if she is undiagnosed, then you can't even trust that fully either, and she seriously needs to go seek help to get properly diagnosed and treated. Ops response, according to what her parents told me brother, she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder in her late teens. She's 43 now. She agreed to go back to therapy following the revelation, but I don't know if she ever actually did. I asked my brother if he was going to go with her to a session to discuss with a therapist what happened and its impact on him, and he was considering it prior to the relationship ending. Not sure if it ever happened. Her parents apologized to my brother, told him he was a great person and they respected him for staying with her despite her lies. Not sure how she's twisting it against him now that he's leaving, but before she deleted me on social media she was posting some pretty woe-is-me victim statements about the relationship ending. Ops response on how she and her family believed her brother's ex's lies. Yes, we did believe all of it. My life has been somewhat tumultuous, and there have been people who didn't believe me because the amount of craziness and trauma in it seems made up. My brother lost his father at 9 from cancer. He was my stepdad who raised me. My brother's best friend and him are trauma bonded because he lost his mother at a young age. My brother tends to attract people with loss, so her losses made sense as to why they bonded. Our mother is a narcissist that I'm estranged from, and he still talks to. She's raised us to be the perfect targets for ill behavior because we weren't taught what normal behavior is, although I've had enough therapy I thought I was better at spotting it. We have a couple of siblings that have been to jail and are probably undiagnosed BPD or something else. As an example of our life stories, we lost an aunt to a drunk driver after a year-long coma, lost our great-grandma to self-harm, her father had done the same, I've had a miscarriage past the first trimester, have a narcissist ex-husband who was abusive, had to have a restraining order against him and no contact order for my kid, I've been assaulted twice, most recent one I was diagnosed with PTSD and had 5 years of therapy following it. DBT, EMDR, CBT and group therapy. We've had enough trauma in our lives that her trauma didn't seem impossible. It just made me feel like damn, I met someone with a rougher life than I've had, mine's not so bad. I know that reading the lies she said must seem fantastical, but we learned these different stories over the course of 2 years, while sharing our life stories with her. At the time, it seemed genuine. When she claimed to have been assaulted, she literally played the part well enough that as a victim of assault I believed her. She suddenly had long sleeves in the summer and kept tugging at her clothes, her eyes darted around the room, she seemed like she couldn't breathe or get comfortable, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. The level of pretend this lady played was fit for Broadway. I'm not generally a gullible person, she has been doing this so long it's a craft, and she absolutely had me fooled as well as everyone she met when with us. I don't blame us for believing her necessarily, and I know this is an extreme example of lying. Yes, we will be more skeptical about people moving forward, but this is so not normal I highly doubt we will ever meet someone that lies like this again. My brother and his wife thought their pregnancy announcement would steal the show, but when I shared my stage 2 breast cancer diagnosis at the same family gathering, suddenly their baby news wasn't the main character anymore, and now she's mad I stole her thunder. Posted by URA 199,299. A bit of backstory, my brother and I, 24F, are very close, his wife and I not so much, we've had our fair share of tension. Anyway, I fell sick in the middle of May, but held off getting checked out because of COVID and safety reasons. Eventually when June started, I decided to go check it out, turns out it was stage 2 breast cancer. I decided to tell my family 2 days ago since lockdown laws have been lifted, so I invited everyone over, and when I told my brother and his wife, he said okay, that's fine because he has news to share too. So our family gathered, and my brother decided to go first. He did ask me, and he announced that his wife is 4 months pregnant. Of course, everyone was overjoyed. After about an hour, they asked about my news, and I knew this was probably the last time in a long while before I had everyone here in person, so I told them. And of course, the initial joyous atmosphere was gone. The rest of the evening was a lot of support for me and not a lot of attention on my brother and his wife. My brother didn't seem to mind this, as he was quite distraught with my news, but I saw his wife pretty upset and cornered off. So I decided to approach her, and I apologized for the timing of it all. She told me I could have waited a bit and Skyped everyone with the news, as it's just stage 2, and let my brother and her have this moment with their family. I told her I initially called this meeting for this exact reason, and she said she knows, but I knew my news would damper everyone's mood. So I told her she's being ridiculous, and I wanted to tell my family in person, since they are my family after all. And she burst in tears and demanded to go home, which my brother obliged to even though he was confused. He promised he would come see me soon since he stays close by to me. Later that evening I get a message from him asking if I told his wife that she isn't part of the family, and that I deliberately wanted the attention on me, because that's what she's upset about. Also the next day my parents called me to check up on me, and my mom mentioned that my brother's wife called yesterday evening really upset telling them what I said, and claiming I'm jealous because she's pregnant and I'm trying to ruin her life. I told my parents what actually happened and what I really said, and it's caused not only tension between his wife and me, but my parents and her too, and now she's also blaming me for my parents not being her biggest fans. My brother is torn but has been trying to talk to her, which results in more tears and a strain in their marriage. All this drama is making me think that I should have just called up everyone rather, or just told my brother that his news had to wait, even though that would have been selfish of me. I really wanted my family's support that day, but I'm starting to rethink whether it was worth all this drama and potentially causing further problems. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA, you called the meeting for your news. Also, if sharing it in person was unimportant, then why couldn't your sister-in-law share the pregnancy news over Skype? Her own reasoning should have been good enough for her. And good luck with your treatment. Commenter 2. NTA. I was so ready to call you Uda from the title alone. But you arranged this meeting to break the news of something very serious, and your brother decided that it was time to break news as well. Could you have handled this better? Well, yes, you could have asked him privately what his news was when he said he had something to announce so that it didn't get awkward like this, but regardless, the blame does not fall on you at all. But the fact is that cancer is, a bit more of an important thing to announce than a pregnancy, and the sister-in-law made a huge misstep getting jealous and saying what she did. Skype? Really? She's definitely the jerk here. There are things more important than a pregnancy, especially because a pregnancy has a lot more of a time frame to announce than a disease you're going to need to get some pretty obvious treatment for. Also, I wish you a good recovery. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to get so much lovely feedback, and to think I was slightly scared to post this. Thank you all for the unnerving support, love and hugs. I read, and still reading, every single comment made, and I really appreciate it. I will most definitely fight through. Thank you all so much. Just wanted to add a few points. When brother told me he had news too, he was really super excited and added it as a just by the way, I'll announce mine too. He did apologize and admit afterwards if he had known what my news was he would have held off his, because right now what's important is my recovery. He also admitted he wrongfully assumed that my news would automatically be good. I'm usually always the happy chirpy one. His wife wasn't too fond of this either. Brother's wife also had a miscarriage beginning of the year, which is why this pregnancy I suppose was extra special. I'm truly happy for them. I just wish he could understand, like one user pointed out, that this isn't a competition. I don't know why I couldn't tell him over the phone. We are really close and I knew it would have crushed him. I couldn't steal him away at the gathering either because he was the last to arrive, and when he did he just quickly mentioned, hey, mind if I go first, and I was frozen on the spot, so I said sure. Also pretty silly on my part. It's hard to explain that feeling where you're absolutely frozen and there's a big lump in your throat that prevents you from speaking, but saying the news in the first place was really difficult to begin with. Edit 2, just another point to clarify, I'm not a saint, but my brother does mean a heck of a lot to me. It's exactly why his wife and I cleared the air between us before, because I wouldn't deliberately make his life hell by making her mad. Hence why when I saw she was upset I approached her. And when she told me I could have Skyped, I responded with I wanted to tell them in person since they're my family and they would probably want to be there with me when I broke the news. I never once implied she wasn't a part of it. My brother and parents know this. Update, 1 month later. Sorry this is so late, a lot has been happening the past month since the news came out, and since I've received a tremendous amount of love from Reddit I thought it would be only fair to let you all know what happened. First and foremost, I've started treatment, also one of the reasons I couldn't update sooner. Thank you all for your well wishes. I plan on bouncing back as soon as I can. Anyway, I could see that my brother was under a lot of stress, and I finally sat him down to talk about it properly. He showed me a bunch of texts that his wife sent him telling him he is a lousy father for choosing me over his family. She said I was seeking attention and nobody cares about her. And one thing that really got to me was that she told him to choose once and for all, and if he picks me he loses her and his child, and if he picks her she doesn't want me in their lives at all. I felt terrible, not only for him, but knowing that I could have prevented all this. I took the time to apologize for putting him in this position, and if I had just pulled him aside soon enough and given him a heads up, he would have truly understood. Brother tells me I shouldn't apologize, because he should have been more considerate. He also mentioned that his wife would have probably still gotten mad at him whether they did or didn't give the news on that day. So I decided I should invite her over for coffee, to sort out everything. I spoke to her alone. I asked her about everything. She was very cold and didn't really answer, so I started talking first by apologizing if I made her feel excluded from the family or that her pregnancy was of any less importance. I explained that I should have given them a heads up so we could have avoided what had happened altogether, and that was my fault, and that I was very sorry, but I also mentioned that the way she reacted and went to the extent of lying wasn't okay. She then started crying and vented out about how angry she's been, and that my brother always put me first and recently they've been going through a rough patch, and when he sided with me it made her even more upset and feel even more lonely. She admitted she lied to my parents and my brother, saying that she was hoping they would show her more sympathy, and when they were cold to her she got even more upset. After hours of talking she apologized for how she acted and has been acting. And she would like if we moved on from this. My brother came later and they both went home. He texted me saying they both spoke for hours and agreed to couples therapy. My parents are currently living with me and helping me out tremendously, but they're not quite happy with my sister-in-law yet, although they promised to try to work things out. Things finally seem to calm down, and let's hope it stays that way. None of this would have been possible without the feedback you all gave me, and I'm indebted to that, so thank you. All of you are so kind, honestly, but I wanted to clarify that I'm no saint nor am I selfless. I know what happened wasn't entirely on me. However, in order to focus solely on my recovery, I can't be stressed out about this whole situation and have all this tension around. Seeing my brother being put in that position and my sister-in-law, as hurtful as she was, being upset and holding hatred can affect herself and the baby. I did what I could to fix things so that everyone can focus on being healthy and being positive without holding any grudges. I know I sure will. I know my sister-in-law, she can be very stubborn and unreasonable, and if I left things in her hands I'm 99% sure it would have resulted in much worse circumstances than me putting the first hand forward. At least now I can focus on my recovery without any distress or toxicity. I'm human. I felt angry, I felt upset, yeah, I wanted to give her a piece of my mind. But in doing so isn't helping myself, her, my brother, or my family, only damaging things further. This realization is what prompted me to let it all go and focus on positivity in my mental and physical health. Final edit. I spent all day on Reddit reading every little or big comment made, and honestly I didn't know you could feel so much support from people you never met. You are all the amazing humans. Thank you all for the upvotes, comments and awards, and I'll still read every single comment, but this will be my final edit.
My girlfriend said it was all or nothing when I asked for one weekend a month to myself, so now I'm getting nothing forever because I chose myself, and she's blowing up my phone while I'm driving away from her apartment. Posted by you/throwers1k. I, 30M, started this relationship 2 years ago with her, 27F, when I was 28. Due to the 1-hour drive, we only see each other on the weekends. She has her son Monday through Friday, and the weekends dad gets her son, who is 7 years old. I really only see him on Sunday nights when he gets dropped off. I was always nice to her son. I would play Minecraft and take him out, even went on vacation with her and him a couple of times. But I'm not going to lie, I never loved the idea of dealing with him. Despite my attempts at treating him like my own, he has proven time and time again that he's just a difficult kid to deal with. I want to keep this post short, so I'll spare the details. But the problem is that recently he's been with us every weekend, and I'm starting to get a clearer view into my future with her and her son. I have zero time to myself, there's no intimate time, haven't had it in over a month, and I find myself hiding in the bathroom just to get a moment's peace. I no longer look forward to my weekends, I actually look forward to Monday because at least after work I have a few hours to myself for some peace. I'm starting to realize what my future is looking like, and it horrifies me. I tried having a conversation with my girlfriend about it a few times, but it always seems to lead to an argument. It's like I have all the responsibilities of a parent, but none of the authority. I really love my girlfriend, and we have such a good relationship outside of her son, but now I think it's time for me to end it. I just feel completely awful about the whole thing because I knew she was a single mother before I got into this relationship, but I kept ignoring red flags and kept telling myself it would get better, but it hasn't, it just kept getting worse. I feel like I wasted both of our time, but I'm just having trouble letting go. Every time I think about ending it, I get scared that I'll miss her too much. But deep down I know that I have too. Any advice or anyone else go through this before? Edit. Thanks everyone, I appreciate all the comments. I just wanted to clarify that the red flags were not her being a mother. Although her parenting style isn't one I endorse completely, so I guess that could be a red flag. But I'm just saying I ignored the red flags that involved other aspects of single motherhood that are not exactly her fault. For example, her son's father is a deadbeat and doesn't support their son financially at all, so I know that burden would fall on my shoulders completely if we were to stay together. Something I really didn't consider going into it. Should have been obvious, I know, but we all make mistakes. I have nothing but love for her and will make an update post once I have the conversation with her. Very soon. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, listen, if you feel like that, get out. Save yourself. Move on. It will sting, but ultimately you will be happier. As a step-parent myself to a very difficult child, it never gets easier. There is literally no happiness in our home anymore, and I have 3 of my own kids who are miserable as well. I wish I had not ignored some red flags. You cannot love someone through these kinds of situations. Ops response, thanks, I've already started speaking to a therapist and am working on getting out for good real soon. Her and I actually just started a break because of all the stress I've been feeling from the relationship. I don't see much value in a relationship with no intimacy with a mom that I have to help raise her kid, who I have to lose all my free time to. I just hate feeling like the bad guy, but I guess I just have to accept that and move on. Commenter 2, I'm writing this as a single parent. You aren't doing anything wrong by leaving the relationship. Here's the thing, my child always comes first. That's my job as a parent. If the person I was dating felt the way you do, which are valid feelings, it may sting when they ended things, but I would respect it because I want my child to see a healthy relationship. I would never expect a step-parent to 100% treat my child as their own, although that would be amazing. You're right, it's hard and it doesn't tend to get easier, it just changes. I also resort myself to another room from time to time just to get a few minutes of silence, it's normal. All 3 of you deserve a functioning relationship without resentments. If this relationship isn't working for you, you're all better off without it. Dating a single parent can be very tough. Update 1, 22 days later. Long story short, I told her I was unhappy. I asked if I could have some time to myself, maybe one weekend a month I can stay home. She said no. It's all or nothing with us. I offered her couples therapy and even told her I'd pay for the entire thing. She refused, said she already has enough therapy. I told her then we need to end it. It was an awful conversation and there was tons of crying until she just hung up on me. A little backstory, she's been through terrible trauma in her life, and I was worried she might not be okay because she's still dealing with some of it. Anyway, I was worried about her, but she refused to talk to me. Wouldn't answer calls or texts. I figured it was just over now, and I need to leave her alone. The next morning I get a text from her asking me to come get my stuff I had left there. I told her just throw it all out. The stuff wasn't worth me going over there because it would be too hard to see her now. She basically said please just come get your stuff, I don't want to look at it anymore either. And she said this will be the last time we will see each other, so let's say goodbye. I agreed and drove over there. When I got there I was met with a pile of my stuff. I started taking trips bringing it down to my car. When I went to get the last of my stuff, I saw her sitting on the kitchen floor just crying. I sat next to her for a while not saying anything. She kinda made a move where she moved away from me a few inches. I looked at her and said, I should probably go, huh? She nodded her head. I got up and as I was leaving I just said to her, I just wished you didn't think I was a horrible person. She started yelling from the floor about how she did nothing wrong and whatnot. I couldn't take the yelling, I said goodbye and left. As I was walking down the hallway, I was haunted by the sounds of her crying so loud I could hear it very clear. As I left her building and got into my car, she called me. She was upset that I didn't want to talk, but I explained to her there wasn't anything left to talk about. She kept going on and on about how awful I was and not doing the right thing, etc., and she refused to take any blame. At this point I'm already on the highway about 15 minutes away from her apartment when she asked me to come back inside to talk. I told her no, I am already leaving. She started crying and begging me to turn around and talk. I said, I am sorry, I am so sorry, and I hung up the phone. First time I've ever done that to her, but she's hung up on me over a dozen times. She started immediately blowing up my phone. I couldn't deal with it, I was losing my mind, so I just turned the phone off. I left it off for a day and when I turned it on I saw a few short texts and missed calls. I immediately just went ahead and blocked her. I don't know if I did the right thing, I feel so damn terrible about this whole thing. I want to be there for her, hearing her cry killed me inside. But I know me being there for her will just rope me back into the relationship that I was no longer wanting to be in. Even though I still love her, and in fact I'm still in love with her. But it's too much, I know I won't be happy. She wrote me 2 emails since she figured out she was blocked. I haven't read them yet. I can see they addressed in letter format, but I don't have the strength to read them at this time. This whole thing sucks. Hopefully this doesn't get automatically taken down. Anyway, thanks everyone, and if you have advice on how to get through this, that would be very helpful. Thanks. Edit. I never thought this would get so much attention. This has been the most difficult thing I've dealt with in my life, so thank you all so much for the kind words, it has all helped out tremendously. Last night I ended up reading the letter she sent me, before I looked at this post again, and the first letter was super apologetic, actually made me tear up, it was very sweet and it made things really difficult. Then I read the second letter which was sent 12 hours after the first one and it was more blame, she was venting about all the things I did wrong, etc. In retrospect I should not have read either of the letters, but the first letter reminded me of the good times, and then the second one reminded me why I broke up with her in the first place. So I am glad she wrote the second one because if it was just the first one, then who knows what I'd be feeling right now. Anyway, I'm going to continue to be strong and block her on any other method she tries contacting me with. She even started calling me from her work phone number, I didn't answer but I googled it and confirmed that had to be her. I blocked that number as well. Top comment. Commenter, so she didn't want to give you a weekend off, and instead she gave you a lifetime off. Honestly I could see why she would feel like she wants all or nothing from you. But she has a child that isn't yours, she should have the skills to rationalize why you would want a weekend off sometimes. I've never dated a girl with a kid so I can't relate too heavily, but it seems just from this here that you are empathetic and rational, and you gave her every chance to have a real conversation and she was just emotionally distraught the entire time. I think after all of that blocking and moving on completely is probably a decent choice. Leaving wiggle room for conversation won't be healthy for either of you. Update 2, 4 days later. Anyway, we had a tough breakup, and immediately after I felt great, I was finally free. But now that it has been a week, I'm struggling a lot. I've been crying every single day, including having a complete breakdown last night. I feel so much regret about my decision, I miss her so damn much. I've talked to my therapist, I've talked to my family, I've talked to my friends. None of that has been really helping. I miss talking with her on the phone, or seeing her smile. During the breakup I was so focused on all the bad that I forgot about the good we had. Now that she's gone it's reversed. I've tried thinking about the bad and I understand we cannot be together again, but I am fighting the urge every minute to not pick up my phone and call her, or text her, or just drive over there and beg for forgiveness. I feel like I'm at completely rock bottom here. I think about dating again, in the future not now, and I just don't find any interest in any other person. It just makes me miss her even more thinking about being with someone else. Because what if they don't do what she does? What if they don't have such a sweet laugh or is as fun to be around? So much confusion in my brain. I'll remain strong and not contact her, but I'm here to admit it is absolutely tearing me up inside. Thanks for reading about my troubles. Update 3, 2 months later. After the breakup I had felt free of all the nonsense associated with her. I finally had my own free time to myself. However, shortly after, maybe 1 week, I started to miss her. A lot. I thought about her all the time. Last time I saw her she was sitting on her kitchen floor bawling her eyes out. Every time I closed my eyes I saw that image, I heard her screams and cries, it broke me. I wanted to reach out to her so bad. Eventually I did message her and ask if I could write her son a goodbye letter because I never had the chance to say goodbye to him. I actually was surprised how much I missed him. He and I had our issues, but I did have a connection with him and it was sad to think I'll never see how he grew up. Anyway, letter sent, she received and thanked me for that, everything was pretty cordial. No contact continued. About 6 weeks later, I am still missing her. Still have moments where I break down in tears by myself. I remember going down into my home workout room and just started doing deadlifts until I couldn't physically pick up the bar anymore and I just collapsed to my knees crying hysterically. This was at 1 in the morning on a work night, I was a mess. I wrote her a letter after, basically saying everything I wanted to say. I wanted her back, I was going to fix everything, etc. etc. I never sent the letter. I was serious about the no contact, I was going to be strong, I was never going to break it. Writing the letters then deleting them was just therapy for me in a way. After I wrote that letter, about 3 days later, guess what? She called me. I didn't notice it was her at first because I deleted and blocked her number. I don't know if her number didn't get blocked correctly or if it was a different number, I never asked. But I answered and it was her. She started on about how, oh hey. How are you? I know we haven't talked in a while, but I just left the Toyota dealer and they failed my car because of the tint you had put on it, can I borrow you for a moment and you can help me out? My heart started racing. I wanted to see her. So badly. I wanted nothing more than to be with her again. But I knew I had to talk first. I told her I would help her, but I wanted to talk first. So we talked. So many things I wanted to say to her I began to say. I told her how I was struggling, I told her how I missed her and I was just completely honest about everything that was going on in my mind. I told her about therapy, I told her about the journaling. But when I asked her how she was doing, that's when the truth began to pour out. She told me she was doing well. She told me she was regressing, her words. Said she was going out, partying, drinking, hanging with friends. Even made it a point to let me know that the next night she was going out with friends in the city and that she was going to pick up a new dress for it. She sounded like a bimbo on the phone. Calling me names like love and sweetie, just cringe level stuff. I asked her if she missed me, she said she did but she was doing well. Told me therapy has been focusing on her own trauma and she doesn't really think about me, or dream about me, or I guess really care about me at all. I asked about her son because at this point I was more interested with him. She told me he saved the letter and still asks about me, she said he misses me a lot. I can tell he missed me more than she did. I ended the call with I would love to help you but I can't. Here's directions to a shop I know that will pass your car with a tint. Tell them you know me and they'll take care of you. And she thanked me and we hung up the phone. Once we hung up I just stared at my wall for a good 5 minutes. My mind totally messed up at what just happened. I was so sad at first, and angry. How could she move on so easily? How could she not be in any pain? While I am sitting here totally devastated at the breakup, she is doing well? My anger and sadness soon turned into appreciation and relief. Oh my God, she's not my problem anymore. She is doing these things that would haunt me at night, but she's not my woman anymore. The girl I was in love with, the girl who every time I closed my eyes to think about. She does not exist. I know that sounds crazy, but she does not exist. The girl I keep thinking about is no longer around. She has been replaced with this other person who looks like her and sounds like her, but she isn't her. That helped me out tremendously. Suddenly I realized that I had been trapped in a mental prison. This whole time I thought she put me there, but she didn't. I did. I put myself there. I know this is a bit off topic, but I watched The Matrix, original, for the first time in my life, I know, and I started to see similarities to what we think our realities are. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but it helped me to believe that I needed to see the truth. The truth is there is no girl, there is no spoon. I know that last bit is a little weird, but it helped me okay lol. Point is, she isn't the person I built in my head. Just like Jocko said in his breakup video, you build this person up who doesn't even exist. I also listened to Bill Burr and he has a podcast where he talked about how breakups were and he actually said that around the 6-week mark they always reach out. He was right. Anyway, one final update. This all happened about 3 weeks ago and I have never felt better since. I am so at peace with everything. Sure, I do still miss her from time to time. I definitely miss her son too. But I am happy again, finally. I freed myself from the prison that I was in. I always was hoping she could free me, but she couldn't. I had to free myself. 2 nights ago I got a random text from her cousin, 21F. She told me she heard about the breakup and she wasn't sure if she should say anything, but she said her and I had a good relationship. The cousin and I, we used to always joke around with each other when she visited. She told me she will really miss me and she even said that she doesn't believe my ex will ever replace me. Her whole family loved me and it shows. Anyway, I know this post is long, but I am doing great right now. I am actually going to start dating again soon and have been doing so well. Here's some things that have really helped me get over her besides the obvious phone call. Journaling, write all feelings down. Every time you want to reach out to your ex, write it down and wait a day. You must wait 24 hours. You'll feel different, I promise, and you won't send that letter. Exercise, I worked out every single day. I always worked out though even during the relationship, so this helped but wasn't enough on its own. Could be different if I just started though. Projects and goals, I have this car I have been fixing up. It helped me a lot working on the car because I would listen to podcasts or music while turning wrenches. It helped me a lot. Pretend you're better. Just like how faking confidence can lead to real confidence, faking being better after a breakup can lead to feeling better after a breakup. This was helpful in the later stages when I was still holding on a little bit. In the beginning I recommend being honest with yourself. It's okay to miss them. Cry it out. Thanks Bill Burr. Seriously, have yourself a good cry everything out, you'll feel better. It's okay, do this in private. No one can judge you. It's better for your health. And that's pretty much it. I hope this helps some of you. I do still miss my ex from time to time. But overall I am in a very good place. I know what it's like to be in the dark, to feel hopeless. I've been there before. It will get better, but you have to put the work into it. Good luck everyone. Update 4, 3 days later. I wanted to reach out for Mother's Day, but I maintained the no contact. My ex is a single mother. I was very close with her and her son. This is our first Mother's Day apart after the breakup about 2 months ago. I wanted to write her an email wishing her a happy Mother's Day. I was just going to say, hey, I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but I just wanted to wish you happy Mother's Day. I hope her son is doing well, I miss him. I wanted to write it so bad. I wrote the email in my head about 10 times. But I never wrote it. I told myself I would not do it and I contained myself. It was hard fighting the urge, but now it's the next day and I am so happy I contained myself. Do not break no contact for any reason. If you have the urge to do so, write the email but don't hit send. Wait 3 days and see how you feel. I bet you'll delete that email and be thankful you did. I am for the most part over my ex, but seeing the reminder of Mother's Day just brought back so many memories. Luckily your feelings are temporary. Stay strong everyone.
My husband told me he was leaving me for his 22-year-old coworker, and the first words out of my mouth were about my home decor, because apparently I'm better at decorating houses than picking husbands who won't decorate their lives with someone half my age. Posted by you/total_dumb_9559. I made this account because my main one has my friends on it, and I'm way too embarrassed to be known as the cheated on wife. I, 34F, am married for 7 years to my husband, 41M, together for 10. I love my husband and always thought he felt the same about me. We built a life together. 8 years ago, he had severe anxiety and couldn't sleep, so I would stay up with him, holding his hands and doing breathing exercises until he could finally rest. I go to work exhausted. I helped him find a therapist. I encouraged him to grow in his career even though he was afraid. 6 years ago, I quit my job to take care of his mom who had cancer because he had the potential to earn more than me. While I was job hunting again, I got pregnant, and he suggested I stay home to take care of him and our daughter. So I did. I cared for him and I loved him. In December, he got a promotion, which meant more hours. I gave birth to our daughter in March. I went through a phase where I felt horrible, fat, ugly, and it was just me and my baby at home. He barely talked to me, always said he was tired, and that I wouldn't understand what he had to say. If it wasn't for my mom staying on video calls with me, I think I would have felt completely abandoned. I've been suggesting couples therapy since June, and he kept saying everything was fine. Now I feel like I'm nothing more than a mother. I used to read, study, be interesting. I wasn't intimately frustrated or insecure back then. I used to have conversations about politics, music, books, art. I decorate our house myself with my own savings, and it's everything I ever dreamed of. I love my house. The colors, the furniture, my kitchen. It took me years to make it exactly how I wanted. I have the garden I always dreamed of, a vegetable patch I adore, and a hanging chair where I love to sit with my baby. Last week, he came home later than usual, and I was happy to see him. I was in the living room playing with our daughters. He asked the older one to go to her room. He seemed like he had been drinking and then said, "I love you so much, but I don't want to be with you anymore." He told me I wasn't the person he fell in love with anymore. Then he said he was in love with a girl from work, that she was everything he'd ever dreamed of, and that he needed to give himself the chance to live that love without guilt. Yes, he cheated on me with a 22-year-old. When I finally managed to speak, the only thing that came out was, "But what about my home decor?" At some point, I picked up my baby and started shouting things like, "I put time into this house. I did everything it needed. This house is mine." We argued because apparently I didn't value his suffering enough. I don't know why I kept talking about the house. I guess I'm disposable. I'm 34, with a 4-month baby and a 4-year-old daughter. I don't have a job. I'm going to lose my dream home. I feel ugly, fat, and he's told me he's not attracted to me anymore because I gained too much weight during my last pregnancy. Edit, I'm going to talk with his mom and brother about the divorce today. I'm starting with them because they're close to me, and his brother went through a divorce over infidelity early last year. Also, his mom is very attached to me for obvious reasons. I was there for her during the worst part of her life, and his brother and I are also very close. I also texted my mom, and she's coming here to stay with me and the girls. I hope she gets the visa to visit, and my dad, who's American, will be coming to my state in 2 weeks. Edit 2, I talked to his brother about the affair and him leaving. He told me to find a lawyer, the same thing you all said. Now we're talking to a few lawyers today. I accepted the help because I have the girls with me, so it's hard to do everything alone. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I'm so sorry this happened to you. If you want the house, you'll need to fight for it in the divorce. If your husband was even a little bit decent, he should leave it to you and your daughters so that the kids aren't uprooted. That's the least he can do for you if he wants to go build another life he'll regret. You're going to need resolve and a plan, get evidence of his cheating and start building your case. Ops response, I'm looking online for lawyers, but I don't know what I'm looking for. Commenter 2, family law attorney in your area. Why should you move? In the US? You don't work and he does? You are primary caregiver to kids? Did someone tell him that being intimate with a 22-year-old was free? That was the most expensive thing he ever did. Ops response, I don't want to move. I've been living in the US for 16 years, but I'm from South America. Honestly, I'm scared, even though I'm here legally. Commenter 3, yeah, so you wouldn't miss him? But just the house? Ops response, I'm going to miss him so much. I love him and I gave so much of myself to him. I can't even describe to you how much it hurts to take a hit like this. It hurts so much that I don't even think about how much I'll miss him. I think about how I dedicated so much time to all of this. He wanted a second daughter and she's here at 4 months old while he's sleeping with a new girl. I'm in pain and I'm angry, so angry. Commenter 4, I think that your first reaction being about your home decor tells you everything that you need to know. Your relationship with him was ended, and now you can move on to better things. He doesn't deserve you or the lovely home you created. Commenter 5, leaving up with a 4-month-old is pretty awful behavior. But her response indicates to me that there wasn't a lot of space for him in the relationship. She referred to it as her house, her decor, her vegetable garden. My marriage broke down for similar reasons, although I didn't leave for my secretary. It was pretty clear to me that my wife considered her role to be looking after the house and the kids, and my role was to pay for everything. Ops response, he didn't want to get involved in anything related to the house. Neither taking care of it, nor maintaining it, nor giving opinions, everything was whatever. Commenter 6. So basically, you put him on a pedestal and made him your god and served him, neglecting yourself and everything that made you who you are. Now you are crying about the house and how unfair of him to do this to you? Wasn't unfair of you to abandon yourself for that man? If you abandoned you, why would he stick with you? And it is a waste of time giving advice here. You'll take him back in a second if he said sorry, I made a mistake. You really will stay with him and fight for him until the end. When you should only focus on you, not him. So do you want us to say how evil he is doing this to a perfect person like you? Oh, but yeah, do couple therapy, can't lose that house. Ops response, I neglected myself in many ways, really. Along the way, I may have changed, but everything I did came from the bottom of my heart. I took care of his mother because I cared about her. I hadn't cared for my daughters because I wanted to be a mother and it made sense for me to care for our children, and I took care of him because I like taking care of the people I love. But I had never even thought about how much I neglected myself until now because I accepted so many things since I loved him and was busy with all of that. To be really honest, I didn't even want to have my youngest daughter, he was the one who insisted. I hope one day I can be as strong-willed as you, and I hope you never go through this, because unfortunately it's very easy to lose yourself in motherhood and in the role of wife, and I got lost. And no, I do not intend to get back with my husband, I'm afraid of losing my home and my daughters. Commenter 7, it's definitely a raw deal. Even though we're only getting one side of the story, it shouldn't end like this. Best of luck to you and your daughters. It speaks to your character that his own family is on your side. Appreciate that fact and let it give you comfort in who you are. Ops response, I have been friends with his brother for a long time, and he went through a difficult divorce, that's why he is with me. I decided not to tell the rest of his family yet until we have a lawyer. Apparently, he hasn't told anyone either. Update, 1 week later. My husband is leaving me for a younger woman, and all I can think about is the house decor. Hi, I'm writing cause I feel pathetic, tired, I just want to skip to when this phase of my life is over. A brief summary of what happened this week, and I can't believe I love this man. My brother-in-law is staying at my house until my family arrives, and my best friend visits me every day. On Monday, my brother-in-law asked my ex to leave the house, and strangely, he actually listened to his brother. Since then, he's only been tormenting me through messages. He wants an amicable divorce and keeps making proposals that only benefit him. I've been trying to stick to a routine, because I have 2 children and they need stability, and apparently, I'm the only one willing to provide that. Yesterday he texted me saying he wanted to see the kids, and I agreed. He showed up after they were already asleep, I swore he wasn't going to come. He arrived here at 11 p.m. with a document, wanting to talk about how he'd like to keep the house and pay me an additional amount for my share. I just stared at him without saying anything. I asked him to leave because the kids were sleeping. My brother-in-law added that it wasn't the right time or place to discuss this and asked him to leave. I don't know what happened to him, but this doesn't seem like the man I married. He yelled at my brother-in-law, saying he was betraying him, that he wanted to play house because his own marriage didn't work out. Then he yelled at me, calling me a lazy woman who wasn't going to take his money. He said this house was his, and that his 22-year-old girlfriend, Anne, told him I was going to try to keep the house he bought. We didn't respond, I just said he should leave because he was getting messy, and then he left. I don't know why he wants the house when he can afford to buy another one. And I don't understand how the person I married could try to trick me just to come out ahead in the divorce. I kept asking myself if this is the man I married, he wants me gone, he wants the kids gone. He didn't ask about the girls, about his own daughters. He didn't see them or even ask to give them a goodnight kiss. To him and to Anne, we're just an obstacle. Nothing more. I'm not even a person. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, the 22-year-old wants the house. Ops response, for sure, but she won't even come close. What makes me angriest is that it took me so long to get the house to look the way it does today. And now some girl comes along, and he just assumes I'm going to give my house to them? Commenter 2, did he buy the house before you were married, or did you both buy it after you were married? If he came into the marriage with the house, there isn't much you can do and he will likely get the house. If not, then you will probably get the house in the divorce as that is the home of the kids. I would suggest keeping all communications in text so that you have evidence of what he said. Keep a notebook as well to make notes of anything he does or say or doesn't do regarding the kids. If he says he will visit but doesn't, make a note of it. This will help you in child custody. Ops response, I paid part of the down payment, he pays the mortgage, but I've invested around 15% of the value in renovations and decoration. Commenter 3, I'm so proud of you for standing your ground and protecting yourself and the kids. I think brother-in-law has always known who his brother is, a selfish jerk, and is helping you and the kids because he knows how his brother can be. Brother-in-law sounds like a decent guy and I am so glad you have someone in your corner as you wait for reinforcements. At least you have your 2 babies and won't have to worry about custody. Please get therapy when and if you can so you have someone to process this with. Ops response: honestly, he and my best friend are the best. After 4 months, I finally have time to rest and get help with my baby. Do you know how good it feels to take a 40 or 50-minute shower just to relax? I had been alone for so long that I thought it was normal to do everything by myself. Commenter 4: so basically, you quit your job to care for his mom, and didn't get another job to raise yours and his children, so you had to rely on him for income, and now this jerk who you gave up everything for his and his family wants to basically leave you nothing and doesn't even give a care about his kids? Bad. I hope someone will give you the money for a good divorce lawyer. What a jerk. Ops response: my dad is going to pay for my lawyer, my mom is also supporting me financially, and my brother-in-law has also offered to cover expenses if necessary. What happened to Ops' brother-in-law's marriage? Ops response: the ex cheated and got pregnant. He had to rush through the divorce so he wouldn't be listed on the child's birth certificate. They were together since high school.